food normally, I am now full of curiosity and desire to challenge this legendary spicy taste. Finally, unable to suppress the urge in her heart, Li Menjiao carefully stretched out her chopsticks and picked up a piece of tender and juicy beef from the spicy hot pot. At this moment, Lin Sissy saw her actions and quickly reminded her, "Sister-in-law, do you really want to eat it? This is very spicy." Wang Xining also said, "Yes, sister-in-law, I was worried that you wouldn't be able to handle it the first time you ate it, so I specially ordered a shabu-shabu pot." "It's okay, I just want to try it," Li Menjiao said with a smile. The more they said it was spicy, the more curious they became, and the more they wanted to try it. So Li Menjiao blew it gently with her little mouth, and then put it into her mouth. She chewed it carefully for a few times, and then swallowed it without hesitation. It's not that spicy." Li Menjiao spoke with a relaxed look on her face, but just as she finished her words, suddenly, a surging burning sensation rose up from her stomach like a volcanic eruption and swept through her entire mouth and throat at lightning speed. At this moment, she felt as if a ball of blazing flame was raging on the tip of her tongue, and her originally fair and tender face instantly turned red. Wow, so spicy! Li Menjiao no longer cared about her image. She opened her mouth, gasped for breath, and waved her hands in the air. "Sister-in-law, come on, drink some yogurt to relieve the spiciness." Wang Xining quickly took a few bottles of cold yogurt and handed them to Li Menjiao. The latter picked up the yogurt and gulped it down, and it was gone in no time. Then it was one bottle after another. It took her a long time to come back to her senses. At this time, Li Menjiao's lips were swollen. "Sister-in-law, you'd better not eat it. If my brother knew that you were so spicy, he would fight me to death." Lin Sissy looked at Li Menjiao with concern, and while persuading her softly, she used a tissue to wipe the beads of sweat from her forehead. "What a very stimulating taste. I want to eat more." Li Menjiao showed an excited expression. Wang Xining and Lin Sissy looked at each other in confusion, with big question marks appearing above their heads. At this time, Lin Xuan was sitting on a small stool in an old noodle restaurant in Sichuan City on the street, eating delicious dandan noodles. The sound of slurping noodles made me feel extremely comfortable. After eating and drinking, Lin Xuan came to a nearby park and strolled leisurely. As he walked, he came to a spacious and lively square. The square was crowded with people, very lively. A group of energetic middle-aged women were dancing to the cheerful rhythm of music, performing an energetic square dance. Over there, a few innocent children were laughing and playing, and their laughter like silver bells came one after another. And a group of young people gathered together to sing. Lin Xuan walked over curiously and saw a handsome boy sitting in the middle, holding a guitar in his hands and singing a song affectionately. "Well, you play it well." Lin Xuan clasped his hands in front of his chest and admired quietly. "Speaking of which, I haven't sung for my wife for a long time. I'll find a chance later." After listening to the song, Lin Xuan continued to stroll in the park, and soon he walked to a basketball court. Looking up, I saw that everyone on the court was full of energy. The basketball drew beautiful arcs in the air as they passed the ball back and forth. The fierce confrontation and wonderful goals constantly aroused cheers and encouragement from the audience. This made Lin Xuan very envious. Although he had excellent academic performance and performed well in other sports, he was not good at basketball and was completely a rookie. He shook his head helplessly and prepared to leave. At this moment, the clear voice of the system came again. "Ding dong, the host's strong will is detected. A temporary top basketball master skill is awarded. The deadline is 1 hour. Please check." Chapter 357, Basketball Duel. As the prompt sounded, it was as if an invisible torrent instantly broke through the dam in Lin Xuan's mind. Countless professional knowledge, exquisite techniques, and gorgeous moves about top basketball surged in like a tide and poured into his brain. "System, I didn't say I wanted to play basketball," Lin Xuan said speechlessly. "You thought about it right away." The system responded indifferently. Immediately, Lin Xuan was a little confused. Suddenly, a basketball flew straight towards his head at an extremely fast speed like a cannonball. Lin Xuan almost subconsciously stretched out a hand, grabbed the high-speed flying basketball with incredible precision, and lifted it high in the air with ease. "Isn't this Lin Xuan?" At this time, a man wearing a white headscarf and sports jersey slowly walked towards him. "Oh, isn't this a follower?" Lin Xuan raised the corners of his mouth slightly and laughed softly. Hearing this, Deng Junyi immediately flew into a rage. His face flushed with anger, and he shouted angrily, "You are the follower. Your whole family is a follower." Seeing this, Lin Xuan still had that faint smile on his face and continued to tease. "I told you that you were just a follower. Look how anxious you are. Is it necessary to be so excited? Deng Junyi was about to explode with anger at this time, but he still suppressed his anger and said with gritted teeth, "Am I excited? Humph, I don't want to bother with someone like you. Boy, if you have the guts, challenge me in a one-on-one fight." As he spoke, he pointed at the basketball, his eyes full of contempt and disdain. As soon as he finished speaking, Deng Junyi turned around and gave a wink to his younger brother behind him. The young man immediately understood what he meant, quickly took out his mobile phone from his pocket, and turned on the video recording function. Deng Junyi investigated Lin Xuan and knew that he had never played basketball, so he deliberately challenged him. As long as he can beat Lin Xuan badly in this duel and post the video to the university group, the school belle Li Menjiao might regret being with him. Even if Lin Xuan refused to accept the challenge, with this video of him backing down, people in the university group could still make a big fuss about it and laugh at and ridicule him to their heart's content. When he thought of these wonderful scenes, Deng Junyi couldn't help but laugh secretly by himself. "Okay, come on," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Deng Junyi was a little surprised. Could it be that Lin Xuan could play basketball? However, in a flash, Deng Junyi came back to his senses, his lips slightly raised, revealing a disdainful smile. "Humph, even if I can fight a little bit, so what? I was the main player in the school team back then, and a mere Lin Xuan could still beat him up." Thinking of this, Deng Junyi instantly regained his confidence and said loudly, "Okay, let's clarify the rules first. Whoever scores 10 goals first will win." "No problem," Lin Xuan nodded calmly and replied. Then the two of them walked towards the basketball court together. At this time, a lot of people had gathered around the court, including a few girls who had come all the way to watch Deng Junyi play. One of the girls was seen waving her towel excitedly and yelling at the top of her lungs, "Junyi, come on." Hearing the shout, Deng Junyi turned his head triumphantly and gave the girl a smile that he thought was extremely handsome. "Don't say I'm bullying you. Let you kick the ball first." As he said that, Deng Junyi casually threw the basketball towards Lin Xuan. "Then I'll be welcome." Lin Xuan caught the flying basketball steadily, without any hesitation, and immediately got into shooting posture at lightning speed. Just when everyone was still unable to see his movements clearly, they heard a swish sound, and the basketball went directly into the net. In an instant, the whole place was silent. Even Deng Junyi didn't have time to react, and the ball went in. Curry-style three-pointer. 1-0, Lin Xuan said lightly. "You're really lucky you actually managed to fool one of them. But from now on, I'm going to get serious." Deng Junyi gritted his teeth and stretched out his hands as he spoke, pressing tightly against Lin Xuan, trying to disrupt his attack. Just when everyone thought that Lin Xuan could not easily break through the defense line, he suddenly flashed and moved as quickly as a cheetah, and the basketball in his hand seemed to become one with him. With just a simple and crisp accelerated dribbling move, he easily left his opponent behind. The speed and ball-handling skills that burst out in that instant were jaw-dropping. In the blink of an eye, Lin Xuan had successfully broken through to the basket and made a layup with an extremely elegant and relaxed posture. Paul-style breakthrough, 2-0, Lin Xuan still said calmly. "What's going on? Doesn't this kid know how to play basketball?" Deng Junyi's face was full of shock. "No, we have to increase our intensity. We can't let him score so easily." Deng Junyi immediately adjusted his state, concentrating on assuming the best defensive posture, staring at Lin Xuan closely, not daring to slack off in the slightest. When Lin Xuan saw it, he smiled slightly. He first dribbled the ball between his legs skillfully, making it look like he was going to break through by force. Deng Junyi fell into the trap as expected and hurriedly followed suit to try to block it. But at this moment, Lin Xuan suddenly stopped and pulled back. His movements were clean and neat without any sense of drag. Before Deng Junyi could react, Lin Xuan immediately took a step back and made a three-point shot. The whole movement is done in one go, as natural and smooth as flowing water. There was a crisp swish sound, and the basketball went into the net again. Harden steps back for a three-pointer. 3-0, Lin Xuan said with a smile. In the next round, Lin Xuan directly chose to back-attack Deng Junyi. Deng Junyi was pushed back repeatedly by Lin Xuan's powerful strength. He wanted to reach out to grab the ball, but was ruthlessly interrupted. Immediately afterwards, Lin Xuan turned around and made a fadeaway jump shot, which went into the net again. Kobe Bryant's turnaround jump shot. "It's 4-0. Lin Xuan shook his head slightly and said. Deng Junyi gritted his teeth in anger, but there was nothing he could do. Chapter 358 finally comes in handy. Lin Xuan dribbled the ball between his legs and behind his back continuously, and after a few fake moves, Deng Junyi was knocked to the ground. The latter completed the shot easily. The basketball drew a beautiful arc and fell into the basket accurately. 9-0. Lin Xuan smiled and looked calmly at Deng Junyi, who was lying on the ground. Another beautiful goal. At this time, many people had gathered around the playground, and they were all deeply impressed by Lin Xuan's top basketball skills. The few girls who had been cheering for Deng Junyi also became silent at this moment. "You're worse than I thought. I'll give you one chance. You serve the ball, make the most of it." As Lin Xuan spoke, he threw the basketball directly to Deng Junyi, his eyes full of confidence and provocation. "Don't be happy too soon." Deng Junyi picked up the basketball, bent down slightly, put his legs in a horse stance, leaned his body forward, and made a posture as if he was ready to launch a fierce attack at any time. Lin Xuan stood in front of him lazily. Deng Junyi accelerated forward, quickly bypassed Lin Xuan, and then ran straight to the basket, ready to make his proudest dunk. However, just as he jumped high and was about to slam the ball into the basket, Lin Xuan, who seemed to be defenseless, suddenly appeared behind Deng Junyi like a ghost. He jumped high, stretched out his long arms, and blocked the basketball in Deng Junyi's hand. The basketball fell to the ground, and Deng Junyi looked at Lin Xuan in disbelief. At the same time, the audience was also shocked by this sudden and wonderful block, and they exclaimed and praised it one after another. "Nice hat. I gave you the chance, but you couldn't make use of it," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Then he picked up the basketball that had fallen to the side and leisurely retreated to the three-point line. At this moment, Deng Junyi seemed to have not yet recovered from the shock and was still standing there. Lin Xuan dribbled the basketball and rushed towards the basket. "Don't you dare succeed again." Just when Lin Xuan was about to rush to the basket, Deng Junyi finally woke up from his dream. He roared and jumped up with all his strength, trying to block Lin Xuan's shot. There was a loud bang, and Lin Xuan grabbed the basket with one hand, his whole body hanging in the air, and the basketball fell heavily to the ground. Lin Xuan completed the dunk on Deng Junyi and slammed Deng Junyi to the ground. Deng Junyi was in such a miserable state at the moment that he could only lie on the cold ground, looking up with disbelief at the man in front of him who looked like a descending god of war. In an instant, the entire basketball court was drowned out by the audience's thunderous cheers. "Good shot." These two words exploded in the air like thunder. "Who is this person, so powerful?" The last move is so much like James' slam dunk. At this moment, Lin Xuan seemed extremely calm and composed. He looked at Deng Junyi, who was still on the ground, and said with a smile, "Follower, what can you compare with me? You are too weak." After saying that, he turned and left, leaving behind a very free and easy back. Deng Junyi clenched his fists and slammed them heavily on the floor, his eyes full of anger. Then he quickly got up from the ground and staggered towards a corner on the side of the court. Reaching the corner, Deng Junyi hurriedly took out his cell phone and dialed a number. "Hey, hurry up and call a few brothers over here. I want you to help me teach this guy a lesson. After you succeed, you will be rewarded handsomely." After saying that, he hung up the phone, his eyes fixed on the direction where Lin Xuan left, with raging anger burning in his eyes. Lin Xuan didn't even break a sweat after the one-on-one basketball game. The top basketball master skills rewarded by the system are awesome. Even the skills of many top NBA players can be displayed easily. Simply awesome. At this time, Lin Xuan was strolling in the park leisurely with his hands resting leisurely on his back, taking brisk steps. As he walked, Lin Xuan keenly noticed that several people were following him from behind. He stopped and glanced back quickly. Sure enough, there were a few furtive figures wandering around not far away, pretending nothing had happened. Tusk poor acting. Then play with them some more. The top fighting master, previously rewarded by the system, can finally come in handy. Then Lin Xuan deliberately changed direction, left the park, which was a crowded place, and walked towards a quiet and narrow alley. Soon he came to a dead end and stopped. He slowly stopped and stood there quietly. Not long after, a light sound of footsteps came from afar, and then 5 men with hideous faces appeared behind him. "Ha ha ha, Lin Xuan, you are courting death." Deng Junyi laughed wildly with a smug smile on his face. "There is no surveillance here, which makes it convenient for us to take action." The man in the lead showed an evil smile. "I told you that you're a follower, but you still don't admit it. Why do you like following others so much?" Lin Xuan turned around slowly, his handsome face still with his signature smile. "Just keep talking tough, Brother Dao. Kill him for me. I'll give you 10,000 yuan each." Deng Junyi was angered by Lin Xuan's words. He pointed at Lin Xuan viciously and gave orders to Brother Dao, who was leading the group. "Brothers, come on." Brother Dao shouted loudly immediately after receiving the order. Then the three younger brothers behind him rushed forward. One of them ran very fast, seeming eager to show himself in front of the boss, wanting to be the first to rush to Lin Xuan and gain the first merit. Lin Xuan smiled slightly, then gave him a powerful roundhouse kick, knocking him to the ground in an instant. When the other three saw this, they were stunned at first. They obviously didn't expect Lin Xuan to be so powerful. "What are you afraid of? He's alone, beat him up," Brother Dao roared. The three thugs gritted their teeth, mustered up their courage, and rushed towards Lin Xuan again. Lin Xuan's eyes focused. He took a step forward, and then with a roundhouse kick, he kicked the thug in front away. Then he blocked a gangster's horizontal punch with his left hand, and threw a swift straight punch with his right hand, hitting the opponent's abdomen. The gangster bent over in pain. Then another gangster rushed over from the side. Lin Xuan turned around quickly and made a beautiful spinning elbow. His hard elbow hit the opponent's nose hard, and blood splattered everywhere. At this moment, Brother Dao seized the opportunity and tried to attack from behind. Lin Xuan reacted extremely quickly. He bent down, grabbed the opponent's arms with both hands, and threw him over his shoulder heavily to the ground. In the end, Deng Junyi was the only one left standing alone at the scene, trembling uncontrollably. Lin Xuan slowly turned around, and swept his eyes at him with a cold knife-like gaze. Deng Junyi was so scared that he ran away. Lin Xuan kicked his legs, grabbed his wrist and twisted it hard, causing Deng Junyi to scream in pain. "Brother Xuan, I was wrong. I was just joking just now. Please forgive me." "Oh, really?" Lin Xuan laughed and then increased the strength in his hands. "Ah, Lin Xuan, this is a society ruled by law. You can't do anything to me," Deng Junyi screamed. "When you were instigating them to attack me just now, why didn't you mention anything about a society ruled by law?" Lin Xuan chuckled. "Lin Xuan, please listen to my explanation." Before Deng Junyi could continue speaking, Lin Xuan didn't want to waste any more time talking to him. He grabbed his arm tightly, lifted it up high, and then threw it over his shoulder in a cool and neat manner. Then bursts of striking sounds were heard in the alley. Chapter 359, My Husband Tricked Me Again. Around 10 o'clock in the evening, the moonlight sprinkled on the earth like water, and a cool Porsche stopped in front of the magnificent gate of Kuitingju. The car door slowly opened, and two young and beautiful women got out of the car lightly. They were Li Menjiao and Lin Sissy. "Sister Zinning, let's play together again tomorrow." Lin Sissy's face was full of excitement. "Okay, go back and have a rest. Especially you, sister-in-law. Zaya Oxuan has sent you several messages in a row urging you to go home early." Wang Zinning smiled and teased, her eyes full of kindness and warmth. Hearing this, Li Menjiao's pretty face blushed slightly, as tempting and cute as a ripe apple. "I know, I'll go back now." Then Wang Zinning started the car and left. Li Menjiao and Lin Sissy returned to Kuitingju Villa together. Walking into the villa, Lin Zhengguo was the only one left in the spacious and bright living room, sitting on the sofa, watching TV intently. The intense football game playing on the screen was entering a crucial moment. Lin Zhengguo watched it intently, with great interest. "Dad, we're back," Lin Sissy shouted happily. "Well, I'm glad you're back." Lin Zhengguo turned around and replied. At this time, Li Menjiao asked, "Dad, have the children gone to bed yet?" "I just fell asleep not long ago," Lin Zhengguo responded while watching the exciting game. Knowing that the children had fallen asleep peacefully, Li Menjiao nodded with relief, then walked up the stairs quietly and went straight to the master bedroom on the second floor. When he opened the door, he saw Lin Xuan lying lazily on the bed. When he saw his wife coming back, he immediately sat up from the bed with energy and opened his arms, like a bird welcoming a returning bird. "Honey, I'm back." Li Menjiao threw herself into Lin Xuan's arms like a gust of wind, and the two hugged each other tightly, feeling each other's warmth and heartbeat. "Are you having fun?" Lin Xuan looked at the person in his arms with a face full of doting, and reached out to gently stroke Li Menjiao's silky and soft hair. Then he couldn't help but put his face close to her pink cheek and kissed her several times. "Yeah, I'm very happy, super happy. Sister Zin Ning is not only very nice but also very funny and humorous." Li Menjiao, like a well-behaved kitten, kept rubbing against Lin Xuan's warm embrace and answered in a soft and sweet voice. "What are you holding in your hand?" Lin Xuan asked with a smile when he saw the shopping bag that Li Menjiao threw on the ground when she came in. "Oh, by the way, honey, let me show you something good." Li Menjiao gently broke free from Lin Xuan's arms, then squatted down, picked up the shopping bag and slowly opened it. Inside were the panda couple costumes that I bought at the mall. "Ding, ding, ding, Tilda, how is it? Isn't it beautiful?" Li Menjiao happily held up the clothes high, gesturing to herself and showing them to Lin Xuan excitedly. "It looks good," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Then let's put on this beautiful outfit and go to the panda base to see those cute giant pandas tomorrow, okay? Li Menjiao blinked her big watery eyes, looked at Lin Xuan with anticipation, a happy smile on her lips. Of course, Lin Xuan nodded without hesitation. However, at this moment, Lin Xuan suddenly found that there seemed to be something wrong with Li Menjiao's lips. After looking carefully, he found that her lips were slightly red and swollen. He couldn't help but feel nervous and said quickly, "Wife, come over here and let me take a good look." What's wrong?" Li Menjiao moved closer to Lin Xuan, pressed herself against him softly, tilted her head slightly, and looked at him with a sweet smile on her lips. On her fair and soft cheeks, two shallow dimples appeared quietly, like the twinkling stars in the night sky, adding a bit of cuteness and charm. "Why are your lips swollen?" Lin Xuan looked at Li Menjiao's red lips carefully from a close distance, touched them with his hand, and asked, "I ate it with spicy hot pot. It still smells good, husband, smell it." Li Menjiao answered with a smile, then opened her little mouth mischievously and gently exhaled a few breaths of hot air towards Lin Xuan. Suddenly, a strong aroma of spicy hot pot rushed straight to Lin Xuan's forehead. But Lin Xuan shook his head and said with a smile, "No, let me smell it again." Li Menjiao couldn't help but pout and mutter, "You didn't even smell it. Honey, your nose isn't working." As she spoke, she moved her face closer, opened her cherry-like mouth wide again, and exhaled forcefully. At this moment, Lin Xuan suddenly let out a low, sly laugh. He quickly leaned down, and without any warning, he lowered his head and kissed Li Menjiao's mouth that was about to exhale. Li Menjiao, my husband tricked me again. After the two of them stayed together for a while, Li Menjiao gently broke away from Lin Xuan's arms, stood up, picked up the pink pajamas beside her, and walked towards the bathroom with light steps. After a while, the sound of running water came from the bathroom. After taking a shower, she saw the clothes Lin Xuan had taken off after taking a shower. So Li Menjiao bent down, reached out to pick up the clothes one by one, then walked to the washing machine, opened the lid, and started stuffing the clothes in. However, just when she was halfway through stuffing it in, she suddenly noticed that there seemed to be something strange about Lin Xuan's shirt. Looking closely, I saw that there were actually several small red dots on it, and they were not evenly distributed. Li Menjiao picked out the shirt, held it in front of her and examined it carefully, and was immediately shocked. "It's blood. Husband." Li Menjiao's face turned pale. She didn't even bother to put on her slippers. She ran out of the bathroom barefoot, shouting Lin Xuan's name as she ran. "What's wrong, baby?" Lin Xuan was half lying lazily on the big bed, holding a mobile phone in his hand, playing games intently. Hearing Li Menjiao's terrified cry, he was startled and quickly sat up straight, looking towards the bathroom door with a puzzled look. "Why are there blood stains on your clothes?" Li Menjiao ran to the bed panting, raised the shirt in her hand, and asked in a trembling voice, "It's broken. I forgot to wash it and my wife found it. I originally wanted to not make my wife worry, but now I have to tell the truth. Now that things have come to this, it seems that the only thing left is to confess." So Lin Xuan told Li Menjiao what happened in the evening truthfully. At the same time, in a hospital in Sichuan City, the atmosphere seemed a little tense and awkward. I saw 5 big men sitting quietly on a bench outside the emergency room. They were lined up in a row, each with an IV bottle and a bandage on his hand. At this time, a doctor from the emergency room came out, looked at the group of people in front of him, and asked in confusion, "What happened to you?" "Fighting." No, a few of us brothers were eating out and were vying to pay the bill, and then I don't know how we started fighting," Deng Junyi said with difficulty. At this time, his face was bruised and swollen, like a pig's head, and the other 4 were wailing beside him. After listening to Deng Junyi's explanation, the doctor shook his head helplessly and said, "I'm really impressed by you, but fortunately you didn't use too much force and consciously avoided the vital parts. But you must be careful next time, and don't make a scene like this over such a small matter again." After saying that, the doctor turned and left. "What a sin," Deng Junyi wailed. Chapter 360 Couple Photos. After hearing the whole story, Li Menjiao stood there in a daze. 5 people beat up my husband." She quickly threw her clothes on the ground, then climbed onto the bed, stretched out her fair and tender little hands, and began to grope Lin Xuan's body randomly. "Wife, I'm not hurt, nothing happened, ha, don't touch me," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Li Menjiao ignored him and continued to touch him nervously, asking anxiously, "Are you really not hurt? Don't lie to me." Her eyes were fixed on Lin Xuan, full of concern and worry. Lin Xuan felt a warm current in his heart. He gently held Li Menjiao's hand and said softly, "It's really okay, dear. Look, I'm fine. How could those little hooligans hurt me, your husband? Even though Lin Xuan acted so relaxed and confident, Li Menjiao still couldn't completely let go of her worry. She frowned and said worriedly, "But this time there are 5. What if it becomes 10 or 20 next time?" Thinking of this, her heart couldn't help but tighten. Lin Xuan smiled and comforted her. "Don't worry, baby. Even if more people come, your husband can still beat them to a pulp." "No," Li Menjiao shook her head vigorously and continued. "Hubby, please don't confront me head-on next time, okay? If you encounter this kind of situation in the future, you can either call the police directly for help or notify me immediately, and I will bring the police to rescue you." Although she knew that her husband was very skilled and strong, she didn't want to let him take any risks, not at all. "Okay, I'll listen to my wife," Lin Xuan said lovingly. Then he leaned over slightly, gently kissed Li Menjiao's smooth forehead, and then held her tightly in his strong arms. Although he possesses the ability of a top-level fighting master granted by the system, if he really encounters a dozen vicious people who come to besiege him next time, it will probably not be easy to escape unscathed and safely. The sunlight filtered through the thin clouds and fell onto the earth. Time passed quietly to the next morning, and the morning light of October 3rd sprinkled on every corner of the city. After enjoying breakfast, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao began to dress up carefully. They helped each other and put on a set of extremely cute panda couple costumes. When the two stood side by side in front of the mirror, they couldn't help but be intoxicated by each other's appearance. Li Menjiao was seen wearing a light green ancient costume. Her face was extremely beautiful, fresh and refined, like a little princess from the fairyland. Her skin is as white as snow, and her eyes and eyebrows reveal agility and gentleness. Lin Xuan was equally handsome, with a tall and straight figure and a heroic temperament, as if he was a handsome young man who had descended into the world. "Let's go," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Then the two of them went to the garage together and got into the BYD Han. "Won't Sissy go with us?" Li Menjiao suddenly thought of it. Lin Xuan chuckled and replied, "Haha, she said she didn't want to eat the dog food we spread, so she didn't go." "Oh, okay then," Li Menjiao said with a smile. After a while, the two arrived at the panda base in Chuan City. Lin Xuan held Li Menjiao's little hand and walked in together. Because of their unique and stunning ancient costume styles, they immediately attracted the attention of many passers-by as soon as they appeared. "Wow, it's so beautiful!" Exclamations came from the crowd from time to time. "They must have traveled through time from ancient times. They are so beautiful," someone shouted excitedly. "Amazing looks, a fabulous couple." Words of praise are heard one after another. Faced with the envious eyes and enthusiastic praise from the people around them, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao smiled at each other, their hearts filled with happiness and sweetness. Lin Xuan took Li Menjiao to the panda viewing area. "Look, honey, what a cute panda." Li Menjiao was as excited as a child. She stretched out her little hand and pointed at a cute little panda approaching the glass. The little guy sat on the ground obediently, chewing the tender and juicy bamboo in his hand with relish. "Well, this should be a red panda," Lin Xuan responded gently. Suddenly, a huge giant panda popped out from under the glass. Its round body was pressed against the glass, and its big, shiny black eyes stared at Li Menjiao curiously. Li Menjiao was startled and quickly threw herself into Lin Xuan's warm and solid arms, then turned around and continued to observe the naughty giant panda in front of her. At this moment, a voice suddenly came from behind them. "Sorry to bother you." Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao turned their heads at the same time when they heard the voice, and what they saw was a middle-aged man with an amiable face. He had a professional camera hanging around his neck and looked energetic. "Hello, is there anything I can help you with?" Lin Xuan asked politely. The uncle smiled slightly, revealing a row of neat white teeth, and said, "It's like this, I'm a photographer at this panda base. I just happened to see you too and thought you had outstanding temperaments, and you were wearing such unique panda-themed ancient costumes, so I took the liberty to ask if I could take a set of portraits for you. Don't worry, it's completely free." After saying that, the uncle looked at Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao with anticipation. "No money, you want to use our photos for publicity, right?" Lin Xuan saw through it. "Ha ha ha, yes, of course, if you don't want to, then forget it." The amiable uncle still had a smile on his face, and his tone was very kind. "Wife, do you want to take a picture?" Lin Xuan turned his head and asked gently. Li Menjiao nodded slightly, then opened her red lips and replied, "Sure." Then she quietly stood on tiptoe, leaned close to Lin Xuan's ear, and said in a low voice, "Honey, do you know, taking a set of photos here costs hundreds of dollars. We've made a profit this time." After hearing this, Lin Xuan burst into laughter. "My wife is really good at managing the household frugally." Chapter 361. Go to the night market to eat delicious food. In this way, the couple happily began to take panda couple photos. The first scene that catches your eye is a quiet and beautiful bamboo forest, with the bamboo leaves rustling in the breeze. Li Menjiao hugged Lin Xuan tightly like a cute koala. They both stared at the camera with happy smiles on their faces. Then the scene switched to another heartwarming moment. Li Menjiao was looking at Lin Xuan lovingly. She tilted her head slightly and gently pinched Lin Xuan's cheek with her small hands. Lin Xuan let his wife do whatever she wanted with a doting look on his face. There was a smile on his lips, and his eyes were full of love and indulgence for his wife. There was also Li Menjiao, who was holding a huge panda doll in her arms, sitting leisurely on a stone pier in the bamboo forest. She looked up at Lin Xuan mischievously, with playfulness and agility flashing in her eyes. At noon, on the soft, big bed in the master bedroom of Qiuting Pavilion, Li Menjiao snuggled tenderly in Lin Xuan's warm and broad arms. She tilted her head slightly, and while leaning against her husband's kiss, she was flipping through the couple photos that had just been taken on her mobile phone with relish. That uncle has pretty good photography skills, Lin Xuan commented softly with a faint smile on his face. Well, which one do you like better, husband? Li Menjiao looked at Lin Xuan expectantly and asked softly. I like them all. My wife looks so beautiful and charming in every photo. Lin Xuan replied with a smile. HMPH, you just know how to be perfunctory. Li Menjiao pouted and said lightly in anger. Wife, what do you want to play this afternoon? Lin Xuan asked lovingly, leaning against Li Menjiao's soft face. Sleep in at home in the afternoon and accompany the baby Tilda. Li Menjiao tilted her head and thought for a while, then said in a soft voice. What about at night? Lin Xuan continued to ask. Tonight, let's go to the night market. I heard from Sister Xin Ning that there are a lot of delicious food there. Li Menjiao put down the phone in her hand, hugged Lin Xuan's neck tightly with both hands, and gave him a quick kiss on the mouth, as if she was acting coquettishly to please him. My wife is greedy again. Lin Xuan smiled slightly. Then he put his big hand on the back of Li Menjiao's head, and their lips were pressed tightly together. In the blink of an eye, it was afternoon. The warm sunlight poured into the room through the windows, as if covering the entire Qiuting residence with a layer of golden gauze. Fly, Lin Xuan smiled, held Dabao's chubby armpits firmly with both hands, and carefully lifted her slowly over his head. Then he shook his arms gently and rhythmically. Dabao, who was held in the air, was extremely excited. She waved her two chubby little hands happily, and her clear and sweet laughter like a silver bell kept echoing in the air. Just then, Xiaobao crawled over silently from the corner. He blinked his big watery eyes, staring at his sister's happy expression curiously, his heart full of envy. After hesitating for a moment, he stretched out his pink little fingers and gently pinched Lin Xuan's thigh. Daddy, Xiaobao, do you want to be lifted up too? Okay. Lin Xuan noticed Xiaobao's little movement and smiled gently. Then he gently put Dabao, who was having a great time playing, back on the bed, turned around quickly, picked up Xiaobao and lifted him up high. Xiaobao obviously didn't expect happiness to come so suddenly, and he was a little overwhelmed for a moment, but he soon adapted to this feeling and danced with joy. A smile as bright as the warm spring sun bloomed on that cute little face. Li Menjiao held up her camera and kept pressing the shutter, frantically capturing these happy and warm moments of the children. Before I knew it, 2 hours had passed. The sun gradually set, and a colorful sunset appeared on the horizon. Li Menjiao sat at the dressing table and started to dress up. Lin Xuan handed the babies to Zhang Xiulan and asked the grandmother to help take care of them. Then he quickly changed into a set of handsome and decent clothes, and then lay leisurely on the sofa in the living room, quietly waiting for his wife to pack up and go out together. Lin Xuan is no longer surprised or accustomed to the fact that girls always spend a lot of time dressing up before going out. Okay, let's go, Tilda. Li Menjiao walked to the bed with a bright smile on her face. My wife, this outfit looks great. Lin Xuan quickly stood up, gently put his arms around Li Menjiao's slender waist, and responded with a doting smile on his lips. At this moment, Li Menjiao was wearing a khaki long trench coat. The length of the trench coat just covered the part below the hips, making her figure look even taller and slenderer. She wore a snow-white shirt underneath, with a small and delicate black bow tie at the neckline. She was wearing a black short skirt which just reached the middle of her thighs, revealing a section of her fair and smooth leg skin, which was a feast for the eyes. She wore a pair of black short boots on her feet, with heels that were neither too high nor too low, which were both comfortable and enhanced her overall temperament. At the same time, her fair skin was lightly powdered, Her beautiful eyes were dotted with fine stardust, and her plump lips were painted bright red, making her look delicate and beautiful. Sweet talk, a kiss as a reward. Li Menjiao stretched out her arms happily, hugged Lin Xuan's neck, then pouting her pink lips, gently kissed Lin Xuan's lips a few times. Lin Xuan was a little surprised. Usually he would hug his wife and kiss her, and every time she would say coquettishly, "Oh, stop kissing me, my lipstick is going to be gone. It seems that my wife is in a particularly good mood today." "Then let's go," Lin Xuan said with a smile. So the two of them walked out of the room together, and just when Lin Xuan was about to go to the garage to drive, he was grabbed by Li Menjiao. She just blinked gracefully and said softly, "Honey, can we not drive out today?" "Why?" Lin Xuan asked with a puzzled look on his face. "Let's take the subway, it's very convenient. There will be traffic jams if we drive," Li Menjiao replied with a smile. She has never taken the subway with her husband. Indeed, ever since Lin Xuan had several luxury cars, he had never taken the subway again and had been driving around every day. "Okay, I'll listen to you," Lin Xuan said lovingly. So the two gave up driving and walked hand in hand straight to the subway station at the entrance of the community. Chapter 362. The rabbit is so cute, how can you eat it? After arriving at the subway station, Li Menjiao skillfully opened her mobile phone to search for the best route. "Honey, let's take line 3 from Feiqiu Station to Yuehu Station, and then change to line 2 from Yuehu Station to Jinchi Station, where there is the famous night market in Sichuan. The homework is quite detailed." Lin Xuan took Li Menjiao's hand and walked into the subway entrance of Feiqiu Station. Soon they were in the subway car. There were not so many people in the subway at this time. As it was still early, there were not too many passengers in the subway at this moment, but the seats had already been occupied, so the two of them had no choice but to stand. With a low and powerful roar, the subway started slowly and moved forward steadily. After passing a few stations, because it was the holiday season, the number of people pouring into the subway gradually increased, and the originally spacious carriage began to become a little crowded. He opened his arms and gently held Li Menjiao's entire body in his arms. Li Menjiao's face was filled with a happy smile, and she stuck close to Lin Xuan affectionately. The sweet and loving appearance of the two of them attracted the attention of many passengers around them, who all looked at them with envy. Just like that, after about 10 minutes, the subway finally slowly entered Yuehu Station. The moment the car door opened, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao walked out of the car hand in hand. Compared with the previous stations I passed, Yuehu Station seemed particularly deserted, with only sparse crowds of people on the platform. Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao walked side by side towards the subway entrance leading to line 2. There is a long staircase on the left and a convenient elevator on the right. Li Menjiao's eyes suddenly lit up. A lovely smile bloomed on her face. She turned her head and said to Lin Xuan, "Honey, how about we have a little competition?" "Oh, what do you want to compete in?" Lin Xuan asked with a smile. Li Menjiao pointed to the stairs on the left and the elevator on the right and said happily, "You go down the stairs and I'll take the elevator. Let's see who can get downstairs faster." "Need I ask? I'm definitely faster." Lin Xuan raised the corner of his mouth slightly and said confidently. Before he finished speaking, he flashed and walked straight towards the stairs on the left. "You stinky husband, you're cheating," Li Menjiao said coquettishly, and quickly got on the elevator and started to slowly descend. At this time, Lin Xuan also deliberately slowed down his pace, closely following the rhythm of the elevator, moving down in parallel with Li Menjiao. Their eyes met, and without knowing when, their hands had quietly been held together. The warmth from their palms made people feel sweet. Just when he was about to reach the end, Lin Xuan suddenly accelerated, got down first, and then stood at the end of the elevator. Then he opened his arms and smiled, like a knight waiting for the princess to arrive. Li Menjiao looked at Lin Xuan's figure and couldn't help feeling a surge of joy in her heart. When the elevator finally stopped, she happily threw herself into Lin Xuan's arms. The two then continued to transfer to Metro Line 2. The train was running at high speed and soon arrived at its final stop, Jinchi Station. As the two walked out of the subway station, a picture of a bustling night market slowly unfolded before their eyes. The bright lights form a galaxy, illuminating this vibrant corner. The stalls on both sides of the road are lined up next to each other, and the dazzling array of goods is dazzling. The aroma of delicious food permeates the air, stimulating your taste buds. They're steaming hot barbecue here, with skewers of meat sizzling over the charcoal. There are sweet and delicious sugar-roasted chestnuts. Each one is plump and tempting. There are also colorful fruit stalls, with fresh fruits exuding an attractive fragrance. Li Menjiao held Lin Xuan's hand and excitedly walked through the bustling night market. They first came to the Dan Dan noodles stall. Li Menjiao's eyes lit up when she looked at the steaming and fragrant noodles. "Boss, please give me 2 servings of Dan Dan noodles." The two stood beside the stall, eating with big mouthfuls, feeling the spicy and fresh aroma of the Dan Dan noodles blooming on their tongues. Then the two were attracted by the pot cake stall on the roadside. Li Menjiao couldn't help but buy 2. As soon as she got them, she took a big bite. The crispy crust makes a crisp, crunch sound, and then the tender and juicy meat filling flows into your mouth. The feeling of satisfaction is simply indescribable. Li Menjiao's mouth was covered with food crumbs, and Lin Xuan gently wiped them for her. The aroma of cold, cooked rabbit wafted from not far away. "The rabbit is so cute, how can we eat it?" Li Menjiao said. Despite what she said, when Lin Xuan brought a piece of juicy, tender, and spicy rabbit meat to her mouth, she opened her mouth and took a bite without hesitation. As you chew, the deliciousness and spiciness of the rabbit meat are gradually released, and the more you chew, the more delicious it becomes. Li Menjiao couldn't help but praise again and again. Afterwards, Li Menjiao's eyes inadvertently swept to a corner not far ahead, where there was a small stall selling desserts. The stalls were filled with a variety of exquisite desserts, which were colorful and looked very tempting. Li Menjiao's eyes suddenly lit up, and she pulled Lin Xuan towards the stall. "Hello, what is this?" Li Menjiao asked curiously. "This is our unique dessert called Panda Pancake Jelly. Would you like to try it, beautiful lady? It tastes absolutely amazing," said the stall owner with a smile on his face. "Well, it looks pretty good. I'll have 2, thank you," Li Menjiao replied with a sweet smile. "Okay, beautiful lady, please wait a moment." The stall owner began to make the products skillfully, with smooth movements. After a short while, 2 servings of exquisite, cute, and mouth-watering panda jelly appeared before our eyes. The cute panda looks lifelike, and the fresh and green pandanus next to it exudes a faint fragrance. Gently scoop a spoonful with a spoon and put it into your mouth. It has a smooth and delicate taste, melts in your mouth, and brings a slight coolness. Paired with the chewy and soft meatballs and the cute panda marshmallows, it not only adds a rich taste layer, but also makes the whole dessert full of cuteness. Li Menjiao took a bite, and her beautiful eyes narrowed into a crescent shape with joy. They held the delicious panda pancake jelly in their hands, ate it with relish, and continued to walk slowly along the street. Just then, a loud noise attracted their attention. A wonderful Sichuan opera performance is being performed ahead. The face-changing artist, dressed in gorgeous costumes, stepped onto the stage with a nimble figure. His movements were light and nimble. He shook his head slightly, and the originally black and white mask turned into red and black in the blink of an eye. This wonderful performance made them unable to take their eyes off. Li Menjiao was deeply attracted by this magical skill, and couldn't help but applaud and cheer. Lin Xuan was standing aside, looking at his wife's happy expression, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously rose. Chapter 363. The corners of your mouth are stained. Time passed quietly, and in the blink of an eye it was the 4th day of the holiday. On this quiet and peaceful afternoon, the sky was covered with dark clouds, and the fine raindrops were like soft strings, playing a melodious piece of music. Qiuting Pavilion was immersed in the embrace of drizzle. The raindrops were like silk, falling down in large numbers, covering the entire courtyard with a hazy veil. In the pond in the center of the courtyard, the water splashes more happily with the rain, as if dancing with the raindrops. The continuous drizzle made a dripping sound, echoing in the air one after another. And in this poetic atmosphere, there is a completely different scene inside Qiuting Pavilion. There were 2 busy figures in the kitchen. The woman was wearing a simple light blue apron. Her long hair was casually tied to one side, and a few strands of hair fell playfully on her cheeks, adding a bit of charm. On the kitchen stove, a milk pot was emitting steam. She gently poured the fresh milk into the pot, then the osmanthus flowers in her hand fell like elves and blended into the white milk. Finally, she stirred it slowly with a wooden spoon. The sound of dripping rain, the sound of milk tumbling, and the fragrance of osmanthus. "Honey, the sweet-scented osmanthus baked milk is ready, Tilda." While stirring the milk in the pot, Li Menjiao turned around, looked at the man's back with a happy face, and shouted happily. "So fast, I'm almost there," Lin Xuan said without turning his head. Hearing this, Li Menjiao came forward curiously, put her little hands around his waist, and tilted her little head slightly to look inside. "Hey, you've only just started." Li Menjiao looked at the pile of unprocessed food in front of her and said angrily, "I was busy with something else just now." Lin Xuan slowly began to make the bread temptation. I saw him cutting the freshly baked bread into neat small pieces and then spreading sweet ice cream and rich chocolate sauce on them. The white ice cream and the golden bread complement each other, emitting an attractive luster. "What are you busy with?" Li Menjiao asked, blinking her big watery eyes. "Take a look at my cell phone photo album." Lin Xuan smiled slightly and stretched out his slender fingers to tap the mobile phone beside him. Upon hearing this, Li Menjiao immediately put down the piece of bread she was fiddling with, quickly walked to her phone, and unlocked the screen skillfully. The cover of Lin Xuan's phone is different every time. Sometimes it is their beautiful wedding photos, and sometimes it is their romantic and beautiful couple photos. This time, what caught Li Menjiao's eyes was a set of panda couple photos taken yesterday. She opened the photo album and saw the photos of her back and profile as she was concentrating on making osmanthus baked milk. "Ah, so you were secretly filming me just now." Li Menjiao pretended to be coquettish, her cheeks slightly flushed, but she was already beaming with joy in her heart. She slowly put down the phone in her hand and hugged Lin Xuan's waist tightly from behind again. "Do I take good pictures?" Lin Xuan turned his head and stared at Li Menjiao with a doting smile on his lips. "Well, it's okay." Li Menjiao blinked her beautiful eyes and answered playfully. Before she finished her words, she took advantage of Lin Xuan's unpreparedness and quickly left a deep kiss on his handsome face. Lin Xuan didn't bother with her for the time being. He started to prepare the bacon shrimp rolls. The tender shrimp rolls were carefully rolled into the crispy bacon and put into the preheated oven. While waiting, he turned around and looked at Li Menjiao with longing eyes. "After eye contact, my husband wants to kiss me. Honey, take your time. I'll go out and wait for you." Li Menjiao quickly turned around and wanted to run away. However, how could Lin Xuan let her go so easily? He was quick to stretch out his arms like lightning and hugged Li Menjiao tightly from behind. Then he exerted a little force and gently turned Li Menjiao over so that she was facing him. The next second, Lin Xuan lifted her small and delicate chin without hesitation, leaned over and kissed her deeply. It has been raining since the afternoon today, so Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao did not go out to play but chose to stay at home. "Wife, come, try this and see how it tastes." Lin Xuan picked up a piece of bread covered with ice cream and handed it to Li Menjiao's mouth. Li Menjiao opened her little mouth and ate it. In an instant, the softness of the bread and the cool sweetness of the ice cream blended in her mouth, creating an intoxicating and wonderful taste. "Delicious, Tilda." The two of them sat together on the sofa in the villa, with a variety of exquisite and delicious afternoon tea snacks in front of them, and 2 cups of steaming hot roasted milk with a rich osmanthus fragrance next to them. While Li Menjiao was leisurely savoring the food, she was looking through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows at the continuous drizzle outside and the crisp sound of raindrops hitting the window. She couldn't help but whisper, "Honey, it's so beautiful here on rainy days." Yes, this villa was originally built in a courtyard design style, so it looks particularly beautiful and pleasant on rainy days, and the air is especially fresh. Lin Xuan smiled slightly and said slowly. At this moment, Li Menjiao seemed to suddenly remember something and said, "Oh, by the way, honey, Sister Xin Ning told me this morning that if we come to Sichuan province for a trip, it would be best if we could go to Mount Amei." "Wife wants to go," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "Well, but looking at the weather, it seems we can't go." Li Menjiao sighed a little disappointedly. "Ha ha ha, Mount Amei is not in Sichuan City, maybe it doesn't rain there." Lin Xuan comforted gently. "Yeah, let me check the weather forecast." After hearing this, Li Menjiao turned on her mobile phone to check the weather conditions in Mount Amei and found that it would not rain in the next few days. "Honey Tilda, let's set off tomorrow." Li Menjiao happily rubbed in Lin Xuan's arms and said coquettishly. "No problem," Lin Xuan said lovingly. He gently touched Li Menjiao's soft long hair and hugged her tighter. Li Menjiao continued to lean comfortably on Lin Xuan, looking at the beautiful rain scene outside with her beautiful eyes. At this moment, she felt really happy. Lin Xuan sat quietly aside, his eyes gently falling on Li Menjiao's charming face. His wife really became more and more charming the more he looked at her. Li Menjiao lowered her head slightly, concentrating on tasting the cup of warm, roasted milk in her hand. The sweet taste spread in her mouth, making her purse her lips lightly, but she accidentally let some of it get on the corners of her mouth. Lin Xuan smiled slightly after seeing it. He just called softly, "Wife." Although the sound was soft, it was particularly clear in the quiet atmosphere. Hearing Lin Xuan's call, Li Menjiao slowly turned her head, her beautiful eyes wandering, and asked curiously, "What's the matter?" Lin Xuan smiled and pointed at the corner of her mouth and said softly, "It's all on the corner of your mouth." "Oh, I didn't notice." Li Menjiao said and reached out to take the tissue on the coffee table, trying to wipe the stains from the corner of her mouth. Don't bother. Lin Xuan held her soft and slender little hand tightly, and with his other hand, he went around her back and with a little force, gently lifted up her beautiful face. Li Menjiao only felt that her husband was getting closer and closer, and the next moment, Lin Xuan's hot lips had already accurately imprinted on her seductive lips. Their breaths intertwined, and the air was filled with a strong scent of love and sweetness. Chapter 364, Arrival at Laping Cave. The next day, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao were preparing to set off for the city, where Mount Amei was located. Mom, take good care of the baby, Lin Xuan said to Zhang Xulan. Do you know that you must be careful when you go to Mount Amei? Zhang Xulan warned. It takes about 2 days to climb Mount Amei. We set out this morning and will probably not be back until tomorrow night. Okay. Lin Xuan took Li Menjiao to the garage and drove the BYD Han slowly away from Qiuting Pavilion. It takes about 2 hours to get from Sichuan City to the foot of Mount Amei. Along the way, Li Menjiao looked out the window happily, admiring the charming scenery along the way in Sichuan province. Soon 2 hours passed and the hour hand gradually pointed to noon. Lin Xuan glanced at his watch and decided to find a place to have lunch at the foot of the mountain and rest for a while before continuing to climb the mountain. So he parked the car, then reached out and gently held Li Menjiao's slender hand and walked towards a restaurant not far away together. As soon as I stepped into the store, I heard a warm and friendly greeting. Welcome, what would you like to eat? Following the sound, they saw the store manager, a slightly plump, amiable middle-aged woman standing behind the counter, looking at them with a smile on her face. Give me 1 serving of braised beef with legs crossed, 2 servings of tofu pudding, and 1 serving of shredded linjiang eel. Lin Xuan had done his homework in advance and said slowly. After that, he turned around and asked Li Menjiao, Wife, do you want to add any other dishes? No need, this is enough for the 2 of us. Li Menjiao shook her head gently and smiled. Then the 2 of them found a relatively quiet and comfortable seat and sat down and waited patiently. Li Menjiao looked around curiously at the restaurant's environment and the dining conditions of other diners, and couldn't help but sigh. Today is a holiday, but it looks like there aren't many customers here. Maybe everyone thinks it might rain today, so the number of people going out for fun is relatively small. But it's good this way, so we don't have to squeeze in with other people, Lin Xuan said with a smile. That's true, Li Menjiao smiled slightly. Serve the food, these are our signature dishes, the store manager said with a smile on his face, and personally placed the delicious dishes on the table. Thank you, Li Menjiao responded politely. Then they both started eating. The steaming hot braised beef tastes like a unique combination of tender beef and rich soup. The delicate and smooth tofu pudding and the rich layers of seasoning instantly awaken the love for food in my heart. Linjiang shredded eel is even more amazing. The freshness and spicy taste of the shredded eel complement each other, stimulating every taste cell. After a while, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao were full. After a short rest, they resumed their journey, continuing to drive the vehicle slowly along the winding mountain road. After a not-so-short period of time, the car finally arrived at the destination of this trip, Laping Cave. Lin Xuan had already booked a hotel here in advance, so when they arrived, they quickly found the hotel and checked in smoothly. When I walked into the room, I saw that the hotel's decoration style was very exquisite and elegant. Although the overall atmosphere is not extremely luxurious, it exudes a warm and pleasant feeling everywhere, and all kinds of facilities are available. There is actually a small and exquisite round private hot spring pool in the room, which is just big enough for Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao to soak in it at the same time. We're finally here. Li Menjiao pushed open the door of the hotel, saw the soft bed, opened her arms, and lay down in a spread eagle position. Then she turned her head slightly and looked out the window. In the distance, I saw rising and falling mountains with clouds and mist lingering among them, like a beautiful painting. The mountains are shaded by lush green trees, and the breeze makes the leaves rustle. At the same time, Lin Xuan closed the door in an orderly manner and carefully checked the entire hotel room. After confirming that everything was safe, he walked to the suitcase, squatted down, skillfully opened the box, and carefully checked the mountaineering tools inside. At this moment, Li Menjiao, who was lying on the bed, suddenly turned around and smiled sweetly at Lin Xuan. At the same time, she playfully waved her hand and called out in a tender voice, "Husband, come here." "What's wrong?" Lin Xuan quickly stood up, walked quickly to the bed and sat down, asking with a gentle smile on his face. Li Menjiao slowly sat up straight, stretched out her hand to hold Lin Xuan's arm and said softly, "Hubby, you have worked hard, let me give you a massage." After saying that, she stretched out her slender and tender hands, gently placed them on Lin Xuan's broad and strong shoulders, and then began to knead them rhythmically. At first, Li Menjiao's force was a little heavier, and Lin Xuan couldn't help but mutter, "Oh, be gentler." Upon hearing this, Li Menjiao quickly slowed down her movements and asked with concern, "Is this okay?" Lin Xuan nodded and replied, "Yeah, that's it, very comfortable." So Li Menjiao continued to massage Lin Xuan gently, and Lin Xuan gradually closed his eyes, immersed in this warmth and comfort. Since they drove here in the morning and didn't arrive until the afternoon, they were so sleepy that they took a nice nap in the hotel. Time passed minute by minute, the sun gradually set, and as it was approaching evening, Lin Xuan finally slowly opened his eyes. "Good evening, husband." Li Menjiao lay in Lin Xuan's arms and smiled. "Is it evening already?" Lin Xuan rubbed his eyes and said, "It's almost night, husband. Do you still want to sleep?" Li Menjiao said, "I don't want to sleep anymore. I'm a little hungry." Lin Xuan shook his head and said with a smile, "Then let's go out for something to eat." Li Menjiao smiled sweetly. So they both got up and prepared to eat. Just as he was about to go out, Li Menjiao suddenly stopped him and said with concern, "It's cold outside on the mountain, husband. You have to wear more clothes." After saying that, she took out a long windbreaker from the suitcase, walked to Lin Xuan, gently helped him put it on, and carefully straightened the collar and cuffs. Chapter 365, Just Be a Little Bit Aggressive. After putting on his windbreaker, Lin Xuan looked even more handsome and upright. He hugged her in his arms, kissed her on the pink cheek, and said with a smile, "Thank you, my wife." "Okay, stop talking nonsense, I'm hungry," Li Menjiao said coquettishly. After hearing this, Lin Xuan laughed, took Li Menjiao's hand, and walked out of the hotel room together. The two wandered around Laping Cave, and finally found a restaurant that looked quite unique. They ordered several dishes with great interest, including the spicy and delicious bobo chicken, the crispy skinned and tender sweet-skinned duck, and the rich and delicious mushroom soup hot pot. After filling their stomachs, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao strolled around hand in hand. At this time, the mountain was quiet and peaceful, as if the whole world was immersed in peace. They looked up at the sky and saw numerous stars inlaid in the night sky like gems. The dazzling starlight seemed even brighter and clearer in this high-altitude area, like a twinkling Milky Way across the sky. "Honey, the meal just now seemed a bit expensive," Li Menjiao said softly as she walked. Although her family is wealthy now, Li Menjiao still instinctively thinks about how to save money because of her difficult childhood. Of course, the food in the mountain scenic area is expensive, but it is all within an acceptable range, Lin Xuan said with a smile. "That's true," Li Menjiao smiled slightly. "You don't have to save money in the future. Just buy whatever you want to eat and do whatever you want. Your husband will take care of everything." Lin Xuan looked at Li Menjiao's little face lovingly and pinched it. "My husband is the best." Li Menjiao hugged Lin Xuan tightly, pressed her cheek against his affectionately, and a happy smile appeared on the corner of her mouth. She raised her head slightly, her eyes passing over Lin Xuan's broad shoulders to the dark and deep woods behind him. At this moment, a dark shadow suddenly flashed by, accompanied by hurried footsteps and slight vibrations. "Honey, there seems to be something behind you." Li Menjiao was startled and subconsciously shrank back into Lin Xuan's arms. "Where?" Lin Xuan immediately became alert. He turned around quickly and protected Li Menjiao firmly behind him. Another hurried sound was heard, and then a small and nimble figure rushed out from the woods. Looking closely, it turned out to be a cute little monkey. This little monkey has brown fur and bright eyes. It is looking at the two people in front of it curiously. This is a common wild monkey in Mount Emei. When she saw the little monkey appear, Li Menjiao's original nervousness and fear disappeared instantly, replaced by a face full of surprise and excitement. "It turns out to be a little monkey." Li Menjiao wanted to step forward happily, but was stopped by Lin Xuan. "Wife, what are you doing?" Lin Xuan asked softly. "I want to get something to feed it," Li Menjiao answered with a smile. "No, it's clearly stipulated here that tourists are not allowed to feed monkeys. Besides, these monkeys are quite wild. What if they scratch you?" Lin Xuan explained patiently. "Ah, okay then." Li Menjiao listened to her husband obediently. "It's getting late, let's go back and take a comfortable bath," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Li Menjiao blushed when she heard this and nodded shyly, "Yes." So after the two of them returned, they couldn't wait to go to the hot spring pool, took off their clothes, and slowly stepped into the pool. The warm spring water instantly wraps around the whole body, making people feel extremely comfortable and relaxed. Lin Xuan gently closed his eyes, enjoying this moment of peace and comfort. Li Menjiao leaned on Lin Xuan's broad shoulders, with a tablet in front of her, and began to watch the TV series with relish. After taking a bath, the two lay on the bed and continued watching the show. However, at this moment, a fierce quarrel suddenly came from the next room. "We've finally made this trip. Why are you always complaining about this and that?" said the woman. Then the man's lazy voice sounded. "Not only is the tuition in this scenic spot ridiculously expensive, but the food is not delicious either." At this time, he was lying on the bed playing games. "Going out to play costs money. Can't you be more proactive?" The woman couldn't help but complain. "I'm very tired today. Can you let me have a good rest for a while?" the man said impatiently. When the woman heard this, she became even angrier. "Look at you, you're always like this. You don't take our trip seriously at all." The man also raised his voice. "Why don't I take it seriously? Didn't I come here with you?" The woman yelled, "This is not the trip I wanted at all." The man quickly put down his phone and said, "Why are you so loud? Aren't you ashamed?" The two then started arguing violently. No matter how good the hotel's soundproofing is, it can't withstand their loud noise. Li Menjiao in the next room had her ears pressed against the wall, a faint smile on her face. She turned her head and whispered to Lin Xuan beside her. "Honey, the couple next door seemed to be arguing." Lin Xuan stared at the TV screen, and without turning his head, he casually replied, "Why do you care what they are doing? Just watch the show carefully." As he spoke, he stretched out a big hand and forcibly turned Li Menjiao's body back without saying anything. However, at this moment, Li Menjiao's mind was no longer on the exciting plot. She narrowed her beautiful eyes slightly, staring quietly at Lin Xuan beside her, with a faint smile still on the corner of her mouth. Lin Xuan seemed to notice his wife's strange gaze, and finally turned around to look at her, and asked in confusion, "Why are you staring at me?" Li Menjiao blinked her big, lively eyes and said playfully, "Husband, think about it carefully. It seems that we haven't had a serious quarrel since we got married." Lin Xuan was stunned at first, then he gently stroked Li Menjiao's soft and pink cheek and smiled gently. "Isn't that great? But some relationship experts say that if a couple has never had a fight, then their relationship is incomplete." Li Menjiao shook her head and said seriously. After saying that, she tilted her little head and stared at Lin Xuan with anticipation in her beautiful eyes. "Wife, don't listen to the nonsense of those experts." Lin Xuan continued watching the drama. He was quite interested in this plot. Seeing that Lin Xuan was unmoved, Li Menjiao started to act out. She kept putting her cute little face in front of Lin Xuan, deliberately blocking his sight, and then said coquettishly, "Husband, just be a little fierce to me, Tilda. Why should I be mean to you for no reason?" Lin Xuan said helplessly. "As long as you are mean to me, I will quarrel with you." Li Menjiao smiled sweetly. After hearing this, Lin Xuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then he turned off the tablet and turned to look at Li Menjiao with a smirk on his face. Chapter 366. What I look forward to is not the sunrise, but the person who accompanies me to watch the sunrise. Li Menjiao felt Lin Xuan's malicious gaze and instantly became timid. She subconsciously shrank her neck, her eyes dodging, and said coquettishly, "Hubby, I don't want it anymore. Let's continue watching the show." Lin Xuan pushed Li Menjiao directly onto the bed, then reached out and tickled her. "Ha ha ha, husband, I was wrong. Please stop tickling me." Li Menjiao was tickled so hard that she trembled and laughed out loud. "Is this fierce enough for my husband? Ha!" Lin Xuan continued to tickle. For a moment, the room was filled with laughter. Just like this, on one side, a couple was arguing fiercely, and on the other side, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao were laughing happily. The two formed a very sharp contrast. In the end, Lin Xuan was not even a little bit mean to Li Menjiao. After making a fuss for a while, the two finally stopped, panting. Afterwards, Lin Xuan gently embraced Li Menjiao in his arms. The two hugged each other tightly and gradually fell into a sweet dream. The next day came, and the clock struck 3 in the morning. Lin Xuan was woken up. He subconsciously reached out to the alarm clock beside his pillow and pressed the off button. Then he suppressed his sleepiness, struggled to sit up slowly from the warm and comfortable quilt, and staggered out of bed. He walked to the sink, scooped up a pool of water and splashed it on his face, trying to wake himself up as quickly as possible. At this time, it was still pitch black outside the window, as if the whole world was immersed in a deep sleep. Lin Xuan turned back to the bed, gently rocked Li Menjiao, who was still sleeping beside him, and said softly, "Wife, get ready to get up. Didn't you say you wanted to watch the sunrise?" I'm so sleepy. I'll sleep a little longer." Li Menjiao just responded in a daze, turned over, and continued to indulge in her sweet dream. Lin Xuan really had no idea what to do with her. Yesterday, she was still clamoring to climb up to the golden summit to watch the sunrise herself, but today she just stayed in bed. Helplessly, Lin Xuan had to set the alarm clock again, then got into bed, gently hugged Li Menjiao from behind, and took another nap. 2 hours later, at 5 in the morning, the annoying alarm sounded again. Lin Xuan woke up again. He put his lips close to Li Menjiao's pink earlobe and said softly, "Wife, if you don't get up, you will miss the sunrise on the top of the mountain." When Li Menjiao heard this, she opened her beautiful eyes instantly. The two got up, washed, packed their equipment, and prepared to go out. At this time, Li Menjiao said to Lin Xuan with a hint of anger, "Husband, why didn't you wake me up earlier?" She looked at the time and realized that the only way up was to take the cable car, and it was definitely too late to climb the mountain. "I told you not to wake up. Besides, it is still dangerous to climb the mountain late at night, so let's take the cable car directly up," Lin Xuan explained in a gentle tone. "Well, okay then." Li Menjiao smiled slightly. So the two of them quickly got up and put on thick clothes. Then each held a sturdy and durable hiking stick tightly in their hands, and then walked out of the room together and stepped into the inky black world outside the house. Lin Xuan held Li Menjiao's soft little hand tightly and walked forward step by step. It was pitch black all around, with only the road beneath their feet vaguely visible in the moonlight. In this way, the two of them snuggled up to each other and walked silently for a while, and finally arrived at the Jing Hall located on the mountainside. Then they boarded a circular cable car. After a slight shake, the cable car started slowly and moved steadily towards the top of the mountain. The cable car moved slowly forward in silence, like passing through a dark time tunnel. It was quiet all around. Apart from the occasional rustling of leaves in the breeze, only each other's breathing and heartbeats could be heard clearly. After a while, as the cableway gradually broke through the layers of darkness, the general outline of the golden roof in the distance began to appear vaguely in the hazy moonlight. When we reached the golden summit, the sky was still firmly controlled by the inky night sky. The cold mountain wind whistled through the mountains, bringing with it wisps of mist, making the scene in front of you even more hazy and mysterious. The lights twinkle in the darkness, like lonely stars in the night sky. Those ancient buildings also appear hazy and dim under the interweaving of light and shadow. At this time, many people have come to the golden summit to wait for the sunrise. "Honey, there are already so many people here." Li Menjiao looked at the figures swaying around her in the dark night and couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. "Well, let's go. Let's find a place with a good view and wait for the sunrise," Lin Xuan said with a smile, holding Li Menjiao's hand. The two continued walking forward and finally found a place with a very wide view in a corner of the golden roof. Standing here and looking around, it seems as if the entire vast world is at your feet. Lin Xuan gently walked around behind Li Menjiao, opened his arms and hugged her tightly. He lowered his head slightly and gently pressed his handsome cheek against Li Menjiao's soft little face. The two of them just snuggled together quietly, raised their heads together, and stared at the distant horizon. Time passed by minute, and everything around seemed to be frozen at this moment. At this moment, Li Menjiao suddenly stretched out her little hand excitedly, pointed to the sky, and shouted loudly, "Hubby, look, the sun is coming out." A faint fish-belly white quietly appeared on the horizon, and gradually the white began to be stained with a layer of light pink, like the shy face of a girl. As time passed, the pink color became more and more intense, like an overturned paint box, spreading wantonly across the sky. Suddenly, a red sun peeked out from the splendor, and golden light burst out instantly, illuminating the entire golden roof. The dazzling light sprinkled on the earth, covering the surrounding mountains, rivers, and trees with a layer of gorgeous gold, making the whole world bathed in warmth and light. Li Menjiao just stared quietly at the beautiful scenery in front of her, with a gentle and sweet smile on her lips. She whispered to Lin Xuan beside her, "Husband, do you know why I look forward to watching the sunrise?" "Oh, why?" Lin Xuan asked gently. Li Menjiao looked back at Lin Xuan affectionately and said slowly, "Because what I am looking forward to is not the sunrise, but the person who will watch the sunrise with me. You watching the sunrise with me are far more romantic than the sunrise itself." Chapter 367, Liu Yuxin is urged to get married. These words were like a gust of spring breeze that quietly blew into Lin Xuan's heart, making him stunned. Soon he came back to his senses and responded with a smile, "Wife, me too." Then Lin Xuan stretched out a hand and hugged Li Menjiao tightly in his arms, as if he wanted to rub her into his body, while his other hand gently pressed on the back of her head, applying a little force to bring her face closer to him. He lowered his head slightly and kissed the cherry lips that made his heart beat fast affectionately. Li Menjiao naturally placed her hands on Lin Xuan's broad chest and responded to this loving kiss enthusiastically. The Golden Summit should have been cool in the early morning, but the two felt a little hot at this time. Look, the view here seems to be better. After kissing for a while, Li Menjiao heard the sound of other tourists coming over here. No need to kiss first, someone is coming. Li Menjiao opened her little mouth and shyly pressed her face against Lin Xuan, breathing softly at the same time. I haven't kissed you enough yet. Lin Xuan had a sly smile on his face, his eyes fixed on the shy and lovely Li Menjiao in front of him. Let's kiss each other when we get home, Li Menjiao said coquettishly. She calmed herself down a little, then stuck her head out and looked out through Lin Xuan's broad shoulders. Now the sun has risen, and the golden sunlight instantly illuminates the entire golden roof, dyeing everything around it with a layer of dazzling light. Li Menjiao was finally able to clearly see the unique and spectacular scenery here. I saw a solemn and dignified statue of Bodhisattva, and its compassionate face looked even softer under the reflection of the golden light. And below the Bodhisattva statue, crowds of tourists were walking towards them in groups of 3 or 5. Some stopped to watch while others took photos. It was very lively. Honey, look ahead. Just as Li Menjiao was immersed in this unique building, Lin Xuan suddenly shouted excitedly. Li Menjiao quickly turned around and looked closely at the place where Lin Xuan's finger was pointing. In an instant, a magnificent picture appeared before her eyes. The vast sea of clouds is like a turbulent ocean, with endless white waves rolling and rushing, one after another spreading into the distance. Like a turbulent sea, or like soft white cotton, it rolls and surges under the rising sun. The golden sunlight sprinkled on the sea of clouds, instantly dyeing them orange, red, and golden yellow. The colors are brilliant and dazzling, as if nature had overturned its palette. The edge of the sea of clouds is sparkling. As if inlaid with brilliant gold edges, it is breathtakingly beautiful. Li Menjiao looked at the breathtaking beauty before her, and a happy and sweet smile involuntarily blossomed on her face. Today, not only did I see the sunrise for the first time with my beloved husband, but I also saw with my own eyes such a spectacular and magnificent sea of clouds. The night falls over the bustling and noisy Jinghai city. In a corner of the city, there is a high-end residential community with an elegant environment. At this time, there were bursts of busy sounds coming from a family's kitchen. Yuxin, come over and help. Yi Kui was skillfully frying the dishes in the pot, while calling out to her daughter loudly. Liu Yuxin, who was playing with her child on the sofa in the living room, heard her mother's call and quickly stood up and walked quickly to the kitchen. As she walked, she responded, coming. Walking into the kitchen, Liu Yuxin saw the stove was filled with all kinds of delicious dishes and couldn't help but said in surprise, Mom, how did you make so many dishes? Yi Kui replied without even turning her head. How can we not prepare some more dishes when your aunt and your younger aunt's family come to visit us? Oh, Liu Yuxin nodded, then reached out to take the plate of steaming hot stir-fried dishes handed to her by her mother. Then, she turned back to the kitchen and continued to help bring the other dishes to the table one by one. In a short while, the table was filled with sumptuous food, which was dazzling and mouth-watering. After Liu Yuxin brought all the dishes from the kitchen, she went to prepare the bowls and chopsticks. Everyone, please stop sitting in the living room and get ready to eat. At this time, Yi Kui came out with the last pot of fragrant hot soup in her hands, with a warm smile on her face. Upon hearing the news that it was time to eat, the people who were originally sitting in the living room chatting and laughing got up and moved to the dining room. Then they sat together in the restaurant. Oh, now is the time for growth. You need to eat more delicious food to replenish your body. Come, Auntie will give you a big chicken drumstick. Yi Kui looked at the little boy beside her, who looked only 3 or 4 years old with a loving face, picked up a big and plump chicken leg and put it in his bowl. The little boy nodded obediently and said, Thank you, Auntie. Then he couldn't wait to stretch out his chubby little hands, grabbed the big chicken leg in the bowl, and started to chew it in big bites until his mouth was full of oil. And Zio, man, come here, there is a big chicken drumstick. As soon as she finished speaking, Yi Kui skillfully picked up a large chicken leg with chopsticks and gently handed it to the little girl. The little girl blinked her big watery eyes and said sweetly, Thank you, Auntie. The little girl, who looked only 4 or 5 years old, imitated the little boy next to her and started to eat the chicken leg happily. The 2 children are so cute. Yi Kui looked at the 2 little guys and smiled with relief. Then she looked meaningfully at Liu Yuxin, who was eating beside her, and the smile on her face gradually faded. At this moment, Liu Yuxin seemed to notice her mother's gaze, and her heart suddenly felt a little uneasy. She mumbled incoherently, Mom, why are you always staring at me? Yi Kui frowned slightly and asked directly, Tell me, when are you going to give me a little grandson as cute as them? When Liu Yuxin heard this, she hurriedly agreed. Next year we will definitely start preparing next year. Next year, it's already October and I still don't have a boyfriend. Yi Kui counted the days in her mind and said. Liu Yuxin continued to stuff food into her mouth while casually responding. Looking. Seeing this, Yi Kui sighed softly and advised earnestly. My daughter, don't think your mother is nagging. You are not young anymore. Your eldest and second aunts are here now. Why don't you ask them if there are any suitable boys in their workplaces and introduce them to you? After hearing this, Liu Yuxin immediately picked up the remaining food in the bowl, then stood up and said with a smile, Aunt, I'm full, you guys eat slowly. I have something to do, so I will leave first. After saying that, he fled back to his room in a panic. Chapter 368, Let's Buy Qiuting Pavilion. Seeing Liu Yuxin leaving in such a hurry, the aunt couldn't help but smile slightly and comforted her in a gentle tone. Sister, Yuxin just graduated not long ago. There is no need to rush to find a partner for her. Yes, sister, and Yuxin is so beautiful. There must be countless boys pursuing her. My aunt also nodded in agreement. Yi Kui shook her head slightly and retorted with a worried look on her face. Why not? Yu Xin started school a year later. She is 26 years old now and will be 27 next year. Isn't she going to be 30 soon? Yi Kui was talking about her virtual age. In fact, Liu Yuxin was only 25 years old. She was delayed for a year because of her poor health when she was a child. So if there is a young man with good conditions in your unit, please send him to me. Yi Kui continued. Okay, we'll keep an eye out for the right one, Auntie agreed. Liu Yuxin returned to her room, turned on her phone and sent a message to her best friend Li Menjiao. Yiao, I'm being urged to get married again. Soon Li Menjiao replied, and then what? Followed by a big melon-eating expression. Liu Yuxin pouted her lips and continued typing helplessly. I'm only 25 years old and I don't want to get married yet. Not long after, Li Menjiao's message came again. Xingxin, you are already 26. Seeing this message, Liu Yuxin couldn't help but widen her eyes, stamped her feet in anger and quickly replied. Yiao, how come you are also calculating your virtual age like my parents? I'm talking about your actual age. Li Menjiao quickly replied. Okay, my Xingxin is only 25 years old. Liu Yuxin said speechlessly. Why does this sentence look weird? Can't you comfort me? Li Menjiao responded. Yes, what did Xingxin see? Liu Yuxin was stunned for a moment, then continued. Much better. At this time, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao had already returned from Mount Amei. After dinner in the evening, they came to the courtyard of Qiuting Pavilion and sat leisurely under a tall and dense Acer pomatum tree. This Japanese maple tree stands alone in the moonlight and light. The soft light shines through the window of the villa and gently sprinkles on the trunk of the Japanese maple tree. Winding up along the texture, the branches of the Japanese maple tree stretch out in the interweaving of light and shadow, some hidden in the darkness, and some illuminated by lights. Deep red, light red, and silver white complement each other, presenting a staggered beauty. Li Menjiao held her phone and replied with a smile. It's fine as long as it's much better. Go play. The next second, Liu Yuxin called. I only heard Liu Yuxin's slightly angry voice from the other end of the phone. Yiao, you are so good, you have learned to tease me. Li Menjiao couldn't help but burst into laughter when she heard this. Ha, Xingxin, it's time for you to fall in love again. If there's a blind date, just go and meet him. It won't cost you a piece of meat. However, Liu Yuxin's attitude was extremely firm. Humph, I won't go even if you kill me. Then she started to pour out her grievances to Li Menjiao like beans pouring out of a bamboo tube, and talked incessantly about all the troubles she had encountered recently. At this moment, Lin Xuan, who was sitting next to him, saw his wife concentrating and talking on the phone with her best friend, and a naughty idea quietly came to his mind. He quietly approached Li Menjiao slowly, wanting to take advantage of her unpreparedness and secretly give her a kiss. Unexpectedly, Li Menjiao had already seen all of this. She turned her head suddenly and glared at Lin Xuan fiercely. Then a small and delicate hand accurately pinched the soft flesh on Lin Xuan's waist and twisted it with a little force. Lin Xuan became obedient instantly and could only silently open his phone to play games. About half an hour later, Li Menjiao finally finished her phone call with her best friend. Lin Xuan had just finished playing a game. He put down his phone and asked curiously, Yu Xin is quite good, why is she still single? Li Menjiao nodded slightly and responded thoughtfully, well, maybe it's because of the shadow of the previous relationship. Last relationship? Lin Xuan asked. Li Menjiao nodded and continued, Yes, Xingxin's love experience was also quite bumpy. She met a scumbag in college. After hearing this, Lin Xuan seemed to understand something and stopped asking further questions. Just like that, the two of them snuggled up to each other quietly, looking up at the bright moon in the night sky together. Suddenly, Li Menjiao raised her head, stared at Lin Xuan with eyes as clear as water, and said in a tender voice, "Hubby, you haven't sung for me for a long time." The words were full of anticipation. "There is no guitar here," Lin Xuan said with a smile. "My husband sings a cappella." Li Menjiao blinked her eyes as bright as a deer and stared at Lin Xuan. Lin Xuan lowered his head and gently kissed Li Menjiao's pink and attractive lips, then smiled slightly and replied softly, "Okay." Then he adjusted his breathing slightly and cleared his throat. "It made me cry, more than just last night's wine. I am reluctant to leave, more than your tenderness. Walk with me on the streets of Chengdu, not stopping until all the lights go out. You'll hold my sleeve. I'll put my hands in my pockets. Walk to the end of Yulin Road, sitting at the door of the tavern." Chengdu, a melodious and story-filled folk song, becomes particularly beautiful when sung by Lin Xuan's heavenly voice. Every note seems to carry magic, lingering in people's hearts. "Honey, I find myself falling in love with the entire city and this beautiful courtyard in front of me." Li Menjiao gently pressed her pretty little face against Lin Xuan's warm and broad chest, with a happy smile on her lips. "Do you like it?" Lin Xuan looked at the person in his arms with eyes full of doting. He stretched out his right hand and gently stroked Li Menjiao's silky, smooth black hair and asked softly. "Yeah," Li Menjiao nodded vigorously. "Since you like it, let's buy this Kui Ting pavilion," Lin Xuan said in a firm yet gentle tone. Hearing this, Li Menjiao suddenly raised her head and looked at Lin Xuan with surprise. "Really, that would cost a lot of money." Lin Xuan smiled, gently scratched Li Menjiao's small nose with his fingers, and then smiled softly. "As long as I can make my wife happy, this little money doesn't matter. We can come any time we are free in the future." After hearing this, Li Menjiao hugged Lin Xuan tightly, buried her head deep in his arms, and laughed happily. Chapter 369. It's hard to find a good man even with a lantern. Time flies, and the morning light of the next day quietly falls on the earth. Today is the last day of the National Day holiday. Early in the morning, Lin Xuan couldn't wait to meet with the owner of Kui Ting Pavilion and started a tense and heated discussion. Finally, the two parties reached an agreement and successfully purchased the courtyard villa for 30 million yuan. Originally, the first group of residents of this courtyard villa after it was renovated were Lin Xuan's family, so strictly speaking it is not second-hand. Lin Xuan happily drove the BYD hand given by his boss and rushed towards home. Suddenly, he thought that one car might not be enough. This car is easy to drive, but it's a bit cheap. Thinking of this, Lin Xuan decisively turned on the turn signal and drove the car into the Rolls-Royce 4S store he had visited before without hesitation. "As soon as I entered the store, a familiar scene came into view." "You again? Didn't you say you didn't want to buy it?" Salesperson Zhang Manking said with a little surprise and a hint of disdain. Facing Zhang Manking's contemptuous attitude, Lin Xuan simply responded, "I'll look for Miss Yi from before." Of course, he felt the contemptuous look in Zhang Manking's eyes, so he didn't want to pay any attention to him at all. "The reason why I chose Yi Zioen was actually very simple, because she always treated customers with a friendly and kind attitude. Moreover, if I buy a car here, I can give all the commission I deserve to her. The reason why I look for Yi Zioen is because she has a good attitude, and if I buy the car myself, I can give her the commission." At this moment, Zhang Manking on the side suddenly said, "What's the matter? Are you interested in my sister? Then you have to work hard to improve your own conditions. Although you do look handsome, having good looks alone is not enough. After all, in today's society, you still need money to succeed." Just yesterday, a wealthy second-generation man was pursuing her fiercely. After saying this, Zhang Manking began to chatter on to herself. Hearing this, Lin Xuan simply responded, "You talk too much." These few simple words instantly made Zhang Manking very angry. Her originally fair face turned red at this moment. When she was about to continue arguing, she was interrupted by Yi Zioen's gentle voice. "Zioking, there's another customer over there. Please go over and help receive him," Yi Zioen said softly. "HMPH?" Zhang Manking snorted coldly in extreme dissatisfaction, then turned around and left without looking back. After Zhang Manking left, Yi Zioen looked at Lin Xuan with a hint of apology and said, "Mr. Lin, I'm really sorry. My colleague has a rather straightforward personality. Please don't take it personally." Lin Xuan smiled slightly, indicating that he didn't care, and replied, "It doesn't matter." Mr. Lin, do you need any help this time? Yi Zioen said with a smile. I'm going to buy one of these. How much is it? Lin Xuan walked forward slowly with a smile on his face and gently pointed to the black Rolls-Royce Phantom parked in the center of the exhibition hall. The car looked like a sleeping giant. The calm and majestic black body exuded an irresistible charm. Under the light, it shone with a mysterious and noble luster, as if it was the absolute king of the night. Seeing this, Yi Zioen, a sales consultant standing nearby, immediately put on a professional smile and responded enthusiastically. This is our store's long-axis limited edition top-end version. The price is 12.88 million yuan. After saying that, she looked at Lin Xuan with anticipation. Lin Xuan was not intimidated by the astonishing price. Instead, he opened the car door with interest and sat elegantly in the passenger seat. As soon as he got into the car, he nodded with satisfaction. The seats wrapped in premium leather are soft and comfortable, and the hand-stitched lines are exquisite and delicate. Walnut veneer and chrome trim complement each other, creating a luxurious and elegant atmosphere. Above the head there is a starry sky as bright as stars, making people feel as if they are in a dream world. Lin Xuan opened the car door and sat in the passenger seat to feel it. It was indeed a Rolls-Royce. The interior was extremely luxurious, and there was a starry sky above his head. Okay, I'll buy it, Lin Xuan said with a smile. These three short and powerful words not only surprised Yi Zioen, but also made other sales staff around her look at her with envy and jealousy. Hearing Lin Xuan placing the order so readily, Yi Zioen quickly said, "Okay, sir, please sit here for a while." Then she quickly turned around and served Lin Xuan some exquisite snacks and high-end drinks. After making all the arrangements, Yi Zioen quickly walked to her office and began to prepare the relevant materials for purchasing the car. Zioen, she actually wants to buy it. Zhang Menking approached Yi Zioen. Yi Zioen nodded and replied softly, "Yes, and I bought the top-of-the-line version. Wow, no way, this is unbelievable. I didn't expect he is so rich." Zhang Menking widened her eyes and opened her mouth so wide that an egg could fit in it. Then she looked at Yi Zioen with a smile again. "What's that look in your eyes? Do you want me to share some with you?" Yi Zioen said with a smile. "I'm not trying to steal your business. What I mean is, aren't you interested in him? And he's so rich." Zhang Qinglin blinked wildly. Hearing this, Yi Zioen's cheeks flushed instantly. She lowered her head a little embarrassedly and muttered softly, "Who knows if he has a girlfriend? How can you know if you don't ask? Even if he has a girlfriend, so what? With our Zioen's charm, it won't be difficult to snatch him away from others." Zhang Qinglin put her hands on her hips and encouraged Yi Zioen with a confident look on her face. Yi Zioen ignored her and just quietly prepared her car purchase contract. Seeing this, Zhang Qinglin pushed Yi Zioen out anxiously and urged, "Hey, just let me handle these contracts, and you go and have a chat with him to improve your relationship. You know, it's really hard to find a man as handsome and rich as him these days." At this moment, Lin Xuan, who was sitting opposite, looked up and saw Yi Zioen coming over and asked, "Miss Yi, is the contract ready?" "It's almost done. My colleague is helping. Mr. Lin, please wait a moment," Yi Zioen said nervously, sitting opposite Lin Xuan. "Oh, that's good." Lin Xuan continued to play with his mobile phone with his head down. At this moment, the phone received a message from Li Menjiao. What catches the eye is a photo of Li Menjiao playing with cute babies. Li Menjiao's face in the picture is filled with happiness and joy. That brilliant smile seems to be able to penetrate the screen and infect everyone who sees it. Lin Xuan stared at the photos, and a warm smile quietly appeared on his handsome face. Chapter 370, Does Yaoyu Still Remember Us? Yi Zioen, who was standing by, accidentally caught a glimpse of the charming smile on Lin Xuan's face, and her heart couldn't help but move. She asked curiously, "Mr. Lin, what makes you so happy?" When Lin Xuan heard Yi Zioen's question, he slightly restrained his smile, but his eyes were still shining with joy, and he replied softly, "Nothing. By the way, Miss Yi, are there any cars here suitable for girls to drive?" Lin Xuan asked. Yi Zioen was stunned by Lin Xuan's question. Then she reacted and asked in surprise, "Are you planning to buy another car?" Lin Xuan nodded and explained with a smile, "Yes, one for myself and one for my wife." When Yi Zioen heard the word wife, a hint of imperceptible loss flashed across his eyes. But she quickly adjusted her mood, put on a professional smile, and responded, "I see. I never thought that someone as young as you would be married." As she said that, she turned and walked towards a corner of the exhibition hall, motioning Lin Xuan to follow her. "Please come this way. We do have several models that are very popular among women to choose from." After a while, the two stopped in front of a white Rolls-Royce Phantom. The car stands there quietly, exuding a noble and elegant temperament. Its snow-white, flawless body looks particularly dazzling under the light. Its smooth and graceful lines naturally outline the vehicle's agile and elegant profile like flowing clouds and water, just like a graceful princess. Lin Xuan raised his phone and bought a Rolls-Royce Phantom, took a photo and sent it to Li Menjiao asking, "Do you like it?" Almost immediately after the message was sent, a pleasant ringtone sounded. "Honey, why are you planning to buy a car again?" Li Menjiao's slightly surprised voice came from the other end of the phone. "Well, let's buy a car and park it in the garage. It will be much more convenient for us to come to Sichuan City for sightseeing or business in the future." Lin Xuan raised the corners of his mouth slightly and answered in a relaxed tone. "Then you don't have to buy such an expensive car, a Rolls-Royce at that," Li Menjiao said with some heartache. "Then doesn't your wife like it?" Lin Xuan deliberately kept the secret and teased Li Menjiao. Li Menjiao couldn't help but open the photo album on her mobile phone again and looked at the photo carefully. The Rolls-Royce Phantom in the picture is like a fine work of art. After a moment, she finally responded softly, "I like it. As long as my wife likes it, just wait for me to come back home." Lin Xuan hung up the phone and turned to ask Yi Ziowen. "Excuse me, how much does the top model of this car cost?" Lin Xuan asked directly. "The price of this top-of-the-line Rolls-Royce Phantom is 5.5 million yuan, Yi Ziowen replied politely. "Okay, let's buy these two cars together," Lin Xuan said generously. So there were 3 cars parked in the garage of Qiuting Pavilion, a Rolls-Royce Phantom, a Rolls-Royce Ghost, and a gifted BYD Han. Lin Xuan jokingly said that this BYD Han was reserved for Sissy to drive. This made Lin's Sissy very angry, but then she thought that being in Sichuan City was much better than not having a car. Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao also took a test drive, and it was indeed a top luxury car brand, Rolls-Royce. The rate of people turning their heads on the road was directly explosive. It was afternoon, and Lin Xuan's family ended this fulfilling and enjoyable National Day holiday and flew back to Jinghai City. A week later, it was the 9th month since the babies were born. Li Menjiao finished her morning school classes and drove back to Haitian Yijing Villa after get-off work. When the door was slowly pushed open, what came into view was Dabao and Zaya Abao sitting obediently on the sofa in the living room. At this moment, Dabao was like a little adventurer exploring a new world. His 2 little hands tightly grasped the edge of the sofa, his bright big eyes stared intently at the front, and then he tried to stand up tremblingly. Looking at Zaya Abao on the other side, he seemed much quieter. He sat alone on the sofa leisurely with a pile of colorful building blocks in front of him. The little fellow was concentrating on playing with the blocks. Li Menjiao walked forward gently, with a gentle smile on her face. While clapping her hands, she said to Dabao in an encouraging tone, "Come on, Dabao, come over here, Mom." When Dabao saw his mother, he first called out, "Mom," then slowly moved his little feet, holding onto the edge of the sofa, and came to Li Menjiao's side. Li Menjiao happily hugged Dabao tightly in her arms, kissed her on the pink little face, and praised, "Our Dabao is awesome." Huang Shifeng, who had been watching this heartwarming scene from the side, smiled kindly upon seeing this. "Our eldest has been very active since he was little, always loving to explore new things. But the youngest doesn't like sports very much, preferring to sit quietly and play." Hearing this, Li Menjiao frowned slightly and responded seriously, "That won't work. Zaya Abao's physical exercise must also keep up." Then she bent down, stretched out her arms, and gently picked up Zaya Abao from behind, letting the baby's feet land firmly on the ground, and began to guide him to practice walking. At first, Zaya Abao seemed to have not reacted to what was happening. When he turned around and saw that it was his mother holding him, he immediately broke into a brilliant smile. Zaya Abao opened his arms happily and shouted happily, "Mom, hug me Tilda." Looking at such a cute little treasure, Li Menjiao's heart felt sweeter than eating honey. Li Menjiao held Zaya Abao's chubby hands tightly and encouraged him softly, "Zaya Abao, follow your mother." Then she led Zaya Abao forward little by little. "That's right, that's it, 1, 2, 1, 1 step, 2 steps." Along with Li Menjiao's warm and kind words, Zaya Abao gradually adapted to the rhythm of this walking and began to bravely take his own small steps. At noon, after lunch, Li Menjiao lazily snuggled in Lin Xuan's arms, her slender fingers playing with his hair. "Honey, now that the baby's immunity has been strengthened, can we take Yaoyu home?" Li Menjiao looked up and asked softly. "Oh, there is also a stupid cat. I almost forgot about it." Lin Xuan showed a smile on his face. Before, because the babies were just born and their immunity was still weak, they could not live with cats. So Lin Xuan had no choice but to send Yaoyu to a cat shop for foster care. This foster care lasted for half a year. "I'll pick Yaoyu up this afternoon." Lin Xuan kissed Li Menjiao and said lovingly, "Let me go, don't you have a meeting in the afternoon? I get off work earlier than you," Li Menjiao said. "Well, I don't know if Yao Yu still remembers us," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Chapter 371, I'll just be patient. In the afternoon, as the school bell rang, Li Menjiao drove to Mayo Mill pet shop after get off work. "Hello, you're here," the store manager said gently with a warm smile on her face. "Yes, I'm here to take the cat home," Li Menjiao said with a smile. "The children should be almost 1 year old now," the store manager asked with concern as he led Li Menjiao into the store. "Well, it's just 9 months old now," Li Menjiao replied with a smile. "It seems like the children's immunity should be fine, so we can take Yao Yu home without worry," the store manager said happily, and soon brought Li Menjiao to a warmly decorated cat bed. Li Menjiao walked forward quickly, looking eagerly for the cat she had been thinking about. When she looked carefully, she instantly found the familiar and lovely figure, Yao Yu. I saw a silver-colored tabby with shiny fur and clear gradient layers, lying lazily on the soft cushion and sleeping comfortably. "Yao Yu, look who's here," the store manager called softly to the sleeping silver tabby cat. When Yao Yu heard the sound, her ears moved slightly as if she was awakened. Then he slowly opened his big eyes that were as crystal clear as jade, raised his head sleepily, and began to look at Li Menjiao in front of him with curiosity. "Yao Yu, do you still remember me?" Seeing this, Li Menjiao quickly squatted down, stretched out her little hand, and gently placed it in front of Yao Yu. Yao Yu's round head slowly moved closer, and she sniffed lightly with her little nose, as if trying to identify this familiar scent. Then it suddenly raised its head, staring at Li Menjiao with its big round eyes, and then began to rub its little head on her hand. "Meow Tilda," a soft call came from Yao Yu's mouth. "It seems that Yao Yu still remembers you." The manager smiled with relief. Li Menjiao stretched out her arms with joy and held Yao Yu in her arms. "Yao Yu has gained weight," Li Menjiao said with a smile while stroking Yao Yu's soft fur. At this time, Yao Yu was lying quietly in Li Menjiao's arms, occasionally making 1 or 2 satisfied meow sounds. "Okay, let's go home now." Li Menjiao put it in the cat cage, bought some canned cat food that Yao Yu liked the most, and then left the pet store. After returning to Haitian Yajing, Li Menjiao opened the cat cage and called softly, "Yao Yu, come out quickly." Yao Yu first hesitantly poked out his furry little head, carefully observed the surrounding environment, and then took a cautious step and stepped onto the floor that was both familiar and somewhat unfamiliar. Yao Yu jumped and landed on the comfortable and soft sofa in the living room. At this moment, Dabo and Zaya Aba were blinking their big eyes full of curiosity, staring at Yao Yu closely. Yao Yu also had a look of shock on its face. It opened its eyes wide and stared blankly at the 2 human cubs in front of it, its body motionless. In this way, Dabo, Zayabo, and Yao Yu stared at each other. "Meow." Yao Yu suddenly turned around and glanced at Li Menjiao, who was standing beside her with a very puzzled look, as if saying, "How come there were only 2? Our cat planet has babies, but we usually have at least 5 or 6 at a time." At this moment, Dabo, who was more lively, couldn't suppress his inner impulse and quickly crawled in front of Yao Yu using his hands and feet. She stretched out her chubby little hands and gently stroked Yao Yu's round face. Yao Yu didn't dodge. Instead, she moved her head closer and rubbed Dabao's little hand affectionately. Wow, the furry touch instantly excited Dabao, and she felt like she had discovered a whole new world. A happy smile immediately bloomed on her cute little face, and a few white teeth that had just emerged were revealed. Zayaba was a little timid. He just sat there quietly, staring blankly at his sister and Yao Yu interacting. When he finally mustered up the courage to approach Yao Yu suddenly yawned, revealing her sharp teeth. This sudden scene scared the timid Zayaba so much that he burst into tears. Yao Yu sat beside them with an innocent look on her face, blinking her big round eyes, not understanding what she had done wrong. Seeing this, Li Menjiao hurried forward and hugged Zayabao tightly in her arms. She gently patted Zayabao's back and comforted him with a smile. "Dear baby, don't cry, don't cry. Yao Yu won't bite you. Look how happy your sister is playing with it." Zayabao curled up in his mother's warm embrace, staring at Yao Yu with his big black eyes. Seeing that Zayabao had stopped crying temporarily, Li Menjiao reached out and gently held Zayabao's chubby little hand, encouraging him. "Come on, Zayabao, let's try touching Yao Yu with our hands." As she spoke, she took Zayabao's hand and slowly extended it towards Yao Yu. At this time, Yao Yu was very well behaved. It lay quietly on the ground without moving, allowing Zayabao's tender little hand to gently touch its little head. Gradually, perhaps because he felt that Yao Yu had no ill intentions, the fear in Zayabao's heart began to slowly dissipate. An hour later, Lin Xuan returned home and saw Yao Yu sitting obediently between the two little guys, Dabo and Xiaobo. The two little guys were happily kneading and playing on Yao Yu's soft body, and laughter filled the whole room. At this moment, Li Menjiao happened to walk out of the kitchen. Seeing Lin Xuan coming back, she immediately broke into a brilliant smile, then threw herself into Lin Xuan's arms and said coquettishly, "Husband, you're back." Lin Xuan hugged the beauty in his arms tightly, feeling her tenderness and love, and responded, "Well, I think Yao Yu really likes playing with the babies." "Yes, with Yao Yu here, our babies are like having an extra guardian angel," Li Menjiao said happily. "Honey, what delicious food did you make tonight?" As Lin Xuan spoke, he lowered his head and gently kissed Li Menjiao's pink cheek. "Tonight we're going to have salt and pepper chicken wings, garlic butter shrimp, coriander beef, steamed sea bass, and tomato and corn pork rib soup," Li Menjiao introduced enthusiastically. "Hubby, let me help you cook." After saying that, Lin Xuan took Li Menjiao's hand and walked into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Yao Yu, on the other hand, was lying on the sofa, playing with the babies with an expressionless face. "For the sake of that delicious canned cat food, I will just have to be patient. But these two human cubs are quite cute. Hey, don't run around." Chapter 372, Do You Still Like Yu Xin Now? At night it was late and quiet. Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao were lying on the soft big bed. At this moment, a clear prompt sound suddenly rang out. "Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for completing the 9th month of accompanying the babies. Your bank card through legal means, please check it." Hearing this news, Lin Xuan couldn't help but smile with joy. "I didn't expect that just after I spent 50 million. The system directly rewarded me back." Just when Lin Xuan was still immersed in joy, a voice of reproach came from his ear. "Husband, are you listening to me?" Lin Xuan quickly came back to his senses and responded, I'm here." As he spoke, he lowered his head and looked tenderly at Li Menjiao, who was standing beside him with her cute little face puffed up. Li Menjiao asked coquettishly, "So where was I just talking about?" "Speaking of," Lin Xuan blinked, lowered his head with a wicked smile, and gently kissed Li Menjiao's delicate and tempting red lips, and then slowly said, "Speaking of my wife, I want a kiss." "Huh, you weren't listening carefully at all." Li Menjiao raised her head angrily, opened her little mouth slightly, and bit Lin Xuan's cheek without any hesitation. "Ha, stop biting me, wife." Lin Xuan wrapped his arms tightly around Li Menjiao's slender and soft waist, begging for mercy with an apologetic smile on his face. Li Menjiao didn't want to let Lin Xuan go easily. She still pressed close to Lin Xuan's cheek and nibbled it gently. Although it was a bite, the gentle movement, warm breath, and subtle touch were actually more like Li Menjiao's kiss, soft and fragrant. "Honey, where were you talking about just now? Tell me quickly." While Lin Xuan was enduring his wife's sweet punishment, he did not forget to ask about the previous topic. Li Menjiao rolled her eyes at Lin Xuan and said angrily, "It's all your fault. I forgot about it." She forgot what to say for a moment. "Forget it, it's getting late, let's go to bed," Lin Xuan coaxed with a smile. But Li Menjiao refused to give in and kept making trouble in his warm and broad arms. Sometimes she pinched Lin Xuan's firm belly with her little hands, and sometimes she mischievously rubbed his tall nose bridge. Finally, Lin Xuan turned over, hugged Li Menjiao, and kissed her for a long time, and the latter gradually calmed down and quietly nestled in his arms. Time passed quietly, and in the blink of an eye it was Friday afternoon when it was time to get off work. After finishing a busy week at work, Li Menjiao came to Xuanmeng restaurant. As soon as she entered the door, Zhou Quan immediately came forward and said with a smile on his face, "Sister-in-law is here. Where's brother Xuan? Why isn't he with you?" Li Menjiao smiled slightly and responded, "Lin Xuan went home to take care of the baby. My sisters and I are having dinner together today." "Oh, ha, what would you like to eat, sister-in-law? We have a lot of new dishes in our restaurant," Zhou Quan said. Li Menjiao asked with interest, "Really? What new products have you got recently?" Zhou Quan quickly introduced, "Sister-in-law, we have recently launched a puffer fish set meal, which can be regarded as our restaurant's signature dish. It includes braised puffer fish sashimi, puffer fish hot pot, deep-fried puffer fish, etc." Listening to Zhou Quan's endless introduction, Li Menjiao couldn't help but feel her appetite aroused. She had never eaten puffer fish before, so Li Menjiao smiled and replied, "Well, it sounds good, then give us a portion of this puffer fish set meal." As she spoke, she took out her cell phone and prepared to pay the money in advance. Zhou Quan stopped her immediately upon seeing this and said anxiously, "Hey, sister-in-law, you are the boss's wife, you don't have to pay. If brother Xuan knew about this, he would probably scold me." Li Menjiao smiled helplessly, put away her phone, and said, Okay then, by the way, Joe Quan, let me ask you something. Do you still like Yu Zin? Why are you suddenly asking about this, sister-in-law? Joe Quan's face turned slightly red. If you still like it, I can help you get it, Li Menjiao said with a smile. The little boy Joe Quan is not only lively and cheerful, but also very capable. It is not easy to turn Xuanmeng Restaurant into the leading gourmet restaurant in Jinghai City at such a young age. I can just push it to my bestie and help her find her partner. Joe Quan hesitated for a long time and finally mustered up the courage to say these two words. Then what do you like about Yu Zin? Li Menjiao continued to ask like a curious baby. Well, I can't explain it. She just has a certain aura that inexplicably attracts me, Joe Quan murmured to himself. Okay then, I'll try to get it for you. Li Menjiao nodded. At this moment, Liu Yuxin and Yang Lin walked into Xuanmeng Restaurant together and stood behind Li Menjiao. Yaya, what are you fighting for? Liu Yuxin looked at Li Menjiao with confusion. Nothing, I told manager Joe to try to serve the food earlier. Xingxin works so hard she can't go hungry, Li Menjiao explained hesitantly. Ha, Yaya still understands me the best. Manager Joe, I'll leave it to you. Liu Yuxin's face was filled with smiles. She took Li Menjiao's arm affectionately and spoke sweetly to Joe Quan. When Joe Quan heard this, his face flushed instantly. He quickly responded, No problem. The three beauties please move to the private room and wait for a while. The food will be served soon. After saying that, he turned around in a hurry and went back to the kitchen to work. Then Li Menjiao and the other two went to the VIP room together. Not long after, the puffer fish set meal was brought to the table by the waiter. Li Menjiao did not eat the puffer fish sashimi, but instead stretched her chopsticks towards the steaming puffer fish hot pot, picked up a piece of tender fish meat, and put it into her mouth. It's tender and juicy when you take a bite, with the sweetness of the puffer fish meat itself and the rich layers of vegetables and spices in the soup base. Oh, by the way, why didn't Manman come with us today? Li Menjiao asked the two people beside her casually, while enjoying the food with relish. Oh, she went with her fiancé, Yang Lin replied. Tusk, look at Manman, and then look at you too. Why are there no signs of relationship progress? As Li Menjiao spoke, she picked up another piece of golden and crispy fried puffer fish and put it into her mouth. The crispy skin had a nice crunch, while the fish meat inside remained tender and moist. Stop talking, Yayo. You don't know that I met a weird guy on a blind date the day before yesterday. He actually wanted me to quit my job and stay at home to take care of the kids full time. I'm so pissed off, Liu Yuxin said indignantly. Chapter 373, The Blind Date That Can't Be Escaped. Xingxin, didn't you say that you would never go on a blind date? Li Menjiao asked with a smile, blinking her big eyes. Liu Yuxin sighed helplessly and replied with a bitter face. Alas, I was determined not to go, but my parents kept nagging me every day, which was so annoying that I agreed without thinking. Who could have thought that I would meet such a weird guy? What happened next? Yang Lin asked. Then I just picked up the drink and threw it in his face, and then I just left. Liu Yuxin spread her hands and showed an indifferent expression. Hearing this, Yang Lin laughed and gave a thumbs up, praising. Ha, this is the Xingxin we are familiar with. Liu Yuxin nodded vigorously and continued. I'll tell my parents when I get back that I'll never go on a blind date again. It's okay, take your time. You are still young and you don't necessarily have to go on blind dates. There may be a suitable person around you waiting for you to discover. Li Menjiao comforted. Beside me, how could there be? Yiao, you are the happiest right now. Look at how loving you and Lin Xuan are, it's really enviable. By the way, Lin, is there no movement at all over your end? Liu Yuxin looked at Yang Lin with curiosity and asked softly. Yang Lin shook her head gently, her tone very calm. Me, what can I do? I just go on with my life as usual. Aren't your parents anxious? Liu Yuxin continued to ask. Don't worry, my brother just gave birth to a big fat grandson for them, and he is busy taking care of the baby every day. Besides, they live in their hometown far away from me. How can they have the time to take care of my affairs? Yang Lin said proudly. Yang Lin is an introverted girl who likes quietness. I work at school during the day, and most of the people I interact with are female colleagues. My social circle is relatively small, so I have always been single. Liu Yuxin couldn't help but sigh, clasped her hands to her forehead, and muttered with a look of resentment. Ah, why do you only urge me? After finishing the sumptuous puffer fish meal, the three people walked out of the VIP room contentedly. Liu Yuxin looked at Manager Joe with a satisfied smile and said softly, Manager Joe, this puffer fish is so delicious. How much is it in total? As she spoke, her eyes curved into two crescents. Joe Quan quickly glanced at Liu Yuxin, his face flushed, and he replied shyly, You don't have to pay. You are my sister-in-law's best friends. Come here just like you are at home. Eat as much as you want. But Liu Yuxin is not the kind of person who likes to take advantage. She smiled gently, nimbly walked around Zhou Quan, reached out to pick up the menu on the table and took a closer look, and found that the puffer fish set meal was not cheap. Liu Yuxin quickly shook her head and said, "That won't do. I'm the one treating them both, so how can I let Boss Joe spend the money?" Before she finished her words, she had already walked quickly to the front desk, took out her mobile phone and pointed it at the QR code to pay. Zhou Quan quickly chased forward and tried to stop him, saying, "You really don't have to pay." But Liu Yuxin was very efficient and completed the payment operation quickly. After paying, she turned around, smiled at Zhou Quan, and said, "Boss Joe, if you have any new dishes in the store in the future, please remember to tell me." Then Liu Yuxin naturally took the arms of Li Menjiao and Yang Lin, and the three good sisters left Xuanmeng restaurant together, chatting and laughing. Zhou Quan looked at Liu Yuxin's departing back and murmured, "How can I notify her without your WeChat?" After leaving Xuanmeng restaurant, the three of them strolled on the street. After a while, they found a coffee shop with exquisite decoration and warm atmosphere, so they decided to go in and sit down and enjoy a cup of fragrant coffee. Walking into the cafe, soft lights shine on the wooden tables and chairs, and melodious music floats in the air, making people feel extremely relaxed. The three of them each ordered a cup of their favorite coffee and some snacks, then sat around a small, round table and continued to chat happily. Just when we were chatting, suddenly, a crisp ringing sound broke the silence. Yang Lin took out her cell phone from her bag, and the word "Mom" appeared on the screen. "Hello, Mom." Yang Lin's voice was soft and sweet. Lin, where are you now?" Lin's mother's concerned voice came from the other end of the receiver. "I'm outside with friends," Yang Lin replied. "Oh, male friends or female friends?" Lin's mother asked with a smile, with a hint of curiosity in her tone. "A girl, my college roommate. Mom, what's the matter with you calling?" Yang Lin explained. At this time, Li Menjiao and Liu Yuxin, who were sitting next to each other, looked at each other and smiled knowingly. Then Liu Yuxin pinched her throat and deliberately made a slightly low, masculine voice. "Lin, have a bite of the cake." As soon as she finished speaking, before Yang Lin could react, Li Menjiao quickly picked up the fork, picked up a piece of soft and delicious cake, and stuffed it into Yang Lin's mouth without saying a word. Lin, whose voice was that just now, "Didn't you say you were having dinner with your roommates? Why did it sound like a man?" Lin's mother obviously heard the strange male voice and asked in confusion. "No, so my roommate was playing a prank." Yang Lin's mouth was full, and she was chewing the delicious cake with great effort. Her speech became unclear. Li Menjiao and Liu Yuxin, who were sitting next to them, couldn't help laughing any longer and burst into clear and pleasant laughter. "Ha ha ha." Yang Lin glared at the two of them, then stood up and hurried out the door. After a while, Yang Lin came back, put her hands on her hips, and looked at the two men menacingly. "Okay, you two, you like leather, right? Ha ha ha, Lin, we were wrong. Please be magnanimous and don't bother with us," Liu Yuxin said with a smile. "Do you know you're wrong now? You have to compensate me." Yang Lin still had a stern face and said relentlessly, "I'll order another serving of durian bask for you," Li Menjiao said with a smile. She knew that Yang Lin loved eating durian and could finish any amount she could. Moreover, she has the type of physique that will not gain weight no matter how much she eats, and her figure remains slim. This made Liu Yuxin very envious. "HMPH, that's good enough." He then sat down again contentedly, picked up the coffee cup on the table, and continued to drink it in small sips. Lin, why do you look so sad? Is one portion not enough? Then I'll order another one for you," Liu Yuxin asked with concern. "Then order another one. Alas, I'm also being urged to get married. My mother just said she would introduce someone to me." Yang Lin looked worried. Liu Yuxin was stunned at first, then she couldn't help laughing and said as she laughed, "Ha ha ha, Lin, it's your turn." Chapter 374, Who Are You Calling a Pig? It was past 10 o'clock in the evening. Everything was quiet, and the moonlight sprinkled like water into the warm bedroom of the Haitian Yijing villa. Next to the exquisite crib, Lin Xuan carefully and gently placed the adorable little baby in his warm left arm, while his right hand firmly held the little baby's chubby little butt. Accompanied by the lullaby humming softly, Lin Xuan's footsteps seemed to be walking on cotton as he walked back and forth in the room slowly and rhythmically. "Xiaobo, why aren't you sleeping yet? Look how soundly your sister is sleeping," Lin Xuan said gently. At this time, Dabo had already quietly fallen into a sweet dream lying in the crib beside him. Only Xiaobo's big round eyes were blinking, as bright as the twinkling stars in the night sky. The two chubby little hands danced happily from time to time, as if they were playing an interesting game with their father. This little guy just won't sleep. At this moment, there was a slight sound of a door opening. Honey, I'm back. Li Menjiao pushed open the door and walked in with a smile. My wife is back. Did you have a good chat tonight? Lin Xuan looked back at the charming Li Menjiao and said with a smile. Of course I'm happy, Tilda. Li Menjiao answered her husband's question while walking quickly to Lin Xuan. She first raised her head and gently left a sweet kiss on Lin Xuan's cheek, then shifted her gaze to Xiaobao, who was still full of energy. Is Xiaobao still awake? Well, Xiaobao won't fall asleep no matter how hard I try to coax him, Lin Xuan said. Let me do it, husband. You take a rest. Li Menjiao said as she stretched out her hands and took Xiaobao from Lin Xuan's arms. I saw her humming the familiar lullaby softly, her arms swaying gently and rhythmically like willow branches in the breeze. Time seemed to stand still at this moment, and the only sounds around were Li Menjiao's sweet singing and the gentle swaying sound. Soon, Xiaobao fell asleep in his mother's gentle arms. Li Menjiao gently placed him in the crib. After finishing all this, she turned around and sat back next to Lin Xuan with a smug smile on her face. How about it, husband? This is so simple. Lin Xuan took Li Menjiao's hand, kneading it gently, and asked curiously, Wife, how come you fell asleep so quickly after coaxing Xiaobao? Li Menjiao smiled slightly and explained, Maybe it's because babies are naturally closer to their mother's breath. After hearing this, Lin Xuan nodded thoughtfully, and then just looked at Li Menjiao quietly. Li Menjiao stood up and said softly, Okay, I'm going to take a shower. However, just as she was about to walk towards the bathroom, Lin Xuan held her hand slightly tighter. Caught off guard, Li Menjiao staggered and fell into Lin Xuan's broad arms. Wife, I haven't washed yet either. Lin Xuan raised a charming smile and said softly, You haven't washed yet so late. Li Menjiao raised her eyebrows and said coquettishly. Lin Xuan smiled slightly, then picked up Li Menjiao without hesitation. After taking a shower, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao, wearing comfortable pajamas, lay lazily on the soft big bed, hugging each other and watching TV. Because tomorrow is the weekend, the two of them stayed up until very late. When Li Menjiao noticed that Lin Xuan was a little sleepy, she reached out, picked up the remote control beside the pillow, and turned off the TV. Then she pressed the switch of the bedside lamp, and the room was instantly shrouded in darkness. Lin Xuan naturally hugged Li Menjiao tightly in his arms, feeling each other's warmth and breath, preparing to fall into a sweet dream. As time passed, Lin Xuan noticed that the person in his arms was moving slightly. He asked softly with concern, Wife, can't you sleep? Li Menjiao nodded slightly and responded, Yeah, I drank coffee tonight. Lin Xuan smiled dotingly, pinched Li Menjiao's small chin, lowered his head, gently kissed her pink lips, and said softly, Then let your husband tell you a bedtime story. When Li Menjiao heard this, she immediately became interested and urged coquettishly, Hurry up and tell me, hurry up and tell me. Wife, please listen carefully. Lin Xuan smiled and began to tell a story. A long time ago in a beautiful forest, there lived 3 super cute little pigs. One was called Xiaohe, one was called Xiaolan, and the other was called Xiaozhu. Having said this, Lin Xuan deliberately paused and looked at Li Menjiao beside him with a mischievous look. Ha, a piglet is called a piglet, Li Menjiao laughed. Well, just call her Xiaozhu. One night when it was late at night and everyone was asleep, Xiao and Xiaolan were both asleep, leaving you behind. Lin Xuan held back his smile. When Li Menjiao heard the story, she was slightly stunned at first. I am the only one missing. Then I am the piglet. Damn husband, who are you calling a pig? Li Menjiao shouted with a pout. Then she stretched out her little hands and started to make trouble in Lin Xuan's arms. Seeing this, Lin Xuan burst into laughter, and while laughing he hugged Li Menjiao tightly, letting her make a mess in his arms. After a while, the beauty in my arms stopped what she was doing. Wife, why don't you pinch me anymore? Lin Xuan said with a smile. Tired? Li Menjiao bit Lin Xuan's chin and snorted. You will feel sleepy when you are tired. You see, my husband's hypnosis method is very effective, Lin Xuan said with a smile. But I'm still not sleepy, Li Menjiao retorted, blinking her beautiful eyes. In this inky black night, Lin Xuan stared at Li Menjiao in his arms. Her eyes were like sparkling gems, very charming. Then tell me the story, my wife. Lin Xuan gently stroked Li Menjiao's cheek and said tenderly. Li Menjiao seemed to suddenly remember something. After a slight pause, she said, Husband, if you hadn't told me, I would have almost forgotten. I asked Zhou Quan a question tonight. What's the problem? Lin Xuan asked. Li Menjiao smiled and said, I asked him what he likes about our Xingxin. He said that Xingxin had a unique temperament that deeply attracted him. At this point, Li Menjiao raised her head, stared straight at Lin Xuan, and asked doubtfully, Honey, are you guys really attracted to a girl because of a certain special temperament. I think this guy is just attracted by beauty, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Chapter 375, Grandma Fell and Got Hurt. Li Menjiao narrowed her beautiful eyes and asked coquettishly, "So, husband, when you first saw me, were you also attracted to me in this way?" Lin Xuan only reacted for a second. Then he immediately lowered his head to Li Menjiao's face and said, "Of course not. I am deeply attracted by my wife's unique and charming temperament." "Oh, so my husband means that I am not good-looking?" Li Menjiao asked relentlessly. "It's over. No matter how you look at it, it's a fatal question." "Husband, please speak quickly," Li Menjiao urged again. Before she finished her words, her cherry lips were suddenly kissed gently by Lin Xuan. At this time, Lin Xuan's brain was working rapidly. "Got it." While Lin Xuan continued to kiss Li Menjiao affectionately, he said vaguely, "My wife has both a charming temperament and a fairy-like appearance. These 2 points have fascinated me." After hearing these sweet words, Li Menjiao finally showed a satisfied smile on her face and snorted softly. "Humph, that's more like it." Then she couldn't help but yawning loudly. "Are you finally sleepy, honey? Let's go to bed." Lin Xuan hugged Li Menjiao tightly and said gently, "Well, good night, husband." Li Menjiao snuggled into Lin Xuan's arms. The two of them gradually fell into a sweet dream. The time has come to this Sunday night. The city's neon lights flickered constantly, illuminating the entire street with colorful lights. In a corner of this bustling city, Yang Lin was alone in her small rental house, dressing herself carefully in front of the mirror. Although she doesn't like blind dates, she doesn't reject them either. If someone is introduced by a relative, you should always go and meet him politely. So Yang Lin sat in front of the dressing table, concentrating on fiddling with her hair, makeup, and clothing. Before she knew it, she was completely immersed in it. When Yang Lin picked up her phone and took a look, she realized that she was going to be late. She hurriedly got up, walked out of the house and took a taxi. 10 minutes later, Yang Lin came to a coffee shop and walked in hurriedly. As soon as she entered the door, her eyes quickly scanned the entire hall. The others were all in pairs, except for a young man who was sitting alone in the corner with his head down, concentrating on his phone. It must be him. Thinking of this, she took a deep breath, adjusted her somewhat nervous mood, and then walked towards the young man with a slightly hasty pace. "Sorry to have kept you waiting for so long," Yang Lin said with a smile. Hearing the voice, the young man slowly raised his head, and a look of surprise suddenly appeared on his originally calm face. At the same time, Yang Lin also saw the other person's face clearly, and her eyes widened immediately, revealing an expression of disbelief. The two people exclaimed almost in unison, "It's you!" Time flies by, and in the blink of an eye it is already the end of October. In the evening of that day, the sun set and the afterglow shone on the earth, dyeing the whole world with a light orange-red color. After a busy day at work, Li Menjiao returned home and saw that there was no one in the living room on the first floor, so she went straight to her mother Huang Shifeng's room. When she reached the door of the room, she saw through the half-open door that her mother was sitting quietly in front of the window with Dabao in her arms, gazing at the endless sea and the beautiful and charming coastal scenery outside the window. At this moment, the clever Dabao seemed to have noticed something. She turned her head and saw Li Menjiao standing at the door. An innocent smile immediately appeared on the little guy's face, and he shouted happily, "Mom!" Hearing Dabao's tender and clear voice, Li Menjiao felt a warm feeling in her heart. She walked quickly into the room, stretched out her hands, took Dabao from her mother's arms, and held her tightly in her arms. "Hey, my little baby, Mommy is back." Li Menjiao lowered her head and kissed Dabao's pink cheek, her eyes full of love. Dabao, who was held in his mother's arms, seemed particularly excited. He kept waving his little hands and feet and making babbling sounds, as if he was telling his mother about the interesting things he had experienced that day. "Yiao, are you back from get off work?" Huang Shifeng said with a smile. Li Menjiao raised her head and looked at her mother, nodded and replied, "Well, where is Zaya Abao?" Huang Shifeng smiled slightly and replied softly, "Zaya Abao is at Xuelen's place. I just took him out to visit the back garden." Li Menjiao nodded slightly after hearing this. Then she continued to lower her head to tease Dabao in her arms. Dabao was seen giggling, and then using his chubby little hands to grab Li Menjiao's hair and play with it. He looked very cute. "Mom, before I knew it, the children are almost 10 months old." Li Menjiao looked at the adorable Dabao and smiled. "Yes, the children are growing up," Huang Shifeng responded with deep sympathy. After saying that, she slowly raised her head and looked out the window at the colorful sunset, her thoughts gradually drifting away. After a moment's silence, Huang Shifeng suddenly turned around and said to Li Menjiao, "Yiao, I have something to discuss with you." It's the weekend in a few days, and I plan to go back to my hometown. Li Menjiao was slightly stunned when she heard this, and then asked in confusion, Huh, Mom, why do you want to go back so suddenly? Huang Shifeng explained with a worried look on her face. Your grandma accidentally fell at home yesterday and injured her leg. Mom wants to go back to see her. Ah, Grandma fell and got injured. Is it serious? Should we take her to Jinghai City to see a doctor? Li Menjiao couldn't help but exclaimed, her face full of worry. No need. Your aunt has already taken her to the Municipal People's Hospital for an X-ray. There's nothing serious. She just needs to rest for a while. Huang Shifeng hurriedly comforted her daughter. That's good. Li Menjiao breathed a long sigh of relief, and her heart finally settled down a little. But then she said, Mom, why don't we go back and see Grandma together? I haven't seen her for a long time. What about the babies? Huang Shifeng asked hesitantly. Take them together. Li Menjiao thought for a while and said, Is Lin Xuan free this weekend? Huang Shifeng asked. I'll discuss it with him in the evening, Li Menjiao said with a smile. Mom, Dabao stuck out his tongue, opened and closed his mouth and seemed to be hungry. Are you hungry, Dabao? Mommy will prepare something delicious for you right away. Li Menjiao looked at Dabao with a gentle smile on her face. After saying that, she gently picked up Dabao and put him in Huang Shifeng's arms, then turned to the kitchen and started cooking. Chapter 376, Returning Home to Visit Grandma. As night fell, everything was silent, except for the soft light on in the master bedroom where Lin Xuan was. He was sitting in the spacious office area with great concentration, carefully reading the company's recent operational analysis report. Just then, a light figure approached quietly. Li Menjiao walked to Lin Xuan's side. She nimbly got into Lin Xuan's arms and skillfully sat her legs across his strong thighs. A pair of fair and delicate hands naturally hugged Lin Xuan's neck, pressing herself tightly against his warm chest. Honey, are you very busy lately? Li Menjiao asked softly. It's okay. What's wrong, wife? Lin Xuan looked at Li Menjiao and said gently. Well, that's right. I want to take our babies back to Grandma's house. Li Menjiao said in a low voice. Oh, when are you going back? As Lin Xuan spoke, he stretched out one arm and naturally embraced Li Menjiao's slender waist, while his other hand gently stroked her pink cheek, feeling the silky smoothness. This weekend? Li Menjiao raised her head and her eyes met Lin Xuan's, her eyes full of anticipation. Sure, let's go together then. Lin Xuan nodded without hesitation and gave a doting smile. Husband, aren't you busy anymore? Li Menjiao blinked and asked curiously. No matter how busy you are, it's never as busy as your wife's. Lin Xuan gently pinched Li Menjiao's chin, then lowered his head and kissed her affectionately. This kiss was like a spring breeze, instantly melting Li Menjiao's heart into a pool of spring water. My husband is so good to me. Li Menjiao leaned on Lin Xuan's broad shoulders with a happy face and closed her eyes slightly. Why do you suddenly want to go back? Lin Xuan asked gently, feeling his wife's soft body. Grandma broke her leg yesterday, so I wanted to go back to see her, Li Menjiao said softly. Is it okay? Lin Xuan asked quickly. It's just a minor injury. The doctor said that I just need to rest at home, Li Menjiao said, shaking her head gently. The elderly should pay more attention. Let's drive back directly on Friday, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Yes, Tilda, Li Menjiao nodded obediently. Then she felt her body slowly rising. Lin Xuan had already held her and stood up. Honey, aren't you going to look at the computer anymore? Li Menjiao asked coquettishly, looking at the big bed that was getting closer and closer to her. Lin Xuan raised the corner of his mouth slightly, revealing a sly smile and said softly, Don't watch it, there are more important things now. After saying that, he hugged Li Menjiao and fell on the extremely soft big bed. Then Lin Xuan leaned down, gazed at Li Menjiao's beautiful big eyes affectionately, then moved close to her beautiful red lips and kissed her. This Friday, after Li Menjiao got off work, she took her baby and Huang Shifeng and prepared to set off. Mom, I'll be back in 2 days, Li Menjiao said to Zhang Xulan. Okay, son, drive slowly at night, Zhang Xulan instructed. I understand. Let's go. After saying that, Lin Xuan walked towards the garage and drove the Maybach to the door of the villa. Li Menjiao and Huang Shifeng opened the car door and carried Dabao and Xiaobao into the spacious and comfortable back seats one by one. After they fastened their seat belts and sat firmly, Lin Xuan gently stepped on the accelerator, and the Maybach started smoothly and slowly drove away from Haitian Yijing. Along the way, the atmosphere in the car was warm and peaceful. The babies sometimes babbled and sometimes fell asleep sweetly because of the bumpy road. Just like that, after a 4-hour drive, a Maybach finally drove into the small village where Li Menjiao's grandmother lived. Yayayo and the others are here. The grandmother, who had been waiting at the door, saw the familiar luxury car approaching from afar, stood up excitedly and waved at the car. "Are you there? Then we can prepare dinner," Huang Shizhen said with a smile. It was already past 8 o'clock in the evening. The night sky was dotted with stars, and Grandma and Huang Shizhen were waiting for Li Menjiao to come back. Lin Xuan parked the car steadily in front of his grandmother's house, then quickly got out of the car and walked to the trunk, taking out several bags of carefully selected nutritional supplements. "Grandma, we're back." Li Menjiao carried Xiaobo out of the car. At the same time, Huang Shifeng also walked down briskly from the other side of the car holding Dabo. She came to her grandmother and asked with concern, "Mom, how is your leg now?" Grandma smiled and replied in a vigorous manner, "It's nothing serious. Look at me, I'm fine." As she said that, she stretched out her arms, eager to hug the two cute little ones. Grandma first gently took Daba with her left hand and held her tightly in her arms, and then gently picked up Xiaoba with her right hand. Looking at the two cute and innocent children in her arms, the grandmother smiled kindly and warmly. "Babies, give your grandma a hug." "Grandma, these are supplements specially brought to you. They are good for your health," Lin Xuan said to his grandmother with a smile. "Xiaoxuan, you don't need to bring anything with you next time. It's such a waste of money. When you come to see Grandma, she will be happy. When the old lady is in a good mood, her body will naturally become stronger." The grandmother was delighted when she looked at the two children. "Okay, we will come to see you often in the future." Lin Xuan nodded and responded with a smile. "Don't stand outside anymore. Come inside and get ready for dinner." Huang Shizhen's warm greeting came from the room. Everyone walked into the house. Huang Shizhen prepared a table full of meals, and knowing that the babies were coming, she also prepared complimentary foods in advance. "Didn't I tell you to eat first and not wait for us?" Huang Shifeng said with a hint of anger. "It's more lively when everyone is together to eat." Huang Shizhen raised the corners of his mouth, revealing a warm smile, and responded to his sister. Afterwards, everyone sat around the dining table and began to enjoy this sumptuous dinner. After dinner, everyone sat in the living room watching TV. Huang Shizhen and Huang Shifeng were playing with the children, while Grandma was making arrangements for going to the market in town tomorrow. "Grandma, your leg isn't even healed yet. Why are you in such a hurry to go to the market?" Li Menjiao had just finished washing the dishes and walked out of the kitchen. Seeing her grandmother tidying up things, she couldn't help but ask. Lin Xuan took out a tissue and wiped her hands. "I'm almost well now, Yiao. When I was young, this little injury was nothing." Grandma straightened up and answered with a smile. As she spoke, she stood up and walked slowly back and forth in the living room. Although her injuries had healed a lot, she still walked with a limp. Chapter 377, Township Market. "Mom, you should rest at home. Let my sister and I go to the market tomorrow," Huang Shifeng advised with a worried look on her face. "Well, I've listed all the things you need to buy on a piece of paper, and you two just need to buy according to the list." Grandma nodded helplessly, took out a piece of paper from her pocket and handed it to Huang Shifeng. Then everyone continued watching TV, and when it was almost time, they went back to their rooms to sleep. In a room, Li Menjiao lay on her side on the bed, humming a soft lullaby, patiently coaxing the babies to sleep. Her eyes were full of maternal love as she gazed tenderly at the children's quiet faces until their breathing gradually calmed down and they fell into sweet dreams. At this time, Lin Xuan had just finished taking a shower, and his body exuded a fresh bath scent. He climbed onto the bed quietly, fearing to wake the sleeping babies. Then he lay down, approached Li Menjiao, and asked softly, "Wife, do you want to go to the market tomorrow?" "Well, I want to go, but I have to stay and look after the kids with my grandmother." Li Menjiao turned around, snuggled into his broad arms, and spoke softly. "How about this? Let's go to the market together. You buy and I carry." Lin Xuan kissed Li Menjiao's pink cheek with a doting smile on his face. Li Menjiao felt sweet in her heart after hearing Lin Xuan's words, and couldn't help but ask curiously, "Has my husband ever been to the market before?" Lin Xuan thought for a moment and replied, "I seem to have been there a few times with my grandparents when I was a kid, but it was so long ago that I don't remember the details." Li Menjiao smiled and said, "Then I will take you to the market tomorrow to experience the lively atmosphere of the rural market. Let Mom and Aunt stay at home to take care of the baby." As soon as she finished speaking, she raised her head, kissed Lin Xuan on the lips, and smiled like a blooming flower. Lin Xuan smiled and nodded, saying, "Okay, let's get ready for bed and get up early to go to the market tomorrow." As he spoke, he hugged Li Menjiao tightly, as if he wanted to merge her into his body. The temperature in the countryside at night is lower than in the city. Outside the window, cool country breezes blew through the woods, and the leaves made rustling sounds, like a lullaby played by nature. In the warm house, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao were immersed in each other's warmth, sleeping happily in each other's arms. Beside them, two cute little babies were sleeping quietly with sweet smiles on their faces, and they seemed to be having sweet dreams too. Time quickly came to the next morning. Li Menjiao woke up slowly. She raised her head slightly, and her eyes fell on the man beside her who was still immersed in his dream. He closed his eyes tightly, breathing steadily and evenly. Li Menjiao couldn't help but reveal a gentle smile. She picked up the mobile phone beside the pillow quietly, pressed the power button, and the screen lit up. The time displayed on it was just past 6 o'clock. I was thinking of going to the market in town today, but it's still early, so there's no need to rush. So Li Menjiao gently put down her mobile phone, adjusted her posture again, and lay down peacefully on Lin Xuan's warm and broad chest, closed her eyes, and enjoyed this moment of tranquility and warmth. About an hour later, the sun became brighter. Li Menjiao stretched out a slender, white, and tender little hand, gently pinched Lin Xuan's right cheek and called softly, "Husband, get up." Lin Xuan just responded vaguely with then reached out and hugged Li Menjiao tightly again, and continued to sleep soundly. "Husband, if we don't go to the town to attend the market, we will miss the time." Li Menjiao raised her head and gently bit Lin Xuan's face. What time is it?" Lin Xuan just woke up and asked sleepily. "It's past 7 o'clock," Li Menjiao said coquettishly. "Ah, it's so late. Doesn't that mean I'll miss the market?" Lin Xuan suddenly became more awake and muttered in a daze. "No, we're not far from town. We can get there quickly by car." Li Menjiao smiled and comforted him, and at the same time began to struggle against Lin Xuan's arms, preparing to get up, dress, and wash up. At this moment, Lin Xuan suddenly pulled Li Menjiao, who was about to stand up, back into his arms, and quickly moved his face close to hers, pretending to be angry, and asked, who bit me secretly just now?" "The baby bit it." Li Menjiao playfully pointed at the little one who was still sleeping soundly in the crib. "You lied, I'm going to bite you back." Lin Xuan kissed and nibbled her pink cheeks. "Oh, ha, stop it." Li Menjiao put her hands on Lin Xuan's chest, making her giggle. The two of them stayed together for a while before they hurriedly got out of bed to wash and get dressed. When they just walked out of the room, they happened to meet the sisters Huang Shifeng and Huang Shizhen, who were about to go out. "Mom, Aunt, can you stay and help look after the children today? I want to go to the market with Lin Xuan," Li Menjiao asked expectantly. "Yes, I'll drive Menjiao there. It's much more convenient this way," Lin Xuan agreed with a smile. "Well, okay, just buy what's listed on this piece of paper." Huang Shifeng handed Li Menjiao the shopping list that her grandmother had written yesterday. "I know." Li Menjiao took the shopping list with joy, stuffed it into Lin Xuan's pocket, then held Lin Xuan's big hand tightly and walked out the door impatiently. The two men came to the yard and got into the luxurious Maybach sedan. Lin Xuan skillfully started the engine, stepped on the accelerator, and drove towards the town. Along the way, the breeze gently blew against the car windows, bringing bursts of fresh, earthy scent. About 10 minutes later, they arrived at the bustling town market. At this moment, the sun is shining, the breeze is blowing gently, and the market in the small town is like a colorful painting, slowly unfolding before everyone's eyes. Looking around, both sides of the street are lined with a wide variety of stalls. The stall owners are either shouting loudly or bargaining with customers. It is very lively. Suddenly, a low and powerful engine roar came from far away, attracting the attention of the crowd. I saw a black Maybach slowly driving into the center of the market. People stopped what they were doing and looked at the luxury car curiously. Lin Xuan looked out the window at the noisy scene around him with interest and couldn't help but sigh. "It's quite lively here," Li Menjiao said a little embarrassedly. "Hubby, they are all looking at us. If I had known earlier, I would have driven a small electric car." Lin Xuan smiled slightly, stretched out his hand and gently rubbed her hair and said softly, "It's so cold in the morning now. Why are you driving an electric car? What if my precious wife gets frozen?" Hearing this, Li Menjiao felt warm in her heart, and a happy smile appeared on her lips. The car continued to move forward, and Lin Xuan carefully avoided pedestrians while looking for a suitable parking space. Finally, he found a relatively empty corner, so he skillfully backed the car in and parked it steadily. The two got out of the car one after another. Lin Xuan opened the trunk and took out a small and exquisite cart. Li Menjiao ran up happily and took Lin Xuan's hand, while Lin Xuan followed behind pulling the cart. "Market, here we come." Just like that, the couple, like a loving couple of gods, walked into the market full of the atmosphere of fireworks together. Chapter 378, Greedy Wife. Fresh fish and shrimp jumping around. Sweet fruits, if they are not sweet, you don't have to pay. The energetic hawking sounds intertwined and echoed in the air. Entering the market, Li Menjiao first came to the snack stall, where a rich aroma hit her nose. She looked closely and saw that it was a large iron barrel oven emitting an enticing aroma. It was filled with sweet potatoes that were roasted to a golden skin and had a burnt aroma. "Auntie, how much is this roasted sweet potato?" Li Menjiao pointed at the big iron barrel oven and asked curiously. The sweet potato seller smiled and said, "The smaller ones are only 3 yuan each, while the larger ones are 6 yuan each. These are all grown in my own fields, so they are guaranteed to be soft, sticky, and sweet." Li Menjiao saw that the bigger one was obviously more than twice as big as the smaller one. "If I buy 2 large ones, I may not be able to finish them, but buying 2 small ones seems a bit of a loss." After a brief thought, Li Menjiao finally made up her mind and said, "Auntie, give me a big one." "Okay." The lady selling sweet potatoes responded readily, then reached out to pick out a large roasted sweet potato from the iron stove, put it into the bag with skillful movements, and handed it to Li Menjiao. After Li Menjiao got it, she gently broke the roasted sweet potato into 2 halves. Then she handed half of it to Lin Xuan beside her and said gently, "Hubby, come and try it." Lin Xuan took a bite first. The sweet potato was roasted to perfection, with a soft and dense texture and just the right amount of sweetness, without any overly sweet feeling. "It's delicious." Lin Xuan nodded with satisfaction. Li Menjiao blew gently at the half-piece of baked sweet potato, then took a careful bite. In an instant, the wonderful taste spread in her mouth, making her squint her eyes involuntarily, and her heart felt like it was filled with honey. Meat buns, fresh meat buns, golden and crispy fried dough sticks. At this time, the stall owner's shouting could be heard not far away. Li Menjiao looked over when she heard the voice, a glimmer of excitement flashing in her eyes. She excitedly took Lin Xuan's hand and said cheerfully, "Let's go and take a look." As they spoke, the two of them walked towards the stall. "Boss, give me 2 barbecued pork buns. Auntie, give me 2 fried dough sticks." Half an hour later, next to a stall selling special pig's trotter noodles. At this time, a young couple was sitting there leisurely, enjoying the delicious pork trotter noodles. Lin Xuan looked gently at Li Menjiao, who was happily slurping noodles across from him, and asked softly, "Wife, are we here to go to the market?" Li Menjiao raised her head, nodded coquettishly, and replied, "That's right, I'm here to go to the market." As she spoke, she picked up a piece of delicious pork trotter with chopsticks, brought it to Lin Xuan's mouth, and said with a smile, "Come on, open your mouth and try this." Lin Xuan obediently opened his mouth, chewed the fragrant pork trotter, and mumbled incoherently, "I haven't bought anything yet." As he spoke, he pointed to the empty cart next to him. Li Menjiao held the bowl in front of her with both hands, drank a big mouthful of the delicious noodle soup happily, then smacked her lips in satisfaction and said, "You have to fill your stomach first, otherwise how can you have the energy to go shopping?" Then she said with a satisfied look on her face, "Burp Tilda, I'm full, honey. Let's officially start the market now." Lin Xuan shook his head lovingly, smiled helplessly, and said, "Greedy wife." Then he took out a white tissue from the paper box on the table and gently wiped the soup remaining at the corners of Li Menjiao's mouth. Then Li Menjiao happily took Lin Xuan's hand and continued to walk deeper into the market side by side. As she walked, she began to look for the items on the shopping list in her hand. Soon, the originally empty cart was gradually filled with a variety of daily necessities and fresh ingredients. "It seems like I've almost bought it," Li Menjiao muttered to herself, but her eyes were still looking around. Lin Xuan followed her closely. At this moment, Li Menjiao's attention was attracted by a seafood stall not far away. I saw several large basins filled with seafood in front of the old man. The oysters in one of the basins were particularly large and looked very tempting. Li Menjiao walked up quickly and asked curiously, "Boss, how much are you selling these oysters for?" The old man raised his head, a kind smile appeared on his face, and he replied, "Little girl, our oysters are of very good quality. Not only are they super big, but they are also very delicious. They cost 10 yuan each." When Li Menjiao heard the price, she couldn't help but frowned and muttered quietly, "It's so expensive, can it be cheaper?" As she spoke, she stretched out her hand and gently picked up an oyster. Wow, this oyster was actually bigger than her palm. Seeing this, the old man smiled and explained, "Girl, don't think it's too expensive. These oysters were just shipped from the seaside at around 4 o'clock this morning. They are absolutely fresh. They are so big, so the cost is naturally high. I just earn my hard-earned money." "Uncle, how about this? There are about 10 oysters in this basket. I want them all. Can you charge me $9 each?" Li Menjiao rolled her eyes and said. The old man hesitated for a moment, looked Li Menjiao up and down, and finally nodded readily, smiling and saying, "Okay, since you are so pretty and cute, and you have such a sweet mouth, I will sell them to you for $9 each." Upon hearing this, Li Menjiao hurriedly thanked him. "Thank you, uncle." Then she happily paid the money. After buying the oysters, she looked at the full cart behind her. "Honey, I think what we bought can be pretty good," Li Menjiao said. "Well, it's almost done." Lin Xuan nodded slightly. Li Menjiao showed a satisfied look on her face. She gently took Lin Xuan's hand and said, "Then let's prepare to go back now." After saying that, he took Lin Xuan's hand and turned around and slowly walked back along the way they came. Chapter 379, You Can't Bargain in Half. On the way, the two of them bought a lively chicken and a fat goose, preparing to use them for today's lunch. Just as they were about to reach the parking lot, Li Menjiao inadvertently caught a glimpse of an exquisitely decorated clothing store on the side of the road. The window of this clothing store displayed several beautiful clothes suitable for the elderly, which immediately caught Li Menjiao's attention. "Honey, look, there's a clothing store over there. Let's go buy some clothes for Grandma," Li Menjiao said to Lin Xuan excitedly, pointing at the store. Lin Xuan looked in the direction of Li Menjiao's finger, then smiled and nodded in agreement. So Li Menjiao pulled Lin Xuan into the store. As soon as they entered the store, Li Menjiao couldn't wait to go straight to the shelves where fluffy coats and down pants were placed. She carefully compared fluffy coats of different colors and styles, and from time to time she picked up one and held it in front of her to measure. Not long after, Li Menjiao finally chose a lavender plush coat. The texture of this coat is soft and delicate, and it feels great to the touch. "Hello, could you tell me how much this fur coat is?" Li Menjiao held the selected coat and politely asked the store manager who was walking over. The store manager smiled and replied, "You have a good eye, little girl. This fur coat is from a big brand. It not only looks good, but also keeps you warm. You won't feel cold even in the cold winter. But because it's a brand name product, the price is relatively high. It costs 600 yuan. After listening to the store manager's introduction, Li Menjiao nodded thoughtfully, then cast her eyes on the down pants next to her and asked, "How do you sell this pair of down pants?" "This one is the same, very warm, and the price is 200 yuan, said the store manager. "This is too expensive." Li Menjiao pinched the material of the clothes. Although the quality was indeed good, these two items were not worth 800 yuan. It would be better to buy a few pieces online and send them to Grandma. Then she put her clothes back in place, pulled Lin Xuan aside, and prepared to leave. "Hey, little girl, don't go yet. We can discuss the price." Seeing that the customer was about to leave, the store manager hurried forward to stop her. Li Menjiao stopped, turned around, hesitated for a moment, then decisively stretched out 4 fingers and said, 400 yuan. The store manager was embarrassed when he heard this, and quickly waved his hand and responded, "Girl, you can't bargain in half. The minimum price should be 600. Li Menjiao remained unmoved and still insisted on her position, and politely replied, "Then let's go shopping in other stores, thank you." After saying that, she turned around and pretended to walk out again. Seeing this, the store manager was extremely worried, fearing that the deal would be lost, and he hurriedly shouted, Wait, how about 500? It really can't be any lower, girl. The cost price of these 2 clothes alone is 400. When Li Menjiao heard this, the corners of her mouth slightly raised, revealing a satisfied smile, and then she turned back and said, "Deal tilde." Li Menjiao returned to the Maybach, carrying the newly bought clothes. On the other side, Lin Xuan walked slowly back to the driver's seat, started the car, and drove back. "Wife, you're quite good at bargaining, ha ha ha." Lin Xuan had a smile on his face, his eyes fixed on the road ahead, and he began to praise. Li Menjiao couldn't help but smile. "Of course you have to bargain in the countryside. If it were you, my husband, who was buying things, what would you do?" She turned her head curiously and looked at Lin Xuan, who was driving seriously beside her. "Me, I'm too lazy to talk to them so much. If you like it, just buy it," Lin Xuan answered proudly. "A wealthy husband." Li Menjiao reached out her hand coquettishly and gently pinched Lin Xuan's resolute face, her eyes full of love and teasing. "By the way, wife, why did you buy so many oysters?" Lin Xuan asked puzzledly. "Silly boy, of course I bought it to nourish your body." Li Menjiao's cheeks flushed slightly, and she smiled mischievously. "Wife, just wait for me." Lin Xuan responded with a wicked smile. After returning to Grandma's house, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao pushed a full cart into the house. "Grandma, I'm back," Li Menjiao shouted happily. Hearing her granddaughter's call, the grandmother hurried out from the inner room and said with a loving smile on her face, "Hey, look at this cart of things. Why did you buy so much?" As she spoke, Grandma walked forward, wanting to help Lin Xuan share some of the weight. At this time, Li Menjiao took out a brand new down coat and a pair of equally brand new down pants from the cart, handed them to her grandmother like offering treasures, and said excitedly, "Grandma, look, I picked out a new dress especially for you. Try it on and see if it fits you." Grandma looked at the new clothes in front of her with surprise in her eyes, but she scolded. "What a kid! Grandma has so many clothes that she can't wear them all. Why is she wasting money on buying new ones?" Even as she said this, Grandma still smiled so much that the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes deepened a little. "Just give it a try. What's the big deal if you have too many clothes? You can change them up. The weather will get cooler soon." While Li Menjiao was coquettishly persuading her grandmother, she deftly unfolded the furry coat, gently draped it over her grandmother's shoulders, and carefully adjusted the collar and cuffs for her. Grandma obediently put her arms into her sleeves and slowly turned around in place. Li Menjiao, who was standing by, stared at her grandmother without blinking, then nodded with satisfaction. "Well, very beautiful." The grandmother looked down at her new clothes, then reached out to touch the soft and smooth fabric, nodded with satisfaction, and replied, "My yayo has good taste. How much did you buy it for?" "Grandma, don't worry about money," Li Menjiao said to her grandmother in a coquettish tone, and turned to look at her mother Huang Shifeng, who was slowly approaching, with a sweet smile on her face. "Mom, come and take a look. Does Grandma look good in this new dress?" Huang Shifeng smiled and looked her up and down in the new dress, praising her sincerely. "It looks great. Mom looks even younger in this new dress." After hearing the praise from her daughter and granddaughter, the grandmother couldn't stop smiling. She went on to say, "Xiaoxuan Yayo, what do you two want to eat for lunch? Grandma will make it for you." "Grandma, let me cook today. Your legs and feet are not so convenient, so you just need to take a rest." After saying that, Li Menjiao turned and walked towards the kitchen. Looking at the back of his granddaughter, he nodded repeatedly and said, "This child is really sensible." Chapter 380, I Want to Kiss You. Li Menjiao came to the kitchen, took out the chicken, goose, and fresh oysters she bought in the morning and placed them on the table, just as she was about to roll up her sleeves and show off her cooking skills. "Wife, I'm here to help you." Accompanied by the sound of brisk footsteps, Lin Xuan walked into the kitchen with a smile on his face. "Honey, you just need to go out and have a rest," Li Menjiao said gently. "What, do you dislike my cooking?" Lin Xuan blinked and asked jokingly. "No way, my husband's cooking is the best." Li Menjiao hurriedly walked forward, stretched out her arms and gently hugged Lin Xuan's waist, tilted her head back, a happy smile on her face, and stared at him with eyes as clear as autumn water. "In that case, just let me handle it." As he spoke, Lin Xuan leaned over and left a passionate kiss on Li Menjiao's plump and tender red lips. This sudden sweetness made Li Menjiao's cheeks blush instantly. Afterwards, Lin Xuan spread his hands casually. Li Menjiao understood what he meant and obediently picked up an apron and skillfully tied it around Lin Xuan's waist. At this moment, Lin Xuan, wearing an apron, looks more like a warm and homely man. He stared at the ingredients in front of him intently, muttering to himself, "Let's make oyster chicken pot and braised goose today." Then he began to process the ingredients, while Li Menjiao tacitly helped to pass the seasonings, wash and cut the vegetables. Soon, the kitchen was filled with tempting aroma. As Lin Xuan completed the last step, two steaming and mouth-watering home-cooked dishes finally came out of the pot. Li Menjiao looked at the delicious food in front of her and couldn't help swallowing. "Wife, try a piece first." Lin Xuan picked up a piece of tempting, fragrant goose meat with chopsticks with a smile on his face, and slowly handed it to Li Menjiao's cherry-like mouth. Li Menjiao slightly opened her pink lips and took a small bite. The tender and juicy goose meat spreads in your mouth, and the unique braised flavor instantly fills your entire mouth. The rich sauce and perfect cooking make every piece of meat full of deliciousness. "How is it? Delicious, right?" Lin Xuan looked at Li Menjiao's satisfied expression and asked with a gentle smile. "Delicious?" Li Menjiao licked her lips and smiled happily. "What, haven't you eaten enough?" Lin Xuan noticed that Li Menjiao's beautiful big eyes were still staring at the pot, so he smiled and teased. "Yeah, I also want to try the chicken wings over there." Li Menjiao stretched out her slender little hand and pointed at the steaming oyster chicken pot beside her, her eyes full of anticipation. Hearing this, Lin Xuan picked up the chopsticks again, accurately picked up a piece of golden chicken wing from the pot, and then gently put it into Li Menjiao's impatient little mouth. "It's really delicious." Li Menjiao chewed the chicken wings happily and said happily, "Little greedy." Lin Xuan pinched her cheek gently and said lovingly. At this moment, Li Menjiao suddenly stood on tiptoe, pouted her rosy lips, and said to Lin Xuan coquettishly, "Husband, I will give you a kiss as a reward." "No kiss, your mouth is covered in grease." Lin Xuan said deliberately with disgust. Hearing this, Li Menjiao couldn't help but exclaimed, "Ah, how did you kiss me before? You don't want to kiss me now. I want to kiss you." After saying that, she hugged Lin Xuan's neck tightly with both hands, then raised her head and bit Lin Xuan's lips hard several times. In the end, both of them had grease stains on their mouths. When the lunch was served, Huang Shifeng glanced at Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao inadvertently. Seeing the greasy stains on the corners of their mouths, she couldn't help but laugh and asked curiously, "Did you two eat secretly in the kitchen?" "He," Li Menjiao and Lin Xuan nodded embarrassedly. "What's wrong with eating a little, young people? You should eat more. Come, Grandma will give each of you a big chicken leg to replenish your body." As she spoke, Grandma skillfully picked up 2 plump chicken legs with chopsticks and placed them in Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao's bowls respectively. Then she picked up a few juicy oysters and put them into their bowls. In this way, the family sat around the dining table, enjoying the rich and delicious lunch and chatting happily. After lunch, everyone went back to their rooms for a nap. Time unknowingly came to evening, and the warm and soft light of the setting sun gently fell on the quiet and peaceful country road. The trees on the roadside rustled in the caress of the autumn breeze, and golden leaves fluttered down like dancing butterflies, covering the path with a thick golden carpet. In such a beautiful scenery, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao were slowly pushing an exquisite baby carriage with their beloved Dabao and Zaya Abao sitting in it. The 2 little guys stared with their big round eyes full of curiosity, looking around to observe everything strange and new around them. "Menjiao, whose child is this? So cute." At this moment, a kind-looking village lady came up with a brisk pace and asked with a smile on her face, "Auntie Huang, this is my child." Li Menjiao replied with a smile, "Oh, our Menjiao has already given birth to 2 babies." Aunt Huang opened her mouth in surprise. "Yes, Aunt Huang, they are both almost 10 months old," Li Menjiao said as she lowered her head and glanced tenderly at the children in the stroller. "Tusk, tusk, tusk. I never thought that the little girl who used to run around all day would become a mother of 2 children now." Aunt Huang couldn't help but feel deeply moved, and a look of relief appeared on her face. Li Menjiao smiled slightly and said softly, "People always have to grow up, Aunt Huang." "Kui Lan, what are you looking at here?" Just as we were chatting excitedly, a rough male voice came from not far away. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a burly man walking towards them with big strides. "Wow, there are 2 such cute babies here. Whose babies are they?" With the arrival of this uncle, the villagers who were passing by were also attracted. They gathered together and started talking about it. "These 2 little kids are so handsome." "That's right, look at her features. She will definitely be a handsome man or a beautiful woman when she grows up." "That's right, look at this chubby little face. I really want to pinch it." For a while the sound of praise was endless, and the laughter echoed in this small rural land. Chapter 381, First Snow. Night falls quietly, covering the quiet rural courtyard, and the air is filled with the faint aroma of hay. Lin Xuan built a blazing bonfire in the middle of the courtyard. The orange-red flames danced happily, illuminating everything around. When he turned around, he saw Li Menjiao moved a small bamboo stool and gently placed it next to the campfire. "Wife, why did you bring a small bamboo stool here?" Lin Xuan asked with a smile. Li Menjiao raised her head slightly, and her beautiful face looked particularly moving under the light of the fire. She put her hands behind her back and said brightly, "You need to sit on this little bamboo stool, and then I can sit comfortably on your lap." Lin Xuan smiled slightly, then sat on a small bamboo stool and waved gently to the beauty in front of him. Li Menjiao sat down on Lin Xuan, stretched out her arms and hugged his neck tightly, while her 2 slender legs swayed leisurely in the air. At this time, the flames in the bonfire became more and more cheerful, jumping and dancing constantly, making the faces of both of them red. They looked up at the sky and saw a bright moon like a silver plate hanging high in the deep blue night sky, casting a cool and soft silver-white light. The moonlight poured down like water, covering the entire courtyard with a dreamy veil. There was silence all around, broken only by the occasional chirping of autumn insects. In this wonderful atmosphere, Li Menjiao whispered softly, "Hubby, look, the moon is so beautiful." Lin Xuan turned his head with a smile, looked at the lover in his arms affectionately, and replied softly, "My wife is more beautiful." Hearing this, Li Menjiao's body trembled slightly. She turned her head and looked at Lin Xuan lovingly. Her heart felt warm and sweet. Then she put her hand on Lin Xuan's cheek and said softly, "Husband, do you think that when we are old, we can still be together in this peaceful and tranquil countryside, watching the stars and the moon together like we do now? As long as my wife wants, we can do it any time," Lin Xuan said lovingly. Then Lin Xuan couldn't help but sigh. Life in the countryside is really comfortable. It's really nice to get away from the hustle and bustle of the city and live in the countryside occasionally. The most important thing is that at this moment, my loved ones are by my side, and we can experience the beauty of life together. The two of them just hugged each other quietly, immersed in the leisurely and comfortable rural scenery at night. The next day, Sunday afternoon, the sun was shining and the breeze was gentle. Grandma stuffed the produce into the trunk of the car one by one, and as she did so, she said, "Be sure to be safe on the road. Drive slowly and don't rush. If you have time in the future, please come back to see Grandma more often." "I know, baby. Say goodbye to Grandma." Li Menjiao held up Xiaobao's little hand and waved to Grandma. "Mom will go back first. Be careful next time and don't fall again," Huang Shifeng said gently while holding Dabao. Grandma waved her hand nonchalantly and replied with a smile, "It's okay. It's just a minor injury." Then she turned her head and looked at Dabao and Xiaobao kindly, her eyes full of love. "My babies, remember to come back to see Grandma next time. Grandma will make delicious food for you." The babies looked at their grandmother outside the car and thought it was very amusing. They waved their little arms happily and babbled. Lin Xuan said, "Let's go, Grandma. Please go inside. It's windy outside." After that, he got into the car and started the car. With the roar of the engine, the car slowly drove away from the village. Through the car window, everyone waved goodbye to Grandma again. Grandma stood there, watching the car go farther and farther away until it disappeared at the end of the road. After returning to Jinghai City, everything seemed to have returned to its former calm and tranquility. Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao went to work every day as usual. Zhang Xulan and Huang Shifeng are taking care of the lovely babies wholeheartedly at home. The days pass quietly in such trivial, yet warm daily life. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, the babies have entered the 10th month after birth. That afternoon, Li Menjiao finished her last class of the day, packed up her lesson plans and teaching aids, picked up her handbag and walked towards the school gate. Because Lin Xuan drove her to work today, she was not driving at the moment. At the school gate, there stood a man wearing a black coat and a scarf around his neck. His tall and slender figure was leaning against a shiny black Maybach with a thick scarf around his neck. He leaned against the dark Maybach, his tall and handsome face and deep eyes staring straight into the school. I saw his handsome face, his high nose bridge, and especially his eyes as deep as the sea, looking straight into the school as if waiting for something. After a while, the man's eyes were fixed on a figure that was gradually approaching. Li Menjiao was wearing a khaki fluffy coat, a simple white sweater underneath, and a long pleated skirt that swayed gently with her light steps. Her long, smooth hair was casually draped over her shoulders and fluttered in the breeze. Soon, the man noticed a figure wearing a khaki fur coat and a long pleated skirt, slowly walking forward. At this moment, white snowflakes suddenly floated from the gloomy sky. At first, there were only a few scattered pieces, but soon they became dense. The crystal-clear snowflakes are like dancing fairies, falling in the air. Li Menjiao subconsciously stopped, raised her head, and felt the coolness of the snowflakes falling on her cheeks. "Is it snowing?" After fully appreciating the beautiful first snow, Li Menjiao calmed down her excitement a little and continued walking forward with light steps. As she walked, a figure that couldn't be more familiar came into her sight. The corners of Li Menjiao's mouth rose slightly involuntarily, and her originally slow pace suddenly became much lighter. Then she threw herself into his warm and solid arms without hesitation. "Honey, look, this is the first snow in Jinghai City this year." Li Menjiao looked up and smiled. "It's snowing. Is it cold?" Lin Xuan asked gently, looking at the beauty in his arms. Li Menjiao shook her head gently, then stretched out her slender hands and held Lin Xuan's hands tightly. When she touched his slightly cold hands, Li Menjiao couldn't help but feel a pain in her heart and said coquettishly, "You've been waiting outside for a while, haven't you? Look, your hands are so cold. I told you to wear gloves when you go out, but you wouldn't listen." As she spoke, she held Lin Xuan's hands tightly and warmed them with her own hands. "It's enough for my wife to warm my hands. Okay, let's get in the car first. It's warmer inside," Lin Xuan said with a smile. Then he took Li Menjiao's hand, opened the car door, and they both got in the car. The Maybach has heating inside, so it is very warm. Lin Xuan started the car and drove towards the Haitian Yijing Villa. Chapter 382, Where's My Ice Cream? Along the way, Li Menjiao sat quietly in the passenger seat, one hand on her cheek, staring at the snowflakes falling outside the car window. At this moment, Li Menjiao seemed to suddenly think of something and shouted excitedly, "Hubby, I want to eat ice cream, Tilda." Lin Xuan, who was concentrating on driving, refused without hesitation. "Why are you eating ice cream in the middle of winter? You are not allowed to eat it." Hearing this, Li Menjiao was not happy. She quickly turned her head and looked at Lin Xuan pitifully with her big eyes and said coquettishly, "I just want to eat it, just one bite, okay? Husband." But Lin Xuan insisted, "No, it's easy to catch a cold if you eat ice cream in such a cold weather." Li Menjiao tried to persuade Lin Xuan for a while, but Lin Xuan remained unmoved. So he had to use his ultimate move. I saw her slowly leaning towards the car window, and then she collapsed on the seat like a deflated ball with a look of despair, and she sighed deeply, saying faintly, "Oh, my husband definitely doesn't love me anymore." When Lin Xuan heard this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. "How does not letting you eat ice cream in winter mean I don't love you?" After hearing this, Li Menjiao curled her lips and retorted, "That's right. Before you kept saying that you would give me whatever I wanted, but now I can't even have a bite of ice cream." Then Li Menjiao began to chatter again. "Oh, has my husband changed his mind?" Lin Xuan had no choice but to find a place selling ice cream and stop. "We agreed that you can only eat one bite at most." Lin Xuan turned to look at Li Menjiao and said, "Hee, I know my husband treats me the best, yet tilde." Li Menjiao approached Lin Xuan happily, gently held Lin Xuan's cheeks with both hands, and then gave him a big kiss. Then she opened the car door and headed towards the store. After a while, Li Menjiao returned to the car with a small and cute ice cream in her hand. She tore open the package and took a bite eagerly. Suddenly a chill ran straight to her forehead, and she was so cold that she opened her mouth and could only exhale. After seeing this, Lin Xuan couldn't help but move forward, holding Li Menjiao's open mouth and kissing her. Li Menjiao suddenly opened her eyes and asked, "Huh, where's my ice cream?" When they returned home, they immediately saw two cute little guys standing on the sofa in the living room. A 10-month-old baby can already stand steadily and walk around in a small range. When they saw their parents coming back, their originally clear and bright big eyes instantly burst into ecstatic light, and the corners of their mouths raised high, revealing two white baby teeth that had just sprouted. "Daddy, Mommy," a tender child's voice sounded. Seeing this, Li Menjiao quickly took off her coat, walked forward in 2 steps, then squatted down, gently kissed Dabo and Xiaobo on their pink cheeks and asked softly, "Mom is back. Were you good at home today?" The two little guys seemed to understand and nodded hurriedly, making vague, sounds. Then they couldn't wait to dive into Li Menjiao's warm embrace and rub against each other affectionately. At this time, Lin Xuan also walked to the side with a smile on his face, slowly sat down, and played with the colorful building blocks with the babies. Huang Shifeng saw their warm scene, smiled gently, then turned and walked into the kitchen to prepare dinner. Now babies have grown 2 small teeth, which means they can try to eat some small and soft foods. Their dietary preferences also gradually become apparent. For example, Xiaobo obviously doesn't like eating carrots. Every time he sees it, his little face immediately wrinkles, but he has a special liking for the delicious meat. Dabo seems to be easier to feed. No matter what kind of food is placed in front of him, he will open his little mouth without hesitation and eat with relish. So Huang Shifeng walked into the kitchen, put on an apron, and skillfully prepared dinner for the baby. She carefully selected a variety of fresh vegetables, cut them into fine pieces, and then put them into the pot and slowly stewed them. After a while, a pot of mixed vegetable noodles with good color, aroma, and taste was ready. Then she took out flour, red dates, and other ingredients to make sweet and delicious red date steamed cake. When the steaming hot meal was served on the table, the two little ones were immediately attracted. They couldn't wait to climb onto the child chairs, waving their little hands to grab the food. Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao smiled as they carried the babies to the chairs and wrapped them in napkins. I saw the two little guys eating the mixed vegetable noodles in big mouthfuls, and they made satisfied chewing sounds from time to time. The pieces of steamed red date cake made them smile happily as they ate them, and their little faces were covered with cake crumbs. After dinner, Lin Xuan and Li Menjiao carried the babies to the music room, gently placed them on the soft carpet, and then walked to the piano and sat down. Lin Xuan said to the children gently, "Sit down nicely, Dad will play the piano for you." Then he adjusted his gestures and began to play a piano piece suitable for babies, Scenes from Childhood. An elegant piano sound ripples in the music room. When the babies heard the music, they waved their chubby little hands and feet excitedly and twisted their bodies along with the rhythm. They were so adorable. From time to time, there was cheerful laughter. Li Menjiao smiled and raised her mobile phone to take pictures of the babies, capturing every happy moment of the children's growth. At night, after coaxing the babies to sleep, Li Menjiao returned to the master bedroom and saw Lin Xuan lying quietly on the big bed, holding a thick book in his hands, reading intently. She climbed onto the bed lightly and deftly slipped into Lin Xuan's warm embrace. Li Menjiao poked her little head out, blinked her big watery eyes, and asked curiously, "Husband, what book are you reading?" Lin Xuan turned his head slightly, with a gentle smile on his face, and replied softly, "The Code of Conduct for Good Men." Li Menjiao burst out laughing and said coquettishly, "Ha ha ha, does my husband need to watch this? Just take a look because I'm bored." Lin Xuan said lightly, then closed the book and put it on the cabinet beside him. Then he stretched out his arms, hugged Li Menjiao tightly, adjusted her position, and let her lie comfortably on his broad chest. Li Menjiao turned her head obediently, with her ear pressed against Lin Xuan's chest, listening to his thumping heartbeat and watching the white snow falling outside the window. Chapter 383 What are you laughing at? At this time, Lin Xuan was thinking that the system should appear. Ding dong! Congratulations to the host for completing the 10th month of accompanying the babies as they are born. The reward is a set of unique frozen dream jewelry. It will be delivered tomorrow. Please check it. Jewelry again. Lin Xuan couldn't help but stretch out his fingers and gently pinch Li Menjiao's delicate earlobe, thinking that his wife could have another set of beautiful jewelry. "Honey, we want to see the snow." Li Menjiao suddenly turned her head and revealed a charming smile. "Isn't it snowing now?" Lin Xuan responded casually while looking at the sparse snowflakes falling outside the window. "There is too little snow here. I want to see the snow on the mountain." Li Menjiao pouted coquettishly and continued. "For example, where?" Lin Xuan asked with a smile, looking at his lovely wife in front of him. "Lushan," Li Menjiao shouted out the place name excitedly. Then she continued her description with great interest. "I heard from my colleagues this morning that the snow scene on Mount Lushan is particularly beautiful and is completely different from the snow in our city. And I heard that the snow fell earlier in Lushan this year than in previous years. I'm not busy this week, so I can go out and relax." After saying that, Li Menjiao looked straight at Lin Xuan with eyes full of expectation. Lin Xuan gently reached out his hand and lovingly touched Li Menjiao's soft long hair, then slowly leaned over, kissed her pink cheek, and said gently, "In that case, let's go." After hearing this, Li Menjiao smiled and was very happy. Then she took the initiative to offer her soft and warm lips. The two kissed for a while before letting go, and then fell asleep in each other's arms. The next morning, sunlight shone into the room through the gaps in the curtains. Li Menjiao slowly opened her beautiful eyes. After her vision gradually became clear, she lowered her head and found that Lin Xuan was sleeping quietly in her warm arms. Li Menjiao couldn't help but reach out her hand and gently stroked Lin Xuan's soft hair, murmuring softly, "My husband is really like a child now." When her eyes fell on Lin Xuan's hair, she remembered that her husband seemed to have said yesterday that she didn't need to go to the company today. "Since I don't have to go, I can be naughty for a while." So she tiptoed and reached for a drawer in the bedside table. Inside was a box filled with cute scrunchies. Li Menjiao opened the drawer carefully, afraid that any sound would wake up Lin Xuan in her arms. When she finally succeeded in getting those small and exquisite hairbands, Li Menjiao couldn't help but reveal a sly smile. Then, like a skilled hairdresser, she began to create a unique hairstyle for Lin Xuan. She first used her left hand to deftly tie an exquisite little braid on the left side of Lin Xuan's hair, and then tied another little braid in the same position on the right side. It's symmetrical and quite cute. It forms an interesting contrast with Lin Xuan's usual image. After finishing all this, Li Menjiao gently touched Lin Xuan's face, looked at her masterpiece, and nodded with satisfaction. At this moment, Lin Xuan, who was still asleep, suddenly opened his eyes in a daze. Seeing Li Menjiao laughing so hard, he asked in confusion, "My wife is awake." Looking at Lin Xuan's cute appearance, Li Menjiao couldn't help it anymore. She quickly covered her mouth with both hands and giggled. "Wife, why are you laughing so early in the morning?" Lin Xuan asked with a puzzled look on his face. "It's nothing, honey. You are so cute today," Li Menjiao said softly. She stretched out her hands, gently held up Lin Xuan's handsome face, and kissed him lightly on the forehead. Lin Xuan blinked, cute. At this time, Li Menjiao had already climbed out of the warm bed with swift movements. As she walked towards the bathroom, she turned back and said gently, "Okay, I'm going to get up and go to work. Honey, you should sleep a little longer." After a while, the sound of running water came from the bathroom. "Wife, how about I take you there?" Lin Xuan supported his body with one arm and looked towards the bathroom sideways. "No need, I can drive there myself. Husband, you stay at home with the kids." Li Menjiao responded vaguely with a toothbrush in her mouth. After a while, Li Menjiao suddenly poked her head out of the bathroom, her mouth full of foam but still mumbling excitedly. "Oh, and let me arrange the itinerary for our trip to Lushan this time, husband. Just enjoy it." "That's great. What else has my wife prepared?" Lin Xuan asked curiously. After brushing her teeth, Li Menjiao quickly walked to the bedside, gazed at Lin Xuan lovingly, bit his cheek gently, and whispered, "Secret Tilda. My wife bit me again." Lin Xuan pretended to be angry. "Girls always like to bite the ones they love." Li Menjiao smiled coquettishly, then turned and walked to the dressing table and started to put on makeup. After a while, Li Menjiao put on light makeup, and her delicate eyebrows and pink lips made her look even more charming and pretty. After packing everything, she reached out and picked up the small handbag, then walked towards Lin Xuan, who was still lying on the bed. Li Menjiao leaned over and gently kissed Lin Xuan on the lips, then smiled and said, "I'm going to work." Then she turned and walked away gracefully. When Lin Xuan saw his charming wife leave, he yawned, then fell headfirst onto the bed and continued to sleep soundly. Time passed quietly, and 2 hours had passed before I knew it. A crisp alarm suddenly rang, breaking the silence in the house. Lin Xuan opened his eyes dazedly, reached out his hand to grope for the phone on the bedside table, put it to his ear, and responded vaguely, "Hello." A young man's voice came from the other end of the phone. "Hello, Mr. Lin. Here is a package for you. Please sign for it." Lin Xuan rubbed his sleepy eyes and replied casually, "Please put it in the express locker at the entrance of the villa. Thank you." After saying this, he was about to hang up the phone and continue his meeting with Zhou Gong. However, at this moment, the courier boy hurriedly said, "Mr. Lin, I'm so sorry, this package contains very valuable items, so you must come in person to pick it up." When Lin Xuan heard this, he wondered if the ice and snow dream jewelry rewarded by the system had arrived. Thinking of this, he instantly perked up and quickly replied, "Okay, I'll come get it right away." Lin Xuan quickly got out of the warm bed, put on a thick coat, and hurried towards the gate outside the villa. Soon, Lin Xuan arrived at the gate. The courier boy saw Lin Xuan and his unique hairstyle from a distance. He was stunned at first, then he couldn't help but hold back his smile and asked, "Hello, are you Mr. Lin?" "Yes," Lin Xuan replied calmly. Haha, sir, this is your express, please check it." The courier boy couldn't help laughing as he handed over the package. Lin Xuan looked at the other person with some confusion and asked, what are you laughing at?" Chapter 384, Husband, you abused me. After saying that, he quickly signed his name and took the delivery box from the courier boy. Nothing, I wish you a happy life." The courier boy suppressed his smile, got on his tricycle, and left quickly. "This is so confusing," Lin Xuan muttered, scratching his head subconsciously. Just then, he suddenly felt that something seemed wrong with his hair. A strange touch startled him, and he hurried back to the master bedroom of the villa. He put the express box aside and went straight to the large mirror where his wife often looked at her whole body. After standing still, Lin Xuan looked carefully and his eyes widened instantly. I saw 2 extremely cute pink hairbands appeared on both sides of his head. No wonder the courier was laughing just now. "You are such a naughty wife." Lin Xuan took out his cell phone, took a photo in front of the mirror, then sent it to Li Menjiao and wrote a few words. "Wife, just wait for me at noon." Then Lin Xuan went to the bathroom to brush his teeth and wash up. After tidying up, he picked up the express box again. He opened the express box, and his eyes lit up immediately. Inside was a rectangular box made of dark blue velvet. The whole box looks exquisite and gorgeous, feels soft and smooth to the touch, giving people a feeling of nobility and elegance. The surface of the box lid uses a unique embossing process, carefully carving out exquisite snowflake patterns. In the center of the box lid, there is a silver metal nameplate with the words "Ice and Snow Dream" engraved on it in a very artistic font. After finishing a class at school, Li Menjiao returned to her office to rest. She picked up the phone on the table, unlocked the screen, looked at it, and then laughed softly. She immediately replied, "Honey, does the little bun I made for you look good?" Not long after, Lin Xuan's reply popped up, "Not good looking." Li Menjiao pouted slightly and replied, "I think it's pretty." Lin Xuan quickly sent another message, "You'll have something interesting to see at noon." Seeing this, Li Menjiao's originally fair face instantly flushed. "Humph, I won't pay attention to you." Then she took advantage of her spare time to open Zio Hongshu and started searching for Lushan travel guides and hotels. Time passed quietly, and in the blink of an eye it was noon. Li Menjiao finished her busy work in the morning and returned home with a brisk pace. After a simple lunch, she and Lin Xuan walked into the master bedroom together. Li Menjiao stepped into the room first, but just as she turned around, Lin Xuan suddenly hugged her tightly from behind. After a while of dizziness, They both fell onto the bed. "Husband, you abuse me," Li Menjiao shouted coquettishly, putting her hands on Lin Xuan's chest with a pitiful expression. "Is this considered domestic violence? Then who secretly braided my hair while I was sleeping this morning?" Lin Xuan leaned close to Li Menjiao's ear and whispered. His warm breath brushed her skin, causing her to shiver slightly. "I think it's cute." Li Menjiao blinked mischievously, and as she spoke, she reached out and gently stroked Lin Xuan's hair, and even playfully made the gesture of braiding her hair again. "It's not cute at all. When I went to get a package, people laughed at me." Lin Xuan raised his head, put his forehead against Li Menjiao's forehead, and complained. "Ha ha ha, who told you not to look in the mirror before going out?" Li Menjiao couldn't help laughing. "Okay, you're blaming me now. I'll teach your naughty wife a lesson." Lin Xuan raised a wicked smile. He quickly leaned down and kissed Li Menjiao's plump and tempting lips. In the afternoon, Li Menjiao sat at her desk, covering her mouth with one hand, trying hard to suppress the yawns that kept coming. Her originally bright eyes now looked a little sleepy and lifeless. At this time, an older female colleague in the office noticed Li Menjiao's condition and asked with concern, "Menjiao, you look so listless. Did you not sleep at noon?" Li Menjiao forced a smile and replied softly, "No, I just didn't sleep well at noon." "What do you mean I didn't sleep well? I didn't sleep at all. My husband is really bad. He told me he has to go to work in the afternoon." Then she took out her cell phone and sent Lin Xuan 3 cute bad guy emoticons. Finally, it was time to get off work. Li Menjiao did not go home directly, but drove to a famous high-end jewelry store in Haitian district, Jinghai City. The car soon stopped in front of the jewelry store. Li Menjiao got out gracefully and walked into the store with light steps. As soon as I walked in, a smiling, well-dressed clerk came up to me and said enthusiastically, "Hello, welcome, how can I help you?" Li Menjiao nodded politely and responded, "Hello, I would like to see if there are any pendants suitable for men." The clerk smiled and made a gesture of invitation, leading Li Menjiao to the jewelry pendant display area. Standing in front of the display cabinet, Li Menjiao leaned over slightly, lowered her head, and carefully and attentively examined the various styles of pendants displayed inside. At this moment, the clerk next to her asked softly, "Excuse me, beautiful lady, what is your budget for the pendant? This way I can help you select products that meet your requirements more accurately." "My budget is only 50,000 yuan. Li Menjiao lowered her head slightly, her cheeks flushed, and she spoke a little embarrassedly. "You know, the gifts Lin Xuan gave her every time were gold, silver, and jewelry worth millions, and those dazzling lights seemed to still be shining before her eyes. However, the salary she saved from her hard work over the past few months was only 50,000 yuan. This time, Li Menjiao wanted to buy an exquisite pendant for Lin Xuan as his birthday gift, but she didn't want to use the money Lin Xuan gave her. 50,000. That means there are relatively few choices." The clerk answered with a smile and shook his head slightly, indicating that he was a little embarrassed. After all, this is a well-known high-end jewelry store. Every piece of jewelry displayed here is a rare treasure, and the price is naturally not cheap. It is indeed difficult to pick out satisfactory works here with just 50,000 yuan. Hearing the clerk say this, Li Menjiao couldn't help but frown. "What if it's 1 million? Chapter 385 Star Walker. The clerk showed a surprised smile on his face and responded enthusiastically, "If it's 1 million, there are many choices, such as this one." The clerk took Li Menjiao to a place. As he spoke, the clerk led Li Menjiao to a corner of the store. At this moment, Li Menjiao's eyes were instantly attracted by the pendant in front of her. It was a pendant emitting a charming luster, as dazzling as the twinkling stars in the night sky. The clerk proudly introduced, "This pendant is the latest one carefully crafted in our store. It has a very beautiful name, Star Walker. Its main body is made of 22K rose gold, with an 8-carat top-grade black diamond in the center, and surrounded by 21-carat top-grade white diamonds, just like bright stars surrounding a mysterious black hole. The pendant also uses a brushed surface to create a delicate texture that resembles the trajectory of stars." Li Menjiao listened to the clerk's endless introduction, her eyes never leaving the Star Walker pendant. She imagined how handsome her husband would look wearing this pendant, and a sweet feeling welled up in her heart. Although the price of this pendant exceeded her original budget by 950,000, she no longer cared about that at the moment. "Anyway, I'll just consider this money as something I owe my husband for now, and I'll find a way to make it up to him later." Just like that, Li Menjiao quietly admired it for a while, and finally made up her mind to turn around and said to the clerk, "I want this pendant, please wrap it for me." Li Menjiao walked out of the jewelry store holding the top-quality velvet box. returned to the car, started the car happily, and drove towards home. After returning home, she hid the box first and then went to the kitchen to find Lin Xuan. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of food, and Lin Xuan was standing in front of the stove, skillfully frying the dishes in the pot. Hearing footsteps, Lin Xuan turned around and saw Li Menjiao walking towards him with a smile on her face. "Honey, I'm back," Li Menjiao said in a tender voice, while opening her arms and hugging Lin Xuan, who was cooking. Lin Xuan felt the softness behind him, the corners of his mouth slightly raised, and he asked with a smile, "What's the matter? You are so happy." "Nothing, I'm just happy to see my husband." Li Menjiao raised her head and gave Lin Xuan a brilliant smile. Lin Xuan laughed when he heard this and said jokingly, "Then why did you keep glaring at me with that resentful look before you went to work at noon?" When Li Menjiao heard this, her smiling face instantly fell and she pouted and said, "It's because you didn't let me take a nap." Lin Xuan quickly coaxed him. "Haha, okay, it's all your husband's fault. I specially made you your favorite cod fillet as compensation." As he spoke, he pointed to the cod fillet that had been fried golden and crispy on the side. Li Menjiao's eyes suddenly lit up, but she still pretended to be angry and said, "Humph, for the sake of delicious food, I'll forgive you for the time being." After saying that, she stood on tiptoe, gave Lin Xuan a hard kiss on the right cheek, then walked out of the kitchen and sat in front of the dining room waiting for the delicious food to be served. Not long after, Lin Xuan brought the carefully cooked cod fillet to the dining table. Li Menjiao, who was standing by, could no longer suppress her inner eagerness and immediately picked up the knife and fork to start eating. "Honey, I've already prepared a travel guide for Mount Lushan," Li Menjiao said vaguely while chewing the juicy cod fillet. Lin Xuan raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a gentle smile. "Have you chosen a hotel?" "Of course I have chosen it." Li Menjiao quickly took out her cell phone from her pocket, opened the photo album, and then turned the screen to Lin Xuan, introducing it enthusiastically. "I plan to book this Snow View courtyard. Look at the photos. Many netizens say that the environment here is simply stunning." Lin Xuan took the phone and looked through the beautiful pictures carefully and meticulously. After a while, he nodded with satisfaction and responded with a smile. "Well, it's really nice. But if it's just the two of us living here, isn't this yard a little too big?" Hearing this, Li Menjiao blinked her big, lively eyes, and after a little thought, she replied, "So I was thinking, should I ask a few more people to go together? This way it will be more lively." "Sure, no problem." Lin Xuan readily agreed, and at the same time considerately picked up a piece of fragrant cod fillet and put it on Li Menjiao's plate. Li Menjiao accepted this love with great joy and continued to enjoy the food. Suddenly, an idea came to her mind and she suggested, "Then why don't we ask Yu Zin to go with us?" Lin Xuan hesitated for a moment and asked, "Are you just calling Yu Zin?" "Husband, call me Zhou Quan again." Li Menjiao showed a sly smile. "Ha, is this okay? Let them two eat our dog food." Lin Xuan teased with a smile. "I think they are a good match, so I would like to take this opportunity to bring them together," Li Menjiao explained with a smile. "Okay then, you trick Yu Zin over here first, and then I'll go ask Zhou Quan," Lin Xuan said with a smile, holding Li Menjiao's little hand. "What if Zhou Quan doesn't come later?" Li Menjiao blinked and asked worriedly. "Don't worry, if Yu Zin agrees to go, Zhou Quan will definitely come," Lin Xuan said confidently. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it is the next afternoon. After get off work, Li Menjiao drove her Xiaomi SU7 directly to Xuanmeng Building. After a while, the car stopped steadily in front of Xuanmeng Building. Li Menjiao got out of the car gracefully and walked straight to the lobby of the building with light steps. "Madam Chairman, good afternoon." The receptionist recognized Li Menjiao and said respectfully. Hearing this address, Li Menjiao was slightly startled, but then she responded with a friendly smile and gently waved her hand. "Hello." Then she quickened her pace, walked into the elevator, and went straight to Liu Yuxin's office. Although she appeared calm and composed on the surface, she was actually a little embarrassed. After all, it's embarrassing to be called chairman's wife by everyone. Soon, the elevator arrived at the Human Resources Department. Li Menjiao walked in quietly and pushed the door open gently. Why is there no one here? Is it time to get off work? Probably not yet, the computer is still on. Li Menjiao walked to Liu Yuxin's workstation and took out her cell phone to send her a message. "Xingxin, what are you doing?" Soon, the other party sent a picture. It turns out that Liu Yuxin is in a meeting in the conference room. Li Menjiao, "I'm going to report you for slacking off in the meeting, Xingxin." Liu Yuxin, "Yeah, you've been feeling itchy lately, right?" Li Menjiao, "Ha, when will the meeting end?" Liu Yuxin, "It should be soon. What's the matter? What do you want to talk to me about?" Li Menjiao, Nothing, I just asked you out of boredom, work hard. Upon seeing this, Liu Yuxin sent her a big eyes rolling emoticon. Then Li Menjiao slumped in Liu Yuxin's office chair, playing with her mobile phone comfortably while waiting. 10 minutes later, Li Menjiao, who was concentrating on playing with her mobile phone, turned around to look. I saw Liu Yuxin standing there, holding a notebook in her hand, with her hands on her hips, looking like she was ready to accuse someone. Who is it? How dare you sit on my chair so brazenly? Liu Yuxin shouted, deliberately raising her voice. It's Yayo, Li Menjiao said with a smile. Chapter 386. You have to call another single dog to share the dog food. Liu Yuxin crossed her arms, squinted her eyes, and looked Li Menjiao up and down, then asked slowly, Who is Yayo? Yayo is the chairman's wife. Li Menjiao raised her head proudly. Liu Yuxin couldn't help laughing out loud, shook her head and said, all right, I lose to you. As he said this, he pulled a chair over and sat down. Yayo, what happened today? Why did you suddenly come to me? Li Menjiao raised the corners of her mouth slightly, revealing a charming smile. If nothing happens, can't I find Xingxin? Hearing this, Liu Yuxin couldn't help but roll her eyes. Come on, ever since you married Lin Xuan, when didn't I take the initiative to look for you? Alas, there is no love anymore. At this time, Li Menjiao hurried forward, gently patted Liu Yuxin's little head and coaxed softly. All right, now I'm here to see you in person. Let's go out for a nice meal, how about that? You please, Liu Yuxin raised her little face. In a busy mutton restaurant on the corner, Li Menjiao and Liu Yuxin sat by the window. The charcoal-fired lamb pot in front of me is bubbling with steam, and the tender lamb is rolling in the pot, emitting an enticing aroma. Liu Yuxin couldn't wait to pick up the spoon, happily scooped up a large spoonful of mutton and put it into her bowl, then began to eat it with relish. Just as she was eating with gusto, Li Menjiao, who was sitting opposite her, narrowed her beautiful eyes and looked at Liu Yuxin and said softly, Xingxin, I have something to trouble you with. The chopsticks in Liu Yuxin's hand suddenly stopped in mid-air, and she was stunned. Okay, I was wondering why you came to me all of a sudden. Tell me what's the matter. Can you accompany me to Lushan for 2 days this weekend? Li Menjiao looked at Liu Yuxin with anticipation. Why did you suddenly think of going there? Liu Yuxin asked with some confusion. I heard that the snow scenery there is particularly beautiful, so I want to go and see it. Li Menjiao said excitedly. Well, it's okay, but is it just the two of us? Liu Yuxin raised her head and met Li Menjiao's smiling eyes. Her heart skipped a beat, and she felt something was wrong. He, of course not. There's also my husband Tilda, Li Menjiao replied with a smile. Hearing this, Liu Yuxin's face changed instantly. She quickly stood up and muttered, Well, something suddenly happened at home, so I have to leave first, he said, and prepared to turn around and leave. However, Li Menjiao was quick-witted and grabbed her. Yayo, you're going too far. It's you two who are going out to have fun. Why do you have to drag me along to eat your dog food? Liu Yuxin complained with a resentful look on her face. Every time my husband goes on a trip, he just sleeps in the hotel when he gets there. It's not fun at all. It would be much more fun if you were with me. Li Menjiao shook Liu Yuxin's arm and said, I'm sorry, husband. I have to sacrifice you temporarily. Lin Xuan. At this time, Liu Yuxin was being dragged by Li Menjiao and was shaking her head. Oh, that's enough. She patted Li Menjiao's little hand away, then crossed her arms across her chest. I can go, but you have to call another single guy to share the dog food. After hearing this, Li Menjiao smiled and said, It's a deal. Liu Yuxin had a bad feeling. At the same time, at Xuanmeng Restaurant in Jinghai City. At this moment, the lighting in the restaurant was soft and warm, and the guests were chatting in low voices, enjoying the pleasure brought by the delicious food. Lin Xuan sat quietly at the dining table, looking at the okay expression Li Menjiao sent on his phone, and he smiled faintly. At this moment, Zhou Quan walked over to sit opposite Lin Xuan and asked curiously, Brother Xuan, how come you have time to come to see me today? Lin Xuan raised his head, glanced at Zhou Quan, and replied with a smile, Quaner, are you busy this week? As he spoke, he scooped a spoonful of the steaming fish soup in front of him and put it into his mouth, savoring the delicious taste. Zhou Quan also picked up a pair of chopsticks on the table and started eating. While eating, he responded, I'm very busy every week. What's wrong? Brother Xuan wants to talk to me about something. Lin Xuan swallowed the food in his mouth and said, Take a break this weekend and accompany me to Mount Lushan for 2 days. Hearing this, Zhou Quan stopped what he was doing and said in surprise, why are you going there for no reason? And 2 grown men, how boring. Lin Xuan still had a smile on his face and said slowly, And my wife. When Zhou Quan heard this, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly unconsciously. Then he swallowed a piece of fish meat in one gulp, and stood up while speaking hastily. Brother Xuan, there's something going on in the kitchen. I need to go take a look. After saying that, he wanted to slip away. Lin Xuan smiled and added, by the way, I forgot to tell you that Liu Yuxin will go with us too. When Zhou Quan heard this, he slowly stepped back a few steps, then silently sat back in his chair and asked tentatively, so when do we leave? Time slipped quietly to Friday afternoon, and the sun shone on the spacious and busy airport gate of Jinghai City. Yiyayo, here I come. Accompanied by a clear and pleasant shout, Liu Yuxin came quickly to Li Menjiao carrying a small suitcase. Xingxin, you're finally here. Li Menjiao smiled brightly. Huh, where's your husband? Liu Yuxin looked around but didn't see Lin Xuan. He went into the airport first. Li Menjiao opened her red lips and explained softly. Oh, so that's how it is. Liu Yuxin nodded. Then, as if she remembered something important, she asked, you said you called another single guy. Who is it? Before I finished speaking, I heard a male voice with a hint of charm behind me. Sorry, I'm late. When Liu Yuxin heard the voice, she looked back and found Zhou Quan scratching his head embarrassedly, looking at them both with an apologetic look on his face. Chapter 387, Who said I don't like him? It's okay, we just arrived not long ago. Li Menjiao smiled and waved her hand. Suddenly, she was pulled aside by a strong little hand. The two of them started talking in whispers. Hey, Yaya, why did you call him here? Liu Yuxin asked with some anger. That's what you said. You wanted to find a single person to share the dog food with you. Li Menjiao showed an innocent expression. Liu Yuxin couldn't help but frown and said unhappily, but can't you find a girl? Why does it have to be a boy? Lin is on a business trip this week, and Manman has to accompany her fiancé and is busy too. Li Menjiao spread her hands helplessly. Liu Yuxin covered her forehead helplessly. Seeing her best friend's reaction, Li Menjiao felt a little disappointed. She muttered softly, Xingxin, I'm sorry. If you don't like him, I will apologize to him and let him go back first. As she said that, she was about to walk towards Zhou Quan. Liu Yuxin hurriedly reached out and grabbed Li Menjiao, blurting out, Who said I don't like him? Li Menjiao turned around, a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes and asked with a smile, So you like it? However, facing such a direct question, Liu Yuxin seemed a little flustered and answered hesitantly, It's not that I like it. Anyway, it's just, I don't know how to describe it. As she spoke, she turned her head involuntarily and cast her gaze again at Zhou Quan, who was not far away. Zhou Quan is not tall, but he has a handsome face, especially his clear and bright eyes, which seem to be able to see through people's hearts. Coupled with his gentle, friendly, easygoing, and likable personality, he makes people feel like spring breeze. I don't know when, but every time I see Zhou Quan, Liu Yuxin would feel an indescribable feeling in her heart. Li Menjiao, who had been silently observing Liu Yuxin's reaction, naturally would not miss the subtle changes in her eyes. There's hope. If Xingxin doesn't mind, let's go together, Li Menjiao said while the iron was hot. Liu Yuxin hesitated for a moment and finally nodded gently. At this moment, a figure in a neat captain's uniform appeared in front of everyone. Why are you still standing outside? Are you ready to enter the airport? Lin Xuan said with a smile. Hearing Lin Xuan's words, Li Menjiao turned to look at Liu Yuxin and said happily, Let's go, Xingxin. Liu Yuxin nodded and replied softly, Okay. Then she took Li Menjiao's arm, and they walked towards Lin Xuan side by side. Seeing this, Zhou Quan on the side also walked up quickly, looked at Lin Xuan with envy and exclaimed, Brother Xuan, your clothes are so handsome. After hearing Zhou Quan's praise, Lin Xuan couldn't help but laugh and scolded, Stop flattering me. As he spoke, he stretched out his right hand and naturally placed it on Zhou Quan's shoulder, then led him into the airport, while Li Menjiao and Liu Yuxin followed closely behind. Not long after, the three people successfully boarded the plane driven by Lin Xuan. As the cabin door slowly closed, the engine roared and the plane sped towards the distant Lushan airport. A few hours later, accompanied by a slight vibration and roar, the plane slowly landed on the runway, gradually slowing down until it finally stopped. The cabin door opened, and passengers began to disembark in an orderly manner. Li Menjiao, Liu Yuxin, and Zhou Quan also walked out of Lushan Airport together. They stood in the arrival hall waiting for Lin Xuan. While waiting boredly, Liu Yuxin turned her gaze to Zhou Quan beside her and asked, Manager Zhou, has your restaurant launched any new dishes recently? When Zhou Quan heard the question, he quickly responded, Yes, I just didn't have time to contact you. How can we contact each other if you don't have any contact information? Li Menjiao couldn't help but interrupt. When Liu Yuxin heard this, she felt that it was true and then said, Yes, Manager Zhou, let's add each other on WeChat. Okay. Zhou Quan hurriedly took out his mobile phone from his pocket and scanned Liu Yuxin's friend QR code. At this moment, Lin Xuan finally appeared. I saw that he had changed out of his straight and handsome captain's uniform, put on a set of casual and comfortable clothes, and walked towards me with brisk steps. With a warm smile on his face, he walked closer and said, "Sorry for the wait. We can set off now." As soon as she finished speaking, Li Menjiao immediately turned around and prepared to hail a taxi on the roadside, but her hand was grabbed by Lin Xuan. Li Menjiao looked at Lin Xuan with a puzzled look on her face and asked in confusion, "Husband, what's wrong?" Lin Xuan smiled and explained, "No need to take a taxi. I rented a car here in advance." Li Menjiao widened her eyes in surprise and asked, "Rent a car?" Lin Xuan nodded affirmatively and responded, "Well, follow me." As he spoke, he led everyone towards a parking lot near the airport. I saw a man in a black suit standing there straight, as if he had been waiting for a long time. Next to him, there was a U8 off-road vehicle in obsidian black that exuded unparalleled dominance. Its cool appearance attracted people's attention. "Excuse me, are you Mr. Lin?" The man in a suit asked politely and gently with a smile on his face. "Yes, that's me," Lin Xuan responded. "This is the car you reserved for rent. Please enjoy it." After confirming Lin Xuan's identity, the man in the suit gracefully handed the car keys to Lin Xuan. "Thank you." Lin Xuan took the key and thanked him briefly. Immediately afterwards, Lin Xuan and Zhou Quan moved the heavy luggage one by one into the spacious trunk of the car. The reason why Lin Xuan chose the Yangwang U8 model is that when it is equipped with special snow tires, its powerful performance is enough to cope with complex road conditions such as steep slopes, and it can even drive directly up to the steep mountain Guling town of Lushan Mountain. "Brother Xuan, you are really generous. The car you rent is a top-of-the-line luxury car worth millions," Zhou Quan said. "Have you added him on WeChat?" Lin Xuan asked while moving the luggage non-stop. "Hee, it's added," Zhou Quan grinned. Quaner seized the opportunity. Lin Xuan closed the trunk, then stretched out a hand, put it on Zhou Quan's shoulder, and gave him earnest instructions. "I'm just afraid that she doesn't have any interest in me," Zhou Quan said worriedly. "Get to know her more. I think she should have a good impression of you. Be a real man and don't be so shy." Lin Xuan patted Zhou Quan on the shoulder and encouraged him with a smile. "Okay," Zhou Quan nodded vigorously. Chapter 388, "We are also used to your dog food. Then let's get in the car quickly." As he said that, Lin Xuan opened the car door first and sat in the driver's seat with swift movements. Seeing this, Zhou Quan immediately opened the passenger door and got in. At this time, Li Menjiao and Liu Yuxin had been waiting in the back seat for a long time. The two were talking in low voices, their faces filled with smiles of excitement and anticipation. After everyone was seated, Lin Xuan started the car skillfully, slowly drove out of the parking lot, and headed towards Guling town on Mount Lushan. Along the way, the atmosphere in the car was relaxed and cheerful, and everyone was talking and laughing while discussing the next travel plans. At first, there were lush green trees on both sides of the road, but as the altitude continued to rise, the green gradually faded and was replaced by withered yellow grass, which looked a bit bleak. At the same time, the temperature began to drop gradually. Li Menjiao turned her head slightly and looked out the car window. At this moment, she was surprised to find that white snowflakes were falling from the gray sky. These snowflakes dance in the air like elves, and then gently fall on the ground, trees, cars. The snowflakes fell bigger and heavier, and soon covered the surrounding mountains with a thick layer of white. Everyone was attracted by the beautiful snow scene before them, and exclaimed in amazement. Lin Xuan also slowed down the car, so that everyone could better appreciate this rare beauty. About 2 hours later, we finally arrived at Guling town. Lin Xuan parked the car in front of the hotel he had booked in advance. The car doors were opened one by one, and the cold air blew in, making people shiver. So everyone put on thick coats and filed into the hotel. This hotel is an upscale snow view courtyard covering a large area. The yard was covered in silver, and snowflakes were falling heavily, as if covering the entire yard with a layer of white gauze. Walking along the bluestone path, a tranquil and mysterious atmosphere arises spontaneously. Along the surrounding walls, there are antique benches covered with soft cashmere cushions, where people can rest while enjoying the snow scenery. Imagine sitting on such a comfortable bench, holding a cup of steaming coffee in your hand, quietly gazing at the dreamy snow scene in front of you. How pleasant it would be. There is an excellent viewing platform on the second floor of the courtyard. Standing there and gazing into the distance, you can take in the magnificent snow scenery of Mount Lushan. Through the bright windows, you can see the warm interior of the house, with soft carpets, warm fires, and exquisite wood-carved furniture. Everyone moved their luggage in and chose their own rooms. At this time, Li Menjiao was standing in front of the window, staring intently at the brightly lit Guling town outside the window in the night. Under the soft light in the house, her figure looks graceful and beautiful. "How is it? Honey, the accommodation I chose is good, isn't it?" Li Menjiao turned her head and looked at Lin Xuan behind her with affection. "Well, my wife has a good eye." Lin Xuan walked quickly to Li Menjiao with a smile on his face, stretched out his hands, and gently embraced her from behind. He lowered his head slightly and rested his chin lightly on the top of Li Menjiao's head. Li Menjiao turned her head slightly, raised her face to face Lin Xuan, and then quickly kissed him on the cheek. "I've always had a good eye," Li Menjiao said coquettishly, her eyes full of love and happiness. "Otherwise, how would I have found you, my husband?" Lin Xuan was delighted by these words. Just like that, the two of them were intimate with each other for a while. After a long while, Li Menjiao gently pushed Lin Xuan away and said shyly, "Okay, I'm hungry." Lin Xuan let go of his hand, touched Li Menjiao's head lovingly, and replied with a smile, "Then let's go find something to eat." As he spoke, he took Li Menjiao's hand and walked towards the door together. Liu Yuxin, who had been waiting outside, saw them coming out and couldn't help but teasing. "Hey, you two finally came out. If you didn't come out, I would have starved to death." Hearing this, Li Menjiao responded with a smile. "Here we are, let's go and have some delicious food." Then the four of them set out from the snow-covered courtyard and came to the bustling streets of Guling town. Although it is not a holiday, there is still a constant stream of tourists coming to Lushan to enjoy the snow scenery. The bustling and noisy streets are crowded with people. Some are in a hurry, some are leisurely, forming a picture full of vitality and vigor. In this bustling crowd, suddenly two lively and lovely figures passed by, attracting the attention of passers-by. Both women were wearing long, fluffy coats with slim, fitting knitted dresses underneath. The dresses were just knee-length, perfectly showing off their slender legs. A pair of thick flesh-colored stockings wrapped around the legs not only keep you warm, but also add a bit of sexiness and charm. Li Menjiao and Liu Yuxin were like two happy little deer, running and playing lightly on the snow. They squatted down, scooped up handfuls of crystal white snow with both hands, and then playfully threw the snowballs in their hands into the air, letting them fall like snowflakes. Then he turned around and looked at Lin Xuan and Zhou Quan, who were walking slowly behind him, urging them to hurry up. Lin Xuan and Zhou Quan smiled helplessly. "Slow down." Not long after, the group arrived at a local specialty restaurant that was quite famous. Everyone sat together, carefully studying the wide variety of dishes on the menu. After some discussion, we finally decided to order the special Lushan stone chicken and Lushan braised beef brisket with potatoes. After a while, the waiter came over with steaming dishes. Li Menjiao couldn't wait to pick up the chopsticks, gently picked up a piece of chicken and put it into her mouth to taste it carefully. The meat of this rock chicken is extremely tender and melts in your mouth, and its rich aroma blooms on the tip of your tongue. Her eyes lit up, and she quickly picked up another piece of stone chicken, turned around and handed it to Lin Xuan's mouth and said happily, "Husband, try it quickly, it's very delicious." When Lin Xuan was about to open his mouth to take the delicious food, he suddenly saw Zhou Quan and Liu Yuxin sitting next to him looking at them with smiles on their faces. Only then did Li Menjiao realize that there were two other people beside her. She blushed immediately and muttered in a low voice, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm used to treating him like this." As she said that, she quickly put the piece of stone chicken in her hand into the bowl in front of Lin Xuan. "It's okay, we're used to your dog food." Liu Yuxin had a speechless expression on her face. From the moment he agreed to accompany Li Menjiao on a trip to Lushan, he was ready to eat dog food at any time. Chapter 389, There Can't Really Be a Ghost. After dinner, everyone continued to stroll leisurely on the streets of Guling town. Soon, the group arrived at the park in the middle of the street. This place is covered in silver, just like a fairy tale world. The pink, crystal-clear ice and snow and the soft and warm lights complement each other. Standing here, you can have a panoramic view of the beautiful scenery of the entire Guling town. "Honey, please take a photo of you, Xin and I," Li Menjiao said in a soft voice, with a happy smile on her face. "Okay." Lin Xuan took out the camera he carried with him, adjusted the focus, and pointed the lens at the two beauties who had already struck graceful poses and were smiling like flowers. As the shutter button was pressed again and again, Lin Xuan took several photos in succession. Then Li Menjiao and Liu Yuxin walked quickly to Lin Xuan, eager to check the results of the photos they had just taken. "Of course, Lin Xuan, you are a pretty good photographer. It seems like you take a lot of photos of my yayo." Liu Yuxin smiled and joked, while carefully looking at the photos in the camera. Haha, it's just so-so, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Okay, now it's your turn. Go under the street light over there and I'll take a picture of you, Liu Yuxin said, pointing to a street lamp emitting dim light not far away. So Lin Xuan took Li Menjiao's hand and slowly walked towards the street light. Snowflakes were floating in the sky. Li Menjiao snuggled gently in Lin Xuan's arms, her arms tightly wrapped around his waist. Lin Xuan gently hugged Li Menjiao, and they both smiled brightly at the camera. Li Menjiao hugged Lin Xuan tightly, and both of them smiled brightly. Okay, very good. One more. Liu Yuxin held up the camera and kept changing the angles. Do you want a kiss? Suddenly, Liu Yuxin blinked and asked the two people in front of her with a sly smile. No need, there are so many people watching, Li Menjiao said shyly. What are you afraid of? You are already an old couple, hurry up, Liu Yuxin joked. Then Lin Xuan hugged Li Menjiao, lowered his head and gently kissed her fair forehead, and the latter's face turned slightly red. Liu Yuxin quickly pressed the shutter button to capture this romantic moment. Haha, not bad, not bad. Looking at the photos just taken by the camera, Liu Yuxin was full of joy. At this moment, Li Menjiao raised her head, turned her gaze to Liu Yuxin and said with a smile, Xingxin, do you want to take a photo with Zhou Quan as well? After Li Menjiao's reminder, Liu Yuxin finally realized that there was still one person who was not in the camera. So she quickly turned around and happened to meet Zhou Quan's slightly uneasy eyes. Let's take a photo together, Liu Yuxin invited Zhou Quan with a smile. Okay. Zhou Quan was stunned for a moment, then nodded and followed Liu Yuxin awkwardly. The two came to a fence. Why are you so far away from each other like strangers? Come closer, Li Menjiao shouted. At this time, the two of them were standing on both sides, and there was enough space for Li Menjiao in the middle. Then Zhou Quan blushed and leaned towards Liu Yuxin embarrassedly. Seeing Zhou Quan approaching her, the smile on Liu Yuxin's face deepened. She took the initiative to reach out her hand and gently placed it on Zhou Quan's shoulder. The two of them made the "yeh" tilde gesture together. With the crisp sound of the camera shutter being pressed, Zhou Quan and Liu Yuxin's first photo together was perfectly captured. The two people in the photo are standing side by side with smiles on their faces. Behind them is a romantic scene with dim lights and flying snowflakes. Everything is so beautiful and harmonious. In the evening, everyone who was tired of playing outside returned to the courtyard with snow scenery. Liu Yuxin rushed to ask Li Menjiao to sleep with her. Xingxin, you are already so old, and you are still afraid to sleep alone. Li Menjiao, who had just finished bathing, sat elegantly on the edge of the bed with a smile on her face and teased softly. At this moment, Liu Yuxin was concentrating on watching TV series on her tablet. After hearing what Li Menjiao said, she raised her head and responded mischievously. Hey, what's the matter? Are you reluctant to leave your husband? I don't care. Who told you to call me here? You have to accompany me. Li Menjiao laughed helplessly and cursed, Coward. As he said that, he climbed onto the bed, leaned next to Liu Yuxin and watched the show with her. After a long while, Liu Yuxin suddenly turned around and asked, Yiao, aren't you sleepy? Li Menjiao shook her head slightly and replied with a smile, Not sleepy yet. Oh. Then they continued watching the show. Not long after, Liu Yuxin began to yawn. She rubbed her eyes and said, I'm a little sleepy. You continue reading. I'm going to sleep first. After saying that, she stuffed the tablet into Li Menjiao's hands, then quickly fell down and buried her head in the pillow. Li Menjiao gently closed the tablet computer, then reached out to turn off the lights in the room, and the entire room was instantly shrouded in darkness. She slowly moved her body and lay down next to Liu Yuxin, but Li Menjiao did not fall asleep. She just lay there quietly, waiting quietly until Liu Yuxin fell asleep completely. Half an hour later, Li Menjiao heard Liu Yuxin's steady and even breathing. She turned her head slightly and called softly in Liu Yuxin's direction, Xingxin. Liu Yuxin seemed to be sleeping very soundly and had no reaction at all. Seeing this, Li Menjiao quietly got out of bed and tiptoed out of the room. At the same time, the room where Lin Xuan was also pitch black. He lay alone in bed, without his wife to hug him, tossing and turning and unable to fall asleep. In desperation, Lin Xuan simply picked up his phone, unlocked the screen and started watching short videos aimlessly. My fingers kept sliding across the screen, and various videos flashed before my eyes. However, for some reason, the system inexplicably recommended many horror short videos to him. Lin Xuan has been afraid of ghosts since he was a child, but the strong curiosity deep in his heart still drove him to click on one of the videos. Just take a quick look, it shouldn't be anything serious. A few minutes later, oh my God, Lin Xuan threw his phone aside and quickly huddled into the bed. There was a scene just now that scared him. At this moment, Lin Xuan was in a trance and seemed to hear a noise coming from the door of his room. The noise sounded like something was slowly pushing the door. Who is it? There really can't be a ghost. Thinking of this, his heartbeat instantly accelerated, and all kinds of horrific scenes and images emerged involuntarily in his mind. As the footsteps got closer and closer, Lin Xuan hid in the quilt and shivered, not daring to breathe. At this time, Li Menjiao stood quietly beside the bed, staring at the slightly trembling quilt, her heart full of doubts and curiosity. What's going on? What is my husband doing in there? Chapter 390. Don't be afraid, my husband. I am here. Li Menjiao gently stretched out her hand and slowly lifted a corner of the quilt. Lin Xuan was seen curled up into a ball, muttering to himself, "Can't see me, can't see me." Seeing this scene, Li Menjiao was stunned at first, and then she couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha, what are you doing, husband? Wife?" When Lin Xuan heard the familiar voice, he reached out his hand in panic and fumbled for the switch of the bedside lamp. With a slight click, soft light filled the entire room. At this moment, Li Menjiao was standing there with a smile on her face. Her beautiful eyes were curved into crescent shapes, and the corners of her mouth were raised almost to her ears. "Honey, stop laughing," Lin Xuan said with an embarrassed look on his face, and at the same time opened his arms and pulled Li Menjiao into his arms. The two of them hugged each other and lay back in the warm and comfortable big bed. "Why, you won't let me laugh anymore? Cowardly husband, why are you as afraid of ghosts as Xingxin?" Li Menjiao said this coquettishly, while pressing her body closer to Lin Xuan, feeling his body temperature. "Why are you here, my wife? Can Yu Zin let you come over?" Lin Xuan asked, gently stroking Li Menjiao's soft, long hair. "I waited until she fell asleep and then came here quietly. Did my husband watch a horror movie?" Li Menjiao kissed Lin Xuan's cheek and said with a smile. "Yeah, a little scared." Lin Xuan shrank back into Li Menjiao's arms like a child. "Don't be afraid, hubby. I'm here for you." Li Menjiao gently stroked Lin Xuan's hair with her hands and comforted him in a soft voice. That look was even more patient and meticulous than coaxing a child. No one could have imagined that Lin Xuan, who is usually mature, steady, tall, and handsome, would cling to Li Menjiao like a little baby at this moment. Soon they turned off the lights and fell into a sweet dream together. Time passes quietly, and when the morning light shines into the room through the gaps in the curtains, a new day has arrived. Lin Xuan slowly woke up from his sleep. He opened his eyes lazily, and his sight was first attracted by the picturesque and charming snow scene outside the window. He subconsciously turned his gaze to the bedside table and immediately saw an exquisite box placed there. Lin Xuan slowly sat up, leaned his back gently against the soft headboard, then reached out and took the box in front of him. He gently untied the delicate bow on the lid of the box, and as the lid opened, the first thing that came into view was a small piece of paper. Picking up the note, the beautiful handwriting on it was clearly visible. "Happy birthday to my lovely and handsome husband Tilda." These brief words of blessing made him feel warm in his heart. Then Lin Xuan shifted his attention to the inside of the box. There were many photos of the two of them neatly arranged inside. There were moments of laughter together, cozy moments of cuddling, and beautiful memories of traveling together. The corners of Lin Xuan's mouth rose unconsciously, forming a happy smile. He gently flipped through the photos and suddenly found an even more exquisite box hidden among them. Lin Xuan couldn't wait to open it. In an instant, a dazzling light burst out from the box, dazzling. Inside the box was the Star Walker pendant that Li Menjiao had carefully selected. Lin Xuan stared at the extremely luxurious pendant in front of him and was stunned for a moment. At this moment, Li Menjiao, who was originally lying quietly on the bed, suddenly asked softly, "Husband, do you like it?" She blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at Lin Xuan with anticipation. Lin Xuan came back to his senses, his face filled with joy, and he nodded and replied quickly, "I like it very much, thank you, my wife." After saying that, he gently put the Star Walker pendant around his neck. At this moment, the sunlight happened to shine on Lin Xuan, making the pendant look even more dazzling and making him look more handsome. Li Menjiao sat up, placed her legs on Lin Xuan's body, touched the dazzling pendant, and smiled. "My husband looks even more handsome when he wears it. How much did you buy it for?" Lin Xuan asked with a smile. "This number." Li Menjiao slowly stretched out a fair and delicate little hand and raised a slender index finger. 1 million, Lin Xuan said with a smile. Li Menjiao nodded gently and responded, "Well, I was thinking of using the money I earned from working these past few months to buy one for my husband. But when I calculated it, I only had 50,000 yuan, and there were too few options, so I just used a little bit of the money my husband gave me before. Li Menjiao gently lay on Lin Xuan's body and said softly, "Ha ha ha, your husband's money is your money. Spend it as you like." Lin Xuan pinched Li Menjiao's cute pink cheek lovingly and then gently kissed it. Li Menjiao smiled happily and said coquettishly, "Okay, let's get up and go out to play." At this moment, Lin Xuan suddenly said mysteriously, "Wait a minute, your husband also has a gift for you." "My husband has a gift?" Li Menjiao asked in surprise. Then Lin Xuan quickly got out of bed, walked to the suitcase beside him, squatted down, and began to search. Not long after, he found an exquisite dark blue velvet box. "Open it and take a look." Lin Xuan handed it to Li Menjiao and said with a smile. Li Menjiao took the box, opened it gently, and her eyes immediately lit up. Inside is a complete set of exquisite jewelry. First of all, the necklace part, the main body of which is made of an extremely rare tanzanite, presenting a deep and charming blue. Tanzanite is carefully carved into a snowflake shape, and every corner reflects brilliant light. The snowflakes are inlaid with top-grade white diamonds, like falling ice crystals, shining with a cold light. The bracelet is made up of 8 evenly sized icy jade beads. The beads are round and transparent, exuding a cool luster. Each bead is separated by a small snowflake-shaped spacer made of 18K white gold, inlaid with aquamarine, adding to the dreamy feel of the bracelet. The bracelet's clasp is also designed in the shape of an exquisite ice flower, highlighting its coolness and elegance. Finally, there are the earrings, which feature a blue topaz as the main stone in a teardrop shape. The clear blue is like the morning frost in winter. The blue topaz is surrounded by an 18K white gold snowflake-shaped frame and inlaid with deep aquamarine, creating a tranquil and cool atmosphere. After Li Menjiao carefully admired it, she lowered her eyes slightly and gently closed the lid. "What's wrong? Your wife doesn't like it?" Lin Xuan asked in confusion when he saw this. Chapter 391. Married girlfriend spilt water. Li Menjiao quickly shook her head and said coquettishly, "No, my husband always gives me such precious jewelry. I don't know how to repay you." As she spoke, she stretched out her arms and gently hugged Lin Xuan's neck, hanging her whole body on him like a koala. Lin Xuan felt his wife's intimate behavior. His eyes were full of pampering, and he responded gently, "Ha ha ha, as long as my wife is mine, that's enough. This is the best reward for me." At this moment, Li Menjiao suddenly raised her head and said brightly, "But I have also been prepared." "Huh, what are the preparations?" Lin Xuan asked curiously. Li Menjiao smiled mysteriously, then slowly leaned close to Lin Xuan's ear. Her warm breath brushed across Lin Xuan's cheek like a breeze, bringing a slight itch. "I bought a brand new set of lace pajamas." Lin Xuan instantly lost his composure after hearing this. After they got up and washed up, Li Menjiao gently opened the door and walked out first. When she stepped into the living room, she saw Liu Yuxin standing there with a serious face, staring at her straight, as if she could see through her. "Yiaya, what happened? I woke up early this morning and you were gone." Li Menjiao's heart skipped a beat, but she still pretended to be calm and replied, "I got up earlier than you. Humph, don't think I don't know. You must have run back to Lin Xuan's room while I was sleeping." Forget it, forget it. A best friend who's married is like water spilled," Liu Yuxin said helplessly. "By the way, Xingxin, are you hungry too? Why don't we get ready and have breakfast?" Li Menjiao quickly changed the subject. When she heard the word breakfast, Liu Yuxin's attention was successfully attracted. She touched her rumbling stomach, nodded, and said, "I'm a little hungry. Okay, let's go, Tilda." Suddenly, Liu Yuxin inadvertently caught a glimpse of the extremely luxurious set of ice and snow jewelry worn by Li Menjiao. The jewelry sparkled brightly under the winter sun, making Li Menjiao look as cool and elegant as the Snow Queen. "Yiao, have you changed your jewelry again?" Liu Yuxin couldn't help but reach out and gently stroke the necklace on Li Menjiao's neck, the bracelet on her wrist, and her delicate earlobes. "Yes, my husband gave it to me." Li Menjiao smiled brightly. "Of course, Yiao, these jewelries look so beautiful on you as if they were tailor-made for you," Liu Yuxin praised sincerely. At this time, Lin Xuan and Zhou Quan slowly walked out of their respective rooms almost at the same time. "Let's go have breakfast," Lin Xuan said with a smile. So a group of people walked out of the room together, talking and laughing, and walked out of the snow-capped courtyard. In the morning at Lushan, the snow scene is as charming as a dream. The entire mountain and the town at the foot of the mountain are covered with thick white snow. It is a silver-clad, pure white, simply an intoxicating ice and snow kingdom. The branches of the trees on both sides of the street are covered with crystal-clear rime, some like silver bars, some like jade branches, sparkling brightly under the sunlight, which is beautiful beyond words. Li Menjiao and Liu Yuxin were still as excited as little kids. They ran at the front of the team, dancing and having fun. Lin Xuan and Zhou Quan followed closely behind. As they walked, Zhou Quan suddenly noticed that there was a mysterious black diamond pendant hanging on the inside of Lin Xuan's coat. The black diamond exudes a deep luster, like a bright star in the night sky, and is particularly eye-catching. Zhou Quan asked curiously, Brother Xuan, when did you start liking to wear pendants? They look pretty cool. Yes, my wife gave it to me. Lin Xuan smiled proudly. After saying this, he couldn't help but touch the pendant. Zhou Quan inexplicably ate some dog food again. Not long after, the group arrived in front of a quaint little shop. Although this store is not big, it is full of rich cultural atmosphere. When you open the door, a faint scent of tea and cakes wafts into your nose. There are several wooden tables and chairs in the room, and some exquisite calligraphy and paintings are hung on the walls. Hello, boss. What kind of breakfast do you have here? Li Menjiao asked the boss with anticipation. The boss replied enthusiastically. Here we have the famous Lushan tea cake and the fragrant Lushan cloud tea, both of which are our famous local brands. Come in and have a seat. Honey, let's go to this store. Li Menjiao turned around and shouted to Lin Xuan, who was walking not far away. Then everyone walked into the shop, found an empty seat and sat together. Soon the golden tea cakes and steaming cloud tea were served. Li Menjiao gently picked up a piece of tea cake and put it into her mouth. With a crunch, the sweet taste spreads on the tip of the tongue. This sweetness is not so strong that it makes people feel sick, but just right. At the same time, the taste is also unique. The skin is extremely crispy, and when you bite it, you can clearly feel the layers of wonderful texture. Then she picked up a cup of steaming cloud tea and took a sip. In an instant, a fresh and pleasant breath goes down the throat and straight into the heart, accompanied by a faint sweet taste, making people feel relaxed and happy. In this way, Li Menjiao tasted the tea cakes and cloud tea alternately, enjoying the unique flavor brought by the fusion of these two delicacies. This tea cake and tea are a perfect match. Lin Xuan, who was sitting nearby, saw Li Menjiao eating with such relish that there were even some tea cake residues on the corners of her mouth. He couldn't help but smile slightly, then naturally reached out to take a tissue and gently wiped the corners of Li Menjiao's mouth. Liu Yuxin and Zhou Quan, who were watching the two's intimate behavior, couldn't stand it. After breakfast, everyone officially started their trip to Mount Lushan. They walked along the winding mountain road and arrived at Hanpaku after a while. The scene before them made them exclaim in amazement. The boundless Poyang Lake sparkled in the morning light, and the mountains in the distance were rolling, reflecting the lake. Then comes the inevitable photo taking. Hurry, hurry, let's take some photos, Liu Yuxin shouted happily. Chapter 392, I will take care of you forever. If you don't take photos when traveling, wouldn't it be a waste of time? This is what most girls really think. However, most boys don't seem to like taking photos. They feel that just having witnessed such beautiful scenery with their own eyes is enough to prove that they have been there. Although there are different opinions, girls always take the initiative in this regard. After appreciating the beautiful scenery of Hanpaku and taking beautiful photos, the four of them headed towards Lulin Lake in a happy mood. When they finally arrived at Lulin Lake, the warm and soft sunlight of winter falls gently on the ice surface like a golden veil. After being refracted by the ice layer, it emits a dazzling light that is dazzling. The surrounding mountains are covered with snow, like giants wearing white cloaks. Lin Xuan bent down with great interest, picked up a stone of appropriate size, and then casually threw it into the lake. The stone slid rapidly on the mirror-smooth ice surface, leaving behind a trail of fine ice chips that sparkled silver in the sunlight. He couldn't help but think of his childhood at home when he always liked to take small stones and happily throw them into the calm water, watching the stones splash beautiful circles of water. But now that we are on this frozen lake, the stones can only slide on the ice. Hey Tilda, followed by a crisp and sweet voice. Lin Xuan saw another small stone sliding forward rapidly along the ice, sliding even farther than he had just done. He turned around and found that Li Menjiao was still in the posture of throwing stones, leaning forward slightly with her right hand raised high. Then she put her hands on her hips, raised her head proudly, and a smug smile spread across her face. Look, my husband, I'm awesome. Awesome, my wife is really amazing, Lin Xuan replied with a smile. Then he opened his arms and gently embraced the lovely woman in front of him. Husband, why do you always give in to me in everything? You will spoil me. Li Menjiao leaned against Lin Xuan's body, whispering softly. Although there was a hint of anger in the words, there was more sweetness and happiness. Lin Xuan lowered his head, gently rubbed Li Menjiao's pink cheek with the tip of his nose, and said affectionately, If your husband doesn't give in to you, who else can give in to him? After saying that, he kissed Li Menjiao on her smooth forehead. The two were so close that the hot air from their mouths intertwined with each other, gently hitting each other's faces, bringing an intoxicating warm feeling. Hey, how long are you two going to keep hugging each other? We should leave for the next attraction. In the distance, Liu Yuxin and Zhou Quan were waving at them. Hearing the call, Lin Xuan smiled and said to Li Menjiao, "Let's catch up." Li Menjiao nodded obediently and responded, "Yeah." Then the two of them held hands and continued walking briskly on the pure white snow, leaving behind a series of deep and shallow footprints. After visiting the scenic spots around Lushan Mountain in the morning, we were tired and went back to our rooms to rest at noon. It was afternoon when Li Menjiao slowly woke up in Lin Xuan's warm embrace. She gently turned her delicate body, then stared quietly into the distance, as if she was lost in some kind of contemplation. The soft afterglow of the setting sun fell on her beautiful face like a veil. After a while, a low voice came from behind. "Wife, what are you thinking about?" Lin Xuan gently embraced Li Menjiao from behind,